Gu Qingning gazes at the ceremonial red fabric, her expression clouded with a heavy sense of betrayal. Her world shatters when her fiancé, Lu Hangji, coldly declares his intention to marry another woman. The young woman stares back in stunned silence, unable to process the cruelty of his words. Hangji towers over her, ruthlessly proposing that she settle for the lowly status of a concubine instead. Qingning maintains her composure, reminding him that the woman he desires is legally his own sister-in-law. He scoffs and takes a seat, dismissing the sacred bond, because his brother died before the wedding could take place. Her eyes burn with intensity as she points out the disrespect of replacing his brother so soon after his passing. The atmosphere turns hostile as he demands her immediate compliance with this new arrangement. Hangji loses his temper completely, shouting that she is being heartless toward her own cousin. In a fit of rage, he slams a teacup into the floor, leaving the porcelain in shattered pieces at her feet. Shen Ruoying suddenly appears in the doorway, putting on a performance of tragic self-sacrifice. She rushes to Hangji's side, tearfully claiming that her cursed fate is the cause of all this conflict. Turning to Qingning, she pleads for forgiveness while carefully maintaining her victimized persona. Ruoying hides behind a silk handkerchief, sobbing as if her heart is truly breaking. Hangji points an accusing finger at Qingning, branding her an ungrateful orphan who should be thankful for anything. Internally, Qingning remains unmoved, reflecting that she never truly sought a place in this duplicitous household. Her mind drifts back to her true origins as Lin Tang, the granddaughter of a prestigious imperial physician. She remembers the long journey home under the cover of night, guided only by her faithful nanny. That peace was destroyed when she returned to find the Lin residence soaked in the blood of her kin. As the sole survivor of the massacre, the young girl's eyes were filled with an unspeakable horror. She can still see the crimson stains dripping from the garden leaves on that fateful night. Nanny Liao pulled her into the shadows, desperately whispering for her to stay silent to avoid the killers. To protect her life, the nanny forced her to abandon her name and adopt the identity of Gu Qingning. From that moment on, she clenched her fist and swore to bring the murderers of her family to justice. For 10 long years, she lived under a false name, secretly gathering clues behind the gates of the Guangping residence. The chance for revenge finally arrived when a matchmaker proposed a marriage into the powerful duke's family. She accepted the offer with a polite smile, seeing the union as a strategic move to further her investigation. Returning to the present, she stands up with newfound resolve, refusing to let Hangji dictate her future. He snaps back, insisting that his betrayal is a noble act meant only to protect Ruoying from public scorn. Ruoying continues her act, lamenting the misfortune of being a widow before she was even a wife. She makes a dramatic show of leaving, threatening to retreat into a life of isolation as a nun. Hangji delivers a final ultimatum, giving Qingning the choice between a life of servitude or a broken engagement. He chases after his lover into the pouring rain, leaving Qingning alone with her thoughts. Qingning watches from the window, her gaze sharp as she observes the pair's hollow theatrics. Ruoying collapses into his arms, successfully manipulating his emotions through her feigned distress. A cold, calculating look flashes in Ruoying's eyes, revealing her true ambition to secure the title of the young duke's wife. Qingning's loyal mate approaches, worried that the cousin might actually follow through on her threat. Qingning knows better, recognizing that Ruoying's innocent facade hides a dangerous and opportunistic mind. She shuts the window firmly, closing the door on the drama unfolding in the courtyard. Despite the chaos, she instructs her maid to continue preparing her dowry with precision. The maid carries a heavy chest into the room, ensuring that Qingning's vital medical tools are packed. Qingning realizes that to achieve her goals, she must find a way to outmaneuver Ruoying's schemes. The following morning, the maid rushes in with news that the family matriarch has summoned her to the main hall. Qingning steps through the grand entrance of Xian Hall, prepared for the confrontation ahead. She performs a formal greeting for the elders, her posture perfect and her expression unreadable. Madame Feng sips her tea with a look of disdain, convinced that an orphan is no match for her son's status. The older woman speaks smoothly, pressuring Qingning to accept the concubine role for the sake of family harmony. The old madam watches the interaction with a stoic and watchful eye from her seat of power. Qingning remains silent, fully aware that Ruoying would use her position as the main wife to torment her. She narrows her eyes, realizing that being trapped as a concubine would strip away the freedom she needs for her mission. A tense silence fills the room as the elders wait for her to submit to their demands. The Marchioness offers a manipulative smile, reminding her of the years they spent raising her. Qingning calmly agrees that the two cousins should indeed support each other within the same household. The elders let out a sigh of relief, praising her for being a sensible and obedient daughter. However, Qingning's expression shifts as she prepares to deliver a shocking counter-proposal. The women in the room gasp in pure disbelief as her words echo through the hall. With a confident smile, Qingning declares her intention to marry the late heir, Lu Jingyu, as his legitimate wife. Madame Feng stares in absolute disbelief, unable to process the girl's sudden and bizarre request. She reminds Qingning that at 16, she is far too young to throw her life away on a permanent widowhood. Gu Qingning's inner monologue reveals the trap, If Hangzhi marries her now, his reputation will be destroyed by the scandal of betraying his late brother. She stands her ground, arguing that this sacrifice is the only way to preserve the honor of the entire Lu household. Madame Feng's eyes widen as she realizes the logic, deciding she must report this development to the Duke immediately. The official approval eventually arrives, and the servants begin preparing the bride for her transition into the Duke's estate. Her maid is visibly frustrated that the wedding has been scheduled for the same day as the eldest lady's, seeing it as a blatant insult. She looks at her mistress with deep concern, asking if she truly intends to spend the rest of her life as a widow. King Ning calmly lights a stick of incense, knowing that widowhood offers more freedom than being a concubine under a calculating mistress. Her hands remain steady as she explains the historical right of a widow to manage her late husband's estate. She places the offering before the Lin family tablet, her true motivations hidden behind a mask of duty. With a silent prayer, she vows to her parents that she will use this position to hunt down those responsible for their massacre. The wedding day arrives, and the streets are filled with the sight of red sedan chairs carrying the brides toward their destinies. Bystanders watch the procession, marveling at the supposed loyalty of a woman willing to marry a dead war hero. Among the crowd, a mysterious man wearing an ornate mask watches the festivities with a piercing gaze. The onlookers gossip about the scandalous marriage switch, speculating on the secret involvement of the younger brother. The masked observer remains silent, his expression unreadable behind the golden filigree. He turns away from the spectacle, signaling his companion that it is time for them to make their move. They vanish into the bustling crowd, leaving the loud celebrations behind. Inside the main hall, the ritual begins as the bride bows before the assembled elders of the Lu family. King Ning completes the ceremony by bowing to the memorial tablet of her late husband, Lu Jingyu. With the rites concluded, she is formally escorted through the courtyards to her assigned bridal chamber. The sign for the Songtao Pavilion hangs quietly in the night, marking her new, isolated home. King Ning sits alone on the edge of the bed, the red decorations of the room feeling more like a cage than a celebration. Her maid nervously comments on the eerie silence of the pavilion, offering to stay the night for company. She even puts on a brave face, jokingly promising to punch any ghosts that might dare to appear. King Ning gives a soft smile but insists the maid go rest with the other servants instead. The girl bows and exits, leaving her mistress to the quiet solitude of the chamber. Suddenly, the wick of the candle crackles, sending a bright spark flying into the air. King Ning watches the flame, recalling the old saying that a crackling lantern signals an approaching joy. She wonders if this omen means she is finally close to uncovering her family's killers. To mark the occasion, she lifts a small cup and takes a deliberate sip of the wedding wine. She pours a second cup, letting the warmth of the alcohol steady her nerves. However, her tolerance is lower than expected, and she quickly collapses onto the table in a drunken stupor. A heavy boot steps over the threshold, moving silently across the wooden floor. The masked man from the crowd stands over the table, surprised to find his bride already unconscious. He leans in closer, examining the face of the woman who chose to marry his memory. He reaches out a gloved hand, carefully checking to ensure she is merely asleep. Maintaining a strictly professional focus, he lifts her from the chair to move her toward the bed. He sets her down gently among the silk pillows, ensuring she is comfortable. King Ning mumbles in her sleep, her face flushed from the potency of the wine. She shifts restlessly, clearly feeling the heat of the alcohol as she sleeps. The man quickly averts his eyes, showing a high level of respect for her privacy. He turns his back completely, focusing on the room's decor to give her space while she settles. Clearing his throat to regain his composure, he walks back toward the center of the room. He picks up the discarded cup and drains the remaining wine in a single, fluid motion. His ears pick up the sound of footsteps outside, and he instantly tenses, looking toward the door. Madame Chen enters the room and demands to know the identity of the intruder standing in the pavilion. Without a word, the man reaches up and slowly peels the mask away from his face. The light reveals the unmistakable features of Lu Jinyu, the young lord thought to be dead. Overcome with emotion, the wet nurse rushes forward to embrace him, crying out in relief that he is alive. Jinyu's expression darkens as he asks for an explanation regarding the bizarre wedding switch taking place in his name. Madame Chen explains the betrayal of Shen Ruoying and how the innocent Miss Gu was used as a pawn. He places a hand on her shoulder, instructing her to keep his return a complete secret for the time being. He adjusts his sleeve, commanding that management of the pavilion's assets be handed over to his new wife. He gazes at the sleeping King Ning one last time, promising that she will find safety under his protection. King Ning's eyes flutter open as she wakes from a deep, unexpected slumber. She sits upright in bed, her mind racing as she wonders how she moved from the table to the mattress overnight. Her maid notices her wary expression, prompting King Ning to blame the suffocating scent of the wedding candles for her discomfort. When the maid offers to fetch medicine, King Ning simply sighs and tells her to leave the irritation be. She stands by the table, her gaze lingering on the remnants of the previous night's ceremony. Staring at the empty wine cups, she questions if she truly drank enough to black out so completely. completely. The morning preparations begin in earnest as her maid meticulously arranges her hair and attire for the day's formal duties. Stepping into the main hall, Qingning performs her first official task by offering tea to the Duke of Qin. Lu Changhui accepts the cup with a subtle nod, acknowledging her new status within the household. The Duchess maintains a polite facade, welcoming Qingning into the family while promising her support at the Songtao Pavilion. The Duke sips his tea slowly, his sharp eyes fixed on the path ahead. The atmosphere shifts as Lu Hangji enters, protectively guiding a seemingly fragile Ruoying into the room. The Duke's expression hardens into a stern mask as he observes the late arrivals. Without wasting a moment, he commands the two of them to perform their own tea service. Qingning watches the spectacle with a cold, detached gaze, her mind already moving 2 steps ahead. The Duke rises from his seat, abruptly announcing that he is heading to his private study. As he walks away, Qingning's focus intensifies on the study door, knowing the secrets of her family's past are locked within. Ruoying breaks the silence, approaching with a sugary sweet smile to ask how Qingning spent her first night as a widow. She continues her act of feigned sympathy, suggesting that sleeping in a strange bed must be terrifyingly lonely. Hangji stands by, his face twisted in a scowl as he waits for a reaction that doesn't come. Internally, he seethes with hatred, unable to fathom why Qingning chose widowhood over his own generous offer. Ruoying clings to his arm, subtly pointing out Qingning's tired eyes to further her public humiliation. Qingning closes her eyes for a brief moment, letting the insults slide off her like water. She suddenly shifts the dynamic, apologizing for not having gifts ready for her younger brother and sister-in-law's name-changing ceremony. Hangji is forced to play along with the house customs, coughing awkwardly as the social trap snaps shut. The Duchess looks on, her composed exterior hiding the growing tension in the room. Gritting their teeth, Hangji and Ruoying are forced to bow low and formally address Qingning as their superior. Qingning offers a graceful hand, promising to deliver their gifts once she has settled into her new role. Behind her submissive mask, Ruoying's eyes burn with a murderous resentment. The Duchess dismisses the tension by instructing the couple to focus on producing a male heir for the Lu family. In her mind, the Duchess is already plotting to have Hangji's future son inherit the entire family fortune. Qingning absorbs the information, her face a mask of perfect, ladylike composure. She drops a verbal bombshell, suggesting that any surplus children they have could simply be passed to her household. With her point made, she offers a polite farewell and turns to leave the stifling room. Ruoying quickly pursues her, unwilling to let the interaction end on Qingning's terms. She tries to warn Qingning about Aunt Chen's legendary temper, hoping to sow seeds of fear and dependency. Qingning reflects on the high status Aunt Chen holds, realizing she is the key to controlling the estate. She firmly rebuffs Ruoying's offer to intervene, stating she will manage her own pavilion without outside help. Walking through the gardens, Qingning resolves to win Aunt Chen's loyalty through merit rather than manipulation. She continues her stroll, leaving a frustrated Ruoying standing in her wake. Ruoying's arrogance flares as she dreams of the day Hangji takes the title and casts Qingning aside. The sunlight catches the ornate roof of the Songtao Pavilion as the power dynamic begins to shift. Aunt Chen arrives at the pavilion, her presence commanding immediate respect from everyone present. Qingning greets the wet nurse with genuine humility, inviting her to discuss the management of the residence. Sitting down, Qingning asks for a detailed briefing on the current state of affairs in Songtao. Aunt Chen watches her closely, noting the young widow's apparent dedication to the memory of the first young lord. Much to Qingning's surprise, Aunt Chen smiles warmly and reveals she has already prepared the master keys and account books. She claps her hands sharply, signaling the start of a massive delivery. A line of strong servants begins hauling heavy wooden crates into the room. They drop the chests with a heavy thud, revealing the sheer scale of the assets under her control. Qingning is stunned, wondering why the famously difficult Aunt Chen is surrendering the keys so easily. When she tries to hesitate, Aunt Chen bows, insisting that the mistress of the house must hold all the power. Aunt Chen leads her staff out of the room, leaving the new mistress to her inheritance. The room falls silent, leaving Qingning surrounded by more wealth than she ever anticipated. Her maid gasps in shock, realizing that deceased young lord was far wealthier than the rest of the family combined. Qingning's eyes sharpen as she realizes this wealth is her most powerful weapon in the upcoming struggle. Granny Liu questions the plan to adopt from the secondary branch, prompting a calculated response from her mistress. Qingning runs her fingers over the cold metal of the keys, her mind weaving a new web of strategy. She decides to dive into the account books immediately, determined to secure her position before her enemies can react. The news of the asset transfer hits the Duchess like a physical blow, fueling her desperation to reclaim the hoard. Qingning meets the challenge head-on, her steady gaze confirming that she is now the one in control. The Duchess's face contorts with a primal rage as she realizes she has been completely outmaneuvered by the orphan girl. Qingning stands tall before the Duchess, announcing her firm intention to personally inspect the young duke's businesses to root out any dishonest stewards. Madame Feng feigns motherly concern, advising her to bring guards for safety while secretly seething that such vast wealth has fallen into Qingning's hands. Maintaining her perfect facade, Qingning bows respectfully and bids the Duchess a formal farewell. As she turns to leave, she inwardly scoffs at Madame Feng's kind mother act, fully prepared to play along with the charade for now. Her path through the courtyard is suddenly blocked by a lingering Shen Ruoying. Ruoying greets her with a suspicious smile, prying into where she might be heading so early. Claiming a sudden nostalgia for their childhood outings, Roying insists on tagging along for the day. Kingning gracefully pulls her arm back, declining the offer by pointing out that the long journey would be far too delicate for Roying to handle. Without waiting for a rebuttal, she calls for Banksia and continues toward the gates. Left behind in a fit of silent rage, Roying glares at her back, convinced that all of the young duke's industries will eventually belong to her once Hangzhi inherits the title. As they walk through the lush garden, Banksia whispers nervously about the Duchess's terrifying expression and Roying's strange behavior. Kingning remains calm, deducing that the sudden transfer of the estate books has clearly rattled the other women of the house. She tells her maid that she has no intention of being meek anymore, regardless of how much jealousy it stirs. Her mind is set on a higher goal, gaining enough authority to finally uncover the truth behind the Lin family massacre. The scene shifts to the heart of the northern city, where the streets are alive with commerce and crowds. Their carriage rolls to a stop before a prominent building where a group of formal attendants is already waiting. A refined man steps forward, bowing deeply as he introduces himself as the head steward, Su Ziyuan. Kingning asks him to rise, humbly requesting his assistance as she familiarizes herself with the vast business network. She studies him closely, knowing Su Ziyuan was the young duke's most trusted confidant and a man of exceptional capability. Su Ziyuan professionally leads the way into the headquarters, inviting the new madam to follow him inside. He explains that he has already summoned the accountants and stewards from all the neighboring streets for her review. Kingning reaches out, pushing open the heavy doors to the meeting hall with a steady hand. Inside, the room is filled with subordinates who bow in unison to offer their formal greetings. With a graceful wave of her hand, she invites them to set aside the formalities and take their seats. She addresses the room with poise, acknowledging their hard work in maintaining the shops during the months since the young duke's passing. Without wasting a moment, she pulls the first ledger toward her and begins a meticulous review of the accounts. Several older stewards watch her with hidden contempt, certain that a young girl couldn't possibly understand the complexities of trade. Her eyes suddenly fix on a specific entry, and she calls out for Steward Liu with a sharp, commanding tone. She confronts the man directly about a massive, unrecorded expense in his pawnshop's January books, catching him completely off guard. When he tries to blame it on unrecorded holiday gifts, she shuts him down, warning that such sloppiness will lead to the total collapse of their accounts. Su Ziyuan watches from the side, stunned by her incredible speed and accuracy in spotting the error. He realizes that her competence is undeniable, and he begins to understand why the young duke was so fond of her. Hidden in the shadows of the upper floor, the secretly alive Lu Jingyu watches her performance with a look of immense pride. His companion remarks on how remarkable and composed she is, noting she is nothing like a typical girl from a humble background. Jingyu looks on with a soft, steady gaze, silently confirming that his wife is indeed one of a kind. An hour later, the business meeting concludes, and Su Ziyuan prepares to lead Kingning to a nearby banquet hall. As they walk, Kingning inquires about finding a suitable location to open a medical clinic dedicated specifically to treating women. Su Ziyuan listens intently, promising to find a few ideal locations for her new venture. Their conversation is rudely interrupted by Lu Hangzhi, who storms toward them, demanding to know why she is mingling with men in public. He ignores the city's open-minded customs, insisting that among the nobility, such behavior is a disgraceful stain. Hangzhi raises his voice, accusing her of single-handedly ruining the family's reputation with her brazen lack of modesty. The surrounding crowd begins to murmur, influenced by his traditionalist rant about a woman's proper place being at home. From his vantage point, Jingyu watches his brother's interference with growing annoyance, comparing Hangzhi to a persistent, haunting ghost. Hidden away in the shadows, Lu Jingyu watches the scene unfold from a distance with a watchful eye. He remains silent, his intense gaze fixed on the woman proving her worth in the streets below. In the middle of the shop, Hangzhi creates a scene, demanding that Kingning return to the inner household immediately. Kingning doesn't flinch, coldly reminding him that he owes her the respect of her new title as his sister-in-law. Hangzhi tries to mask his arrogance as concern, claiming a weak woman like her is bound to be cheated in business. Steward Su steps forward with a defiant gesture, making it clear that no one would dare deceive the master's wife under his watch. Bystanders begin to whisper, mocking Hangzhi for tarnishing his own family's reputation through his past actions. Unable to win the argument, Hangzhi explodes in frustration, washing his hands of the entire situation. Kingning delivers the final blow, revealing she already has official permission, and questioning why he cares if her husband doesn't. As he storms away, Hangzhi's ego twists the rejection into a delusional belief that she's simply bitter about their past engagement. He retreats in a huff, leaving the marketplace behind while Kingning watches him go. She sighs in annoyance, lamenting the bad luck of running into such a nuisance on a productive day. With the distraction handled, she leads her entourage out of the shop with the grace of a true leader. Back at the window, the subordinate asks if they should continue their secret surveillance of the madam. Jingyu closes the shutters with a smirk, confident that his brother is no match for his clever wife. The scene shifts to the Duchess's main hall, where the air is thick with tension. Hangji bursts into the room, complaining loudly about the impropriety of King Ning's public business dealings. The Duchess snaps at him, revealing her own fury that the Duke himself handed over the management rights. The news hits Hangji like a physical blow, leaving him stunned and speechless. Sensing their grip on power slipping, the Duchess begins to panic about the future of the estate. She grabs her son's hands, pleading with him to produce a legitimate heir with Ruoying to secure their inheritance. Hangji looks away, offering a weary promise to do as he's told for the sake of the title. He makes a swift exit, leaving his mother to stew in her own bitterness. Left alone, the Duchess seethes with hatred, viewing King Ning as a permanent stain on her plans. Her maid interrupts her thoughts, reminding her of the traditional post-wedding visit to the bride's families. The Duchess initially scoffs, seeing no reason to honor a widow with homecoming gifts. She pauses as a realization hits her, knowing that a lack of gifts would make her look like a cruel mother-in-law to the public. She settles into her seat with a cold plan, deciding to send King Ning away with nothing but scraps while favoring Ruoying. A malicious grin spreads across her face as she imagines King Ning being humiliated by her own family for the slight. Later, the maid delivers a few small, pathetic boxes to King Ning's quarters as the official gifts. Aunt Chen looks at the meager offering in disbelief, insulted by such a blatant display of disrespect. The maid offers a dismissive farewell, clearly following her mistress' orders to be cold and indifferent. Aunt Chen is ready to go to war, demanding an immediate confrontation with the Duchess over the insult. King Ning reaches out, gently but firmly stopping her aunt from making a scene. She looks at the pathetic boxes with a calm, analytical gaze, surprising her aunt with her lack of anger. She reassures her loyal servant, explaining that she's happy to play along with the Duchess's little game. In her mind, she's already 2 steps ahead, realizing this insult is the perfect weapon to seize even more authority. She leans in close, whispering a secret set of instructions to the older woman. Aunt Chen's face lights up with a devious, knowing smile as she realizes the brilliance of the plan. King Ning stands tall, perfectly poised to turn this intended humiliation into her greatest victory yet. Ruoying whispers to Hangji that it's time for the homecoming, yet King Ning still hasn't made an appearance. Hangji gazes off with a look of deep regret, lamenting that he should have been the one by her side today. Ruoying delicately adjusts his robes, feigning remorse for taking the position that should have belonged to his lawful wife. Putting on a performance of sorrow, she questions why King Ning would choose the lonely life of a widow over being with them. Hangji's temper flares as he snaps that the choice was King Ning's alone, and she has no one else to blame for her situation. King Ning watches the pathetic display from the shadows, her eyes cold as she witnesses their hypocrisy. Stepping into the light with her maid, King Ning sharply asks who exactly is supposed to be ashamed of themselves. She stares Ruoying down, demanding she stop playing the victim before her act becomes even more disgraceful. Without waiting for a response, King Ning decisively boards her carriage to begin the journey home. The wheels begin to turn, leaving the stunned pair behind in a cloud of dust. Hangji bellows her name in a fit of impotent rage, unable to handle her sudden defiance. Her maid notes their visible fury, but King Ning remains stoic, focused entirely on the road ahead. She closes her eyes to center herself, knowing exactly how to play the cards she's been dealt. The carriage finally arrives at the imposing gates of the Marquis of Guangping's residence. Inside the main hall, Hangji leads the way as they prepare to greet the family elders. The grandmother greets them with a warm smile, beckoning them to come closer. Ruoying throws herself into a hug, playing the role of the doting granddaughter to perfection. She looks back at Hangji with a sweet smile, claiming he treats her with the utmost care and respect. The Marquis sits back in satisfaction, impressed by the mountain of gifts Ruoying brought to honor the family. Ruoying wears a smug expression, relishing the fact that King Ning's meager offerings look pathetic by comparison. Turning toward King Ning, her mother asks with a sharp tone if she's been suffering under the Duke's roof. King Ning maintains a respectful posture, calmly stating that she has faced no grievances. Her mother mocks her choice, wondering aloud why she insisted on such a difficult life as a widow. King Ning remains silent, letting the insults wash over her as she maintains her composure. Ruoying watches the public humiliation with a dark sense of triumph, believing she has finally won. One of the guests stands to speak, warning that the disparity in gifts could lead to a public scandal. The room fills with the hushed whispers of relatives, all judging King Ning for her lack of status. The guests hide their smirks behind their fans, delighted by the social downfall of the former favorite. Meanwhile, back at the Duke's estate, the atmosphere is heavy with impending conflict. An attendant informs the Duchess that King Ning was treated as a complete outcast by her own family. The Duchess smiles with malicious intent, satisfied that the little girl has finally been put in her place. Suddenly, the Duke slams his hand down in a fury, his voice booming as he questions his wife's competence. The Duchess recoils in genuine shock, completely caught off guard by his sudden outburst of anger. He takes a seat with a heavy thud, demanding to know if she intentionally tried to ruin their reputation. Fear flashes in the Duchess's eyes as she realizes the severity of the situation. She stammers through a weak excuse, claiming the gifts were prepared in haste due to the short notice. The Duke warns her that such a public embarrassment will surely bring the wrath of the imperial censors. He recalls the reports of how the neighbors and colleagues were already gossiping about the family's lack of grace. To fix the damage, he issues a direct order that King Ning will begin managing the household affairs alongside her. He glares at his wife, insisting this is the only way to prove to the public that they care for the widow. The Duchess is left trembling with silent rage, her plan to humiliate King Ning having backfired completely. King Ning looks on with a subtle, knowing glint in her eye as the power shift she orchestrated finally takes hold. The Duchess is absolutely seething, her mind racing with fury at the thought of sharing her hard-earned authority with King Ning. She desperately tries to sway the Duke, arguing that the girl is far too young and inexperienced to handle the complex affairs of the mansion. But the Duke isn't having it. He stands firm, reminding her that as the head of Songtao, it is only right that King Ning takes over these holdings. The Duchess's eyes widen in sheer disbelief as she realizes her husband is no longer prioritizing her control. Sensing a losing battle, she quickly shifts tactics, feigning maternal concern while clinging to the Duke's arm in a desperate bid for influence. The Duke remains unmoved, coldly decreeing that from tomorrow, the two women will manage the household together to ensure the mansion remains harmonious. Forced into a corner, the Duchess lowers her gaze and offers a submissive, yet venomous, yes. She storms away from the meeting, her sharp movements betraying the storm of rage brewing beneath her composed exterior. A grimace of pure frustration twists her features as she contemplates the threat King Ning poses to her absolute rule. Back in her private quarters, she collapses into her seat, haunted by the fear that King Ning will eventually seize total control of the mansion. Her loyal maid moves in to soothe her, reminding the Duchess that she still holds the majority of the power despite this setback. Reclaiming her icy composure, the Duchess accepts a cup of tea, resolving to keep her husband pleased while she plots her next move. The following morning, King Ning arrives with a calm and dignified air to pay her respects to the mistress of the house. The Duchess forces a plastic smile, generously inviting King Ning to assist her with the daunting task of auditing the mansion's account books. King Ning immediately detects the hidden venom, knowing this is a deliberate attempt to mock her status as a widow with nothing but time. Undeterred by the thinly veiled insults, she maintains her poise and accepts the responsibility with a polite bow. The Duchess stares her down, realizing for the first time that this young woman is far more dangerous and troublesome than she ever anticipated. She directs King Ning toward a mountain of heavy financial ledgers, hoping the sheer volume of work will break the girl's spirit. A faint, knowing smirk dances across King Ning's lips, signaling that she is more than ready for the technical challenge. She bows one last time, gracefully accepting the gift of the account books before making her exit. Her footsteps echo with confidence as she walks away, the balance of power in the Liu household shifting with every stride. A team of servants follows close behind, hauling the massive crates of data back to her residence for a deep dive. The mansion staff can't help but gossip, whispering about why the Duke would trust King Ning over the high-ranking Shen Ruoying. A cluster of maids looks on in shock, realizing that the hierarchy they once knew is rapidly changing. One spy among the servants breaks away from the crowd, racing to inform her mistress of this shocking development. In the tranquil back garden, Ruoying's peaceful tea time is shattered as her maid arrives with the frantic news. Ruoying's jaw drops in pure, unadulterated shock at the mention of King Ning's new authority. She stands up abruptly, demanding to know if it's true that the lonely widow has actually secured the mansion's account books. Her abandoned tea set sits on the stone table, a silent witness to her sudden explosion of panic and jealousy. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Ruoying storms toward her mother's quarters to demand an explanation. The sun shines over the Duchess's residence, but the atmosphere inside is anything but bright. Ruoying and Hangji are granted an audience with the Duchess, the air thick with tension and unspoken grievances. Ruoying takes her seat, her face a mask of simmering resentment as she prepares to voice her complaints. She plays the part of the dutiful daughter-in-law, claiming she waited patiently while official matters were being discussed. The Duchess listens in silence, her expression unreadable as she observes her daughter-in-law's transparent jealousy. Ruoying finally snaps, complaining about how awkward it feels to be idle while King Ning is busy managing the family's properties. The Duchess offers a cold, practical comfort, telling Ruoying that her only priority should be producing a legitimate heir for the family line. Ruoying lowers her head, appearing to accept the advice, though her mind is clearly focused on her rival. Internally, she is consumed by envy, wondering why King Ning seems to get every advantage despite her precarious position. Hangji reaches out to take her hand, whispering a promise that once he inherits the title, every single asset will belong to them. A dark, calculating light returns to Ruoying's eyes as she imagines the day King Ning is finally cast out with nothing. 2 weeks later, King Ning is deep in the trenches of the estate's financial records, meticulously reviewing every entry. She realizes that the most lucrative positions are held by the Duchess's loyalists, making a quick replacement impossible. Examining the stacks of ledgers, she begins to formulate a long-term strategy to eventually install her own reliable people. She pauses for a moment of reflection, deciding that another even more critical matter needs to be prepared first. Qingning turns to her trusted advisor, Aunt Chen, and asks which children from the Lu family branches would be suitable for adoption. She explains that she must establish a main branch heir to protect her status and prevent Hangzi from seizing the estate. Aunt Chen looks on with a complicated expression, burdened by the secret knowledge that the first young lord is very much alive. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Qingning urges the elder to begin discreetly scouting the various family branches. Aunt Chen agrees to help, though she knows she must consult with the hidden master before any moves are made. The next day, Aunt Chen hurries into the secret library, her urgent pace catching the attention of the man in hiding. Lu Jinyu looks up from his scrolls, his eyes narrowing in surprise at the news that his widow wants to adopt a child in his name. Lu Jinyu contemplates the weight of his legacy, admitting that having biological heirs is ideal. It must only happen if Qingning is truly willing. He remains steadfast in his decision to stay hidden, knowing that the Duke's mansion is currently far too dangerous for a public return. The dark, silent eaves of the estate serve as a grim reminder that he was poisoned by a hidden enemy before he ever left for the front lines. He vividly recalls the day he rode out to war, unaware that the very people he trusted had already marked him for death. The memory of the battlefield is a chaotic nightmare of fire and steel, where leaked intelligence led his loyal men into a fatal ambush. Amidst the smoldering ruins and fallen banners, his entire army was systematically annihilated in a calculated act of treason. Despite his devastating injuries, Jinyu survived the plunge from a cliff, fueled by a singular, burning desire to avenge his fallen soldiers. He remains haunted by the shadowy silhouette of the traitor within the mansion who orchestrated his downfall. Back in the present, he instructs Aunt Chen to stall the adoption process as long as possible while he prepares his move. Aunt Chen offers a warm, hopeful smile, looking forward to the day her master can finally lead a normal life with his wife. However, Jinyu is plagued by the memory of a frail, sickly Qingning who was forced into this marriage by circumstance. He lowers his gaze in solemn reflection, determined to give her the freedom to leave rather than trap her in a duty she never chose. Aunt Chen is visibly startled by his hesitation, wondering if he has reservations about Qingning's social background. She quickly steps forward to advocate for her mistress, praising the young woman's sharp intellect and her brilliant management of the estate. Jinyu acknowledges her incredible worth with a heavy heart, yet he feels that keeping her bound to him would be a selfish act. Aunt Chen listens with a look of pure bewilderment, unable to grasp why he would ever consider letting such a capable partner go. He falls into a pained silence, the conflict between his duty and his conscience weighing heavily upon him. Sensing the weight of the moment, he quietly dismisses Aunt Chen so he can process his next steps in solitude. The loyal servant bows deeply before departing, leaving her master alone with the ghosts of his past. Alone at the table, Jinyu resolves to offer Qingning a life of dignity and choice once the dust finally settles. A rare, soft expression crosses his face as he vows to become her ultimate protector if she decides to remain by his side. Stepping out into the hallway, Aunt Chen smiles to herself, planning to highlight the young lord's best qualities to ensure the marriage thrives. A few days later, the plan is in full swing as Aunt Chen regales a focused Qingning with legendary tales of Jinyu's unmatched martial prowess. 2 months of tireless effort finally culminate in the grand opening of the new medical clinic. Steward Su bows deeply, praising Qingning's incredible efficiency and her growing reputation as a pillar of the estate. The celebration is interrupted by a familiar, energetic voice calling out Qingning's name from the entrance. Qingning turns with a look of pure relief as her trusted allies finally arrive to join her cause. Stepping forward with a bright smile is Wei Shu, the skilled disciple of the divine physician, accompanied by her younger brother. The two women share a heartfelt moment, their bond strengthened by months of planning and distance. Qingning expresses her deepest gratitude, knowing how arduous the journey from the distant medicine valley truly was. Shu dismisses the thanks with a playful wave, eager to put her medical training into practice for the people. With these experts finally stationed at the clinic, Qingning can finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, the peace is short-lived as the scene shifts to the imposing gates of the Qin residence late at night. A servant intercepting Qingning's return delivers an urgent summons from the Duchess that cannot be ignored. Qingning's expression hardens as she wonders what new scheme the family has cooked up in her absence. She enters the main hall to find the family gathered in an atmosphere of smug celebration. Madame Feng wastes no time, announcing that the duchy has been blessed with a monumental piece of news. Lu Hangji stands triumphantly beside Ruoying, his hand firmly grasping hers as they face the room. The Duchess beams with malice as she reveals the bombshell. Shen Ruoying is officially pregnant. Qingning remains remarkably composed, coldly calculating that this outcome was inevitable given their recent history. The surrounding servants immediately bow, showering the couple with professional congratulations. Beneath her calm exterior, Qingning realizes that the political landscape of the estate has just shifted violently. If Ruoying delivers a son, Lu Hangji will secure a lawful and undisputed claim to the entire inheritance. Qingning stares into the distance, knowing the Duchess will now move to seize every asset belonging to the late young duke. The following morning, the tension reaches a breaking point in the garden as Qingning crosses paths with the arrogant successor. Hangji boasts that the duke has already petitioned the palace to officially grant him the title of young lord. Qingning is momentarily stunned by the sheer speed at which her father-in-law has moved to replace his own son. Hangji leans in with a sickening smirk, mockingly suggesting he could still make her his concubine if she regrets her choices. Without a second of hesitation, Qingning's hand blurs through the air, delivering a thunderous slap to his face. The impact is so fierce it leaves Hangji recoiling, his head snapped to the side in total shock. He clutches his burning cheek, his eyes wide with disbelief that she would dare to strike him. Qingning stands tall, her gaze icy as she reminds him that as his elder sister-in-law, she will not tolerate his filthy insults. She commands her maid to follow, turning her back on the man before he can even find his breath. Hangji is left fuming in the garden, his face twisted in a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Back at the pavilion, her maid frets over the consequences of striking the man who is about to become the master of the house. Qingning remains unfazed, betting on the fact that the duke's lingering affection for his late son will protect her for now. Nearby, Madame Feng and Ruoying continue their victory lap over a quiet afternoon tea. Ruoying plays the part of the humble mother-to-be, though her eyes sparkle with the thrill of her new status. Qingning arrives to fulfill her social obligations, her presence casting a cold shadow over their celebration. She keeps the interaction strictly professional, informing them she has urgent accounts to settle before departing. Madame Feng watches her go with a dismissive wave, convinced that Qingning's influence is finally fading. The Duchess sneers, certain that Qingning's calm facade is merely a mask for her internal desperation. Ruoying adds fuel to the fire, feigning pity for the woman who lost her position to the new succession. Madame Feng simply scoffs, asserting that with Jingyu gone, the natural order of power is finally being restored. The focus shifts back to the quiet corners of the estate where the real battle for the future is being fought. Qingning gathers her inner circle, her voice low as she discusses the duke's petition to the palace. Her maids look on with visible anxiety, fearing for the legacy of the late young duke. Qingning explains the grim reality. If the adoption isn't finalized, everything Jingyu built will fall into Hangji's hands. She turns to Aunt Chen, demanding that they bypass any further delays and complete the adoption immediately. Aunt Chen's face pales, the weight of her secret orders from the dead, Jingyu clearly taking a toll on her, sensing the pressure. The old woman quickly makes an excuse to leave, claiming she has an errand to run. The maid senses the shift in the air, finding Aunt Chen's sudden reluctance to protect the property incredibly suspicious. Qingning sips her tea, her mind racing as she considers that her most trusted ally might be hiding something. Her eyes narrow, realizing that Aunt Chen's behavior has become too erratic to be mere coincidence. Taking a decisive step, she orders Dangxia to shadow the old woman and uncover exactly where she's going. Aunt Chen steps out of her carriage, unaware of the eyes watching her every move. A hidden observer remains tucked in the shadows, carefully tracking the carriage's progress. The driver scans the quiet street, his sharp intuition telling him something isn't right. He quickly retreats to the side of the carriage, confirming his suspicions of being tailed. He whispers to Aunt Chen that not one, but two separate groups are currently spying on them. Aunt Chen realizes one group belongs to Lady Feng, who has been increasingly resentful of her influence. She correctly guesses the second group was sent by Qingning, whose suspicions have been piqued by the adoption delays. Knowing she must maintain her cover for the young master's sake, she decides to take a detour to the market to ease the tension. Back at the pavilion, Aunt Chen reports her return to a focused Qingning. She explains that she spotted the Duchess's spy and chose to wander the market to avoid leading them to any secrets. Qingning observes her closely, realizing Aunt Chen is being strategically honest to regain her trust. She accepts the explanation for now, deciding it's better to keep the peace than to force a confrontation. Aunt Chen feels a wave of relief, glad that her mistress still appears to trust her word. The calm is shattered when a maid rushes in to announce that the second young mistress has arrived. Qingning hardens her gaze, wondering why Ruoying would bother visiting during her pregnancy. She tells her staff to remain vigilant, knowing they cannot hide from the conflict brewing within the household. Ruoying walks through the courtyard, her presence a calculated display of her rising status. She looks around with envy, convinced she should be the rightful mistress of this grand pavilion. Every step she takes toward the entrance is fueled by a bitter sense of entitlement. She enters with a fake smile, hoping her unexpected visit doesn't cause any trouble. Ruoying takes a seat, acting as if she owns the space, while her maid stands dutifully behind her. She begins to complain about the hardships of morning sickness, making sure to highlight her pregnancy. She claims she can only talk to Qingning since they are practically family, a clear attempt to manipulate her. Qingning plays along with the sisterly act, advising her to be extremely careful during these first 3 months. Ruoying's expression sours instantly, taking the medical advice as a hidden curse against her child. She reaches for a cup of tea, determined to prove she doesn't need Kingning's guidance. Kingning closes her eyes for a moment, sensing the impending disaster Roying is about to cause. She moves with lightning speed to snatch the tea away before Roying can take a sip. Taoji, the maid, snaps at Kingning, accusing her of being too ill-disposed to even offer a guest water. Kingning calmly explains that chrysanthemum tea is too cold for a pregnant woman and could harm the fetus. Roying is stunned into silence, realizing her own ignorance almost led to a mistake. Kingning turns her icy gaze toward the servant, refusing to let such blatant disrespect go unpunished. She orders grandmother Liao to deliver 10 slaps to the maid to teach her a lesson in etiquette. Roying pleads for mercy, claiming her maid was only acting out of loyalty. Kingning firmly holds Roying's hand, insisting that an arrogant servant will only bring her trouble later. Roying tries to break free from the grip, but she's powerless against Kingning's resolve. With a cold nod, Kingning signals for the punishment to begin immediately. Grandmother Liao raises her hand, ready to uphold the discipline of the household. The sound of repeated slaps echoes through the room as Taoji pays for her insolence. The punishment concludes with the maid sobbing in pain, while the senior servant reports the task complete. Unable to bear the humiliation, Roying stands up and makes a hasty excuse to leave. She storms out of the pavilion with her injured maid trailing miserably behind her. Kingning wastes no time, ordering her own maid to summon the doctor and claim she's fallen ill. She knows Roying will return for more, and feigning illness is the only way to keep the peace. Outside, the maid comforts Roying, claiming Kingning is only acting out because she's losing her power. Roying smirks, confident that once Hangji secures the official title, Kingning's reign will finally end. A hush falls over the grand estate as whispers of Gu Kingning's sudden ailment reach every corner of the household. The physician carefully explains to the Duchess that the young madam has merely caught a chill and requires several days of undisturbed rest to recover. A cold, calculating smile touches the Duchess's lips as she realizes that with Kingning bedridden, no one remains to obstruct Hangji's path to inheritance. With a dismissive wave of her hand, she sends the doctor away, satisfied that her long-awaited plans are finally falling into place. Suddenly, a servant bursts into the room with urgent news. The Duke has returned, and an imperial envoy is waiting at the front hall. The Duchess springs to her feet, her heart racing at the prospect of the Emperor finally confirming her son's new title. The entire Kinduchi gathers in the courtyard, kneeling in a display of solemn respect as they prepare to receive the divine word. Confidence radiates from the Duchess as she eyes the trusted eunuch Shun, certain that this moment marks the beginning of her family's ultimate glory. Standing tall before the assembled household, the eunuch unrolls the sacred scroll and begins to recite the Emperor's decree with a booming, authoritative voice. The Duchess can barely contain her excitement, believing she is only seconds away from being officially recognized as the mother of the future Duke. Roying shoots a triumphant, mocking glance at Kingning, savoring the moment she believes the widow will finally be eclipsed. The eunuch's voice rings out clearly, praising Gu Kingning's virtue and loyalty, before granting her the prestigious title of third-rank Lady of Merit. The Duchess's face pales in sheer disbelief, her mind reeling as she realizes the decree has absolutely nothing to do with her son's inheritance. Hidden behind her calm and humble facade, Kingning is quietly stunned, realizing her strategic visit to the palace has yielded a massive victory. She bows her head low, reaching up to accept the golden imperial scroll with the utmost grace and poise. As she rises, the weight of the decree in her hand signals a tectonic shift in the household's power dynamic. Eunuch Shun offers a rare, kindly smile, advising the newly minted Lady of Merit to prioritize her health during her recovery. Kingning offers a soft, respectful response, assuring him that her illness is minor and thanking him for the Emperor's immense benevolence. The eunuch is visibly impressed by her conduct, noting that her dignified composure makes her truly worthy of such a high honor. Unable to remain silent, the Duchess demands to know why Kingning was granted a rank that makes her a social equal within the family. The eunuch's expression turns ice-cold as he warns her that questioning the Emperor's will is a dangerous path to tread. Sensing the immediate peril, the Duke quickly steps forward to apologize for his wife's sudden and reckless lapse in judgment. Silenced and humiliated in front of the entire household, the Duchess can only seethe inwardly as her authority crumbles. She desperately asks if there is a second decree regarding the succession, but the eunuch coldly informs her that his mission is complete. The Duke maintains a strictly professional front, ordering the steward to see the imperial guest out with all due respect. Roying's eyes burn with a venomous jealousy, unable to fathom how Kingning managed to secure such good fortune for herself. As soon as the envoy departs, the Duchess corners her husband, demanding an explanation for what happened at the palace. The Duke snaps back with a fierce command for silence, warning her that the Emperor's decree is absolute and must not be challenged. The scene shifts back to a few hours earlier, where the Duke stood before the Emperor, pleading for Hangji to inherit the title immediately. The Emperor's gaze is sharp and unforgiving as he questions why the Duke is in such a rush to erase every trace of his fallen son Jingyu. Terrified by the monarch's mounting fury, The Duke collapses to his knees, his confidence completely shattered by the Emperor's words. The Emperor roars with indignation, accusing the Duke of mistreating the widow of a war hero who gave everything for the nation. Trembling on the floor, the Duke kowtows and begs for mercy, realizing his greed has deeply offended the throne. The Emperor stands and paces the hall, declaring that the honor of his soldiers must never be sacrificed for family politics. He delivers a crushing final blow, ruling that any discussion of the inheritance must wait until the 3-year mourning period is finished. Back in the present, the Duchess clutches her head in despair, the 3-year delay feeling like an eternity of defeat. Ruoying is overcome with a sudden wave of nausea, the stress of her failed scheme finally taking a physical toll on her body. Qingning lets out a well-timed, delicate cough, maintaining her facade of illness to keep the household's sympathy. The Duke's tone softens significantly as he urges Qingning to return to her quarters and focus entirely on her rest. Ruoying watches the interaction with a bitter glare, hating that the Duke's concern has shifted away from her and her child. Walking through the gardens with her maid, Qingning realizes that her position in the house has become unexpectedly ironclad. She leans in to whisper a new instruction, telling her maid to spread the word that she has developed a passion for reading travel journals. With a clever glint in her eye, she prepares to use this new hobby as the perfect cover to infiltrate the Duke's private study and find the files she needs. The Songto Pavilion is buzzing with excitement as the staff gathers to offer their heartfelt congratulations to their young mistress. Her loyal nanny beams with pride, explaining that her new title as a noble lady of the 3rd rank puts her on equal footing with the Duchess herself. The news gets even better as the 3-year delay on the title's succession means the estate is finally secure from outside interference. Showing her grace as a leader, Qingning immediately announces rewards for every member of her household to celebrate their shared victory. Meanwhile, across the estate, the atmosphere at the other pavilion is far more strained. Lu Hangji sits in a slumped, dejected posture, unable to comprehend why he must wait 3 long years to inherit his title. Shen Ruoying's eyes flash with a cold, sharp fury as she realizes Qingning's rank is now a direct threat to her own standing. She watches her husband collapse back onto the lounger, his lack of ambition becoming more apparent by the second. Desperate to salvage their future, she grabs his arm and begs him to focus on his imperial examinations to regain the Emperor's favor. Hangji ignores her pleas for discipline, attempting to lean in close despite Ruoying's clear physical discomfort. With a sudden burst of energy, she pushes him away with enough force to send him tumbling back onto the bed. Ruoying is overcome by a wave of nausea, clutching her throat as she struggles with the early stages of her pregnancy. Her expression turns icy as she sets a firm boundary, ordering him to leave her room and focus solely on his studies. Feeling insulted and rejected, Hangji slowly stands up, his resentment toward his wife beginning to simmer. He turns his back on her without a word, storming out of the room to escape the stifling tension. Ruoying watches him go, her eyes narrowing as she realizes her husband is a useless pawn who will never help her reach the top. She sits alone, swearing that her unborn child will be the one to bring ultimate glory to the Duke's household. Dressed in her finest silks, she prepares herself to maintain her position as the noble Duchess at any cost. As night falls over the front yard, a single lamp burns in the study where Hangji is supposed to be working. Boredom quickly wins out, and he slams his book onto the table with a frustrated slap, finished with his half-hearted effort. Just then, a maid enters the room carrying a tray, offering him a warm bowl of ginseng broth to soothe his nerves. This is Biyu, a calculated maidservant who has been waiting for the perfect moment to elevate her status in the house. Hangji looks at her closely for the first time, noticing a striking resemblance between the maid and his rival, Qingning. Biyu maintains a professional demeanor as she carefully feeds him the broth, 1 spoonful at a time. Internally, she smirks, knowing the special medicinal tonic she prepared is the key to securing her permanent place by his side. The potent herbs take effect quickly, leaving Hangji in a dazed, feverish state as Biyu leads him toward the rest area. In his clouded mind, he reaches out and catches her, whispering Qingning's name as he loses his grip on reality. He sweeps the maid off her feet, carrying her toward the bed as the plan for a new household dynamic falls into place. Bayu's eyes sparkle with triumph, knowing her gamble to gain influence over the master has finally paid off. The lamp flickers low as the shadows on the wall reveal the shift in the power balance within the estate. The following morning, a messenger arrives at Qingning's door with an urgent summons from the Duchess. Qingning makes her way through the courtyard, wondering what kind of crisis could possibly require her presence so early. She enters the hall to find Ruoying sobbing into her handkerchief while Hangji sits nearby, looking absolutely miserable. Qingning officially presents her respects to the Duchess, taking in the sight of Biyu kneeling on the floor in disgrace. Hangji turns a deep shade of red, trying to insist that this awkward situation has nothing to do with his sister-in-law. The Duchess shuts him down instantly, declaring that as the household manager, Qingning is the only one qualified to resolve this. She reveals that she was the one who sent Biyu to serve her son, framing it as a motherly gesture that has now gone sideways. Ning looks between them, realizing the scandalous truth of what transpired between Hangji and the maid overnight. Beiyu puts on a dramatic performance, crying out that she has nowhere else to go if she isn't accepted into the master's service. Ning calmly approaches the maid, asking her to confirm exactly who ordered her to deliver that soup the previous night. By exposing the Duchess's involvement, Ning cleverly shifts the blame, leaving Roying to realize she's been betrayed by her own mother-in-law. The Duchess realizes she's been outplayed as Ning uses Roying's pregnancy as a reason to avoid making a harsh decision. Pretending to be weakened by a sudden coughing fit, Ning excuses herself from the room, leaving the others to fight amongst themselves. As she walks away, she notes that letting her enemies tear each other apart is far more effective than a direct confrontation. She strolls through the gardens with her maid, ensuring everyone hears her talking about her supposed passion for reading travelogues. With the household distracted by the scandal, Ning knows the perfect opportunity to slip into the Duke's study is finally within reach. The sun hangs high over the sprawling estate, but the atmosphere inside is anything but peaceful. Steward Lu approaches the first young madam with a respectful bow, maintaining the rigid decorum of the household. He delivers an unexpected message. The Duke has invited Ning to browse his private collection of travel journals. Seizing the opportunity, Ning graciously accepts, scheduling the visit for just after dinner. As the steward takes his leave, the room falls quiet, leaving Ning to her own thoughts. She knows this invitation is a rare chance to infiltrate the most heavily guarded room in the residence and find the truth about her family. Tapping her fingers rhythmically on the table, she begins to calculate a way to slip past the steward's watchful eyes. She turns to her loyal maid, quietly instructing her on how to execute a necessary distraction once they are inside. As dusk settles, the lanterns are lit, casting a warm glow over the imposing structure of the Duke's study. Steward Lu leads the way inside, explaining that the first floor houses the Duke's massive personal library. While the steward speaks, Ning's gaze drifts toward the stairs, knowing her true objective lies on the restricted second floor. They stand amidst towering shelves as the steward offers his expert assistance in locating specific regional journals. Ning keeps her composure, aware that the window of opportunity to reach the upper level is closing fast. The steward speaks of the Duke's newest acquisitions, detailing the harsh landscapes of the northern and southern borders. With a sharp nod, Ning gives the silent signal for her maid to initiate the next phase of the plan. The maid immediately showers Steward Lu with exaggerated praise, marveling at his vast knowledge of the world. She pivots the conversation to martial arts, acting as a starry-eyed admirer of the great generals who served on the front lines. Clinging to the steward's arm, she playfully begs him to guide her toward the most prestigious martial arts manuals. The steward hesitates, his sense of duty toward Ning clashing with the maid's persistent requests. Ning holds up a book and coolly remarks that the maid's chatter is ruining her concentration, providing the perfect excuse for them to leave. Relenting, the steward agrees to help the maid, promising to return to his post shortly. The moment the coast is clear, Ning snaps her book shut, her expression shifting to one of intense focus. She moves with silent, practiced grace as she ascends the wooden stairs toward the forbidden archives. The second floor is a silent vault of secrets, filled with rows of meticulously organized documents. However, she isn't alone. A masked figure in black is already deep within the room, scouring the cabinets. Hearing the faint creak of a floorboard, the intruder instantly freezes and looks back toward the entrance. In a blur of motion, the masked man leaps into the shadows of the rafters to avoid detection. Ning steps into the room cautiously, unaware that a pair of eyes is watching her every move from above. From his high vantage point, the masked man Lu Jingyu is stunned to see his own wife infiltrating the Duke's private sanctum. Ning ignores the eerie silence, scanning the room for the specific cabinets that might hold the Lin family records. She reaches for a high shelf, her fingers brushing against the cold wood as she searches for a lead. Finding a potential file, she carefully examines the identification tag attached to the documents. She slides open a drawer, revealing a collection of scrolls that have been hidden away for years. Her heart races as she confirms that these are indeed the official case files she's been hunting for. Her excitement fades when she realizes these records are too recent, dating back only to the current year. Suddenly, the sound of the maid's voice outside alerts her that the Duke himself is approaching the study. Realizing she is trapped, Ning's eyes widen as she searches for an escape route that doesn't exist. She stands frozen in the center of the room, her mind racing to find a way to explain her presence. Without warning, a dark figure drops silently from the ceiling, landing right behind her. Before she can scream, the masked man pulls her into a firm grip and covers her mouth to ensure their technical concealment remains unbroken. As footsteps echo through the corridor, the masked intruder keeps Ning pinned against the shelves to ensure they aren't discovered. He whispers a sudden promise to take her with him, sensing the Duke's arrival is imminent. With a sharp gaze toward the high window, he signals for her to follow his lead. Before she can protest, he sweeps her into a secure carry, preparing for a daring exit. In one fluid motion, they vault through the opening and land silently on the grass below. He immediately releases her, maintaining a professional distance as they regain their footing. Ning quickly rounds on him, demanding to know his identity and his business in the forbidden study. She stands her ground, warning him that as a member of the household, she won't permit any harm to the family. With a cold glare, she threatens to scream for the guards and frame him for her abduction. The masked man remains silent, secretly impressed by his young wife's incredible composure and sharp wit. He notices her hand hovering near her hair, realizing she was ready to use her hairpin as a lethal weapon. It's clear to him now that the woman he married is anything but a fragile flower. He calmly explains that he has no ill intent toward the Duke and was only there to retrieve a document. Sensing a kindred spirit, Kingning decides he is likely an investigator seeking justice for a past case, much like herself. Suddenly, she hears her maid Banksia calling out from the ground floor, signaling that the coast is clear. Realizing the Duke has moved to the upper levels, Kingning knows this is her only chance to return unnoticed. She hurries away through the garden, leaving the mysterious intruder behind. Banksia is trembling with relief when she finally sees her mistress emerge from the shadows. The maid explains that the Duke went straight upstairs to attend to urgent matters without lingering. Heavy footsteps begin to descend the wooden stairs, signaling the Duke's return. Kingning moves with lightning speed, grabbing a nearby book to mask her true activities. She raises her voice, asking Banksia about some missing volumes to create a perfect alibi for the Duke to overhear. Banksia catches on instantly, handing over a stack of books to complete the scene. The Duke appears, surprised to find Kingning in the study, and questioning if she had been there the entire time. She offers a respectful bow, apologizing for being so absorbed in her reading that she failed to notice his arrival. Impressed by her dedication to learning, the Duke permits her to stay, though he warns her to bring an attendant in the future. With a final polite exchange, she takes her leave and exits the room. Though she didn't find the Lin family records today, Kingning is confident she now knows their exact location. As they walk away, she tells Banksia a quick cover story about using a ladder to descend from the first floor. Internally, she remains preoccupied with the masked man, wondering if his presence will lead to tighter security. Unbeknownst to her, the man Lu Jinji watches her from the trees, clutching the scroll he successfully retrieved. The quiet of the garden is broken by the hushed whispers of maids gossiping about the second young master. Banksia relays the news that Lu Hangji has officially taken Baiyu as a concubine, but Kingning dismisses it as none of her concern. Nearby, a brooding Hangzi watches them, feeling a sting of resentment that Kingning is no longer attentive to his needs. He steps forward to intercept them, demanding to know if she also views him as a fickle man. Kingning meets his gaze with nothing but cold, silent indifference. Frustrated by her lack of emotion, he grabs her arm and asks if she truly despises him for his choices. She forcefully breaks his grip, reminding him with sharp authority to show some dignity toward his sister-in-law. She tells him to step aside, making it clear she has no interest in his personal dramas. With a final, piercing remark, she notes that he never truly bothered to know her when they were together. Hangji is left stunned and speechless by her blunt rejection. Without another word, Kingning leads Banksia away, leaving the man behind. However, their interaction hasn't gone unobserved. A maid lurks behind a rock, watching the entire exchange. Believing she has found evidence of a secret plot, the spy decides to report this to the second young mistress immediately. Back in the inner chambers, Shen Ruoying listens as the maid delivers a twisted version of the encounter. The maid claims she heard talk of love and past regrets, fueling Ruoying's growing paranoia. A dark shadow falls over Ruoying's face as her jealousy turns into pure rage. She slams her hand onto the table, swearing that she will not let Gu Qingning get away with this perceived betrayal. Ruoying looks up in surprise as her maid announces the sudden arrival of Lady Shen from the Marquis' residence. A dark smirk plays on Ruoying's lips as she realizes her mother is the perfect weapon to vent her frustrations. Lady Shen strides into the room with an air of authority, followed by her entourage of attendants. Ruoying immediately collapses into her mother's arms, putting on a convincing show of heartbreak. Lady Shen gently pats her daughter's back, her face twisting with concern as she asks who dared to hurt her child. The maid Taoji seizes the moment to accuse the servant Baiyu of being a shameless seductress targeting the second young master. The news sends a shock of pure outrage through Lady Shen as she glares at the mention of such impudence. Ruoying wipes away fake tears, claiming the maid isn't the real problem, it's the behavior of Kingning that truly stings. Lady Shen's brow furrows in a deep frown as she questions why a widow like Kingning refuses to live in quiet seclusion. Taoji continues her toxic narrative, claiming Kingning is exploiting Hangji's guilt just to get closer to him. The maid doubles down on her lies, insisting she witnessed the scandalous seduction with her own eyes. Enraged, Lady Shen tries to storm off to the Duchess, while Ruoying feigns a half-hearted attempt to hold her back. Lady Shen's temper flares as she curses the Shen family for raising such a supposedly unscrupulous person. The trio marches through the courtyard with a heavy sense of impending confrontation trailing behind them. Unaware of the storm brewing, Kingning walks calmly with her maid, wondering why the Duchess has requested her presence. Kingning stops dead in her tracks as the harsh, familiar voice of her aunt echoes through the air. Sensing a trap, Kingning whispers a quick instruction to her maid to stay sharp and follow her lead. With a firm step, Ning crosses the threshold and enters the room to face her accusers. Lady Shen lunges forward instantly, her hand raised to strike Ning while hurling insults at the shameless wretch. Before the blow can land, Bangsha moves with lightning speed to catch Lady Shen's wrist in an iron grip. Lady Shen winces and groans in pain, shocked that her physical assault was so easily thwarted. Ning maintains a cold composure, calmly ordering Bangsha to release her aunt's arm. Rubbing her wrist, Lady Shen is livid that Ning had the audacity to defend herself from the attack. Ning looks her aunt directly in the eye, questioning why she shouldn't have the right to avoid a baseless assault. Lady Shen points a trembling finger at her niece, accusing her of being an ungrateful widow, trying to steal her cousin's husband. Ning doesn't flinch, demanding to know exactly who is spreading such ridiculous rumors. The room falls silent as Lady Shen gestures to the maids, claiming they are witnesses to the secret garden tryst. Ning turns her gaze toward the Duchess, gauging whether she truly believes this manufactured scandal. The Duchess gestures toward the two cowering maids, noting that multiple people have come forward with the same story. With a sharp, commanding tone, Ning challenges the maids to repeat their lies right to her face. The two maids begin to tremble and stammer, their confidence evaporating under Ning's intense scrutiny. The Duchess attempts to sweep the mess under the rug, claiming the Duke is far too busy for such petty disputes. Ning refuses to back down, arguing that a stain on Hangji's reputation is a threat to the entire household. Lady Shen watches the exchange with a sharp, predatory gaze, looking for any sign of weakness. Seeing the tension rise, the Duchess waves her hand dismissively, suggesting they just drop the matter entirely. Ning stands firm, insisting that a full investigation is the only way to maintain proper discipline and honor. Ruoying steps in to play the victim, pleading for everyone to stop arguing for the sake of family harmony. Lady Shen scoffs at the idea of harmony, claiming Ning has always harbored resentment toward them. Fed up with the constant verbal abuse, Ning swings her hand and delivers a thunderous slap across Lady Shen's face. Ruoying and the maids gasp in collective horror as the sound of the strike echoes through the hall. Lady Shen clutches her burning cheek, staring in absolute shock as Ning calls out her repeated slanders. Ning stands with regal authority, reminding them all that, as an imperial noble lady, she has the legal right to discipline those who disrespect her. The Duchess and the group stand in the hall, a tense silence filling the room as the weight of the confrontation sinks in. Ning declares her absolute satisfaction with her marriage, making it clear she has no eyes for anyone else. Lu Hangji stands frozen, shocked that the girl who once adored him now speaks with such cold indifference. He confronts her directly, desperate to know why she suddenly views him as inferior to his own brother. Ning offers a look of pure contempt, stating that his character doesn't even begin to compare to the young master's. The room falls into an awkward hush as everyone processes the brutal verbal shutdown. Ruoying grits her teeth in a jealous rage, wondering if her husband secretly regrets not marrying Ning instead. She quickly suppresses her doubt, hardening her heart with the realization that he is hers and hers alone. Ruoying pivots to damage control, asking Hangji to confirm there's absolutely nothing between him and his sister-in-law. Ning steps forward with a knowing gaze, seeing right through Ruoying's attempt to play the innocent victim. She calmly takes her seat, preparing to deliver the final verdict on the chaos Ruoying started. With an air of absolute authority, Ning orders the treacherous maids to be beaten and sold off. The terrified servants drop to their knees, begging for mercy that isn't coming. Ning maintains her composure, allowing the cold weight of her judgment to sink in. Taoji desperately clings to Ruoying's dress, pleading for her mistress to save her from the punishment. Hangji snaps, losing his patience and ordering the discipline to proceed exactly as Ning commanded. Ruoying stares at him in disbelief, stung that her own husband chose to side with her rival. Ning's eyes remain sharp and focused, unmoved by the emotional turmoil surrounding her. She confirms the decision one last time, signaling the start of the disciplinary measures. Guards move in to escort the disgraced party away, while Hangji turns his back on the scene. The maids are dragged out of the room, their desperate cries for help echoing through the halls. Ruoying clutches her chest, her face pale as she watches her influence crumble. Outside under the moonlight, the guards prepare the benches for the public lashing. The head of the discipline squad gives the order to begin the execution of the sentence. Ruoying collapses onto a chair, her composure completely shattered by the turn of events. Lady Shen rushes to her daughter's side, pulling her into a protective embrace as the sounds of punishment continue. Lady Shen glares at Ning, demanding to know if she is finally satisfied with this cruelty. Ning remains perfectly calm, reminding her aunt that this is simply the proper application of family rules. The mother and daughter beat a hasty retreat, unable to handle the weight of Ning's presence. Ning rises from her seat, her work in the Duchess's hall finished for the day. She offers a respectful bow to the Duchess before taking her leave with her dignity fully intact. The Duchess watches her go, her expression unreadable as she contemplates the power shift. Alone with her thoughts, the Duchess realizes she underestimated Ning's ability to dominate the situation. She discusses the outcome with her confidant, noting that even a Marca's daughter was no match for Ning's wit. The Duchess touches her face, acknowledging that Ning's new rank makes her a formidable peer. She instructs her servant to keep a watchful eye on the girl, determined to protect her own authority. Under the night sky, Bangsha excitedly tells Ning how satisfying it was to see the arrogant aunt humbled. Ning smiles softly, realizing that the confrontation actually helped her establish the dominance she needed. Back in the private quarters, The lights stay on as the defeated pair licks their wounds. Roying rests on the daybed, lamenting the loss of her most trusted confidant. Lady Shen listens intently, her expression filled with concern for her daughter's future. Roying argues that securing her position is far more important than any other family matter right now. She begins to cough, the stress of the day taking a physical toll on her health. Lady Shen comforts her, promising to bring in a new servant who is skilled in the technical art of blending fragrances. Roying's eyes flash with a sinister glint, already plotting her revenge against King Ning. Lady Shen retreats into the night, leaving her daughter to brood in silence. A maid carefully tends to the bed, ensuring the humiliated Roying can find some rest. Roying lies awake, her focus shifting immediately to the second young master's location. She reminds herself that her future depends entirely on Hangji's success in the upcoming imperial exams. Across the courtyard, Hangji sits at his desk, staring blankly at his study materials. His maid, Bu, notices his lack of progress and realizes his mind is far from his books. She offers a gentle distraction, suggesting a game of chess to ease his obvious boredom. Hangji reaches out to her, touched that she is the only one who truly cares for him. Bu turns away with a shy blush, rushing to retrieve the chessboard as requested. He watches her leave the room, finding comfort in her simple, unwavering devotion. His expression softens as he reflects on the timid, sincere look she just gave him. He places a hand on his book, resolving to find a precious birthday gift for her as a reward. The following morning, Ning gathers with her loyal servants for breakfast. When asked about her birthday, she modestly requests nothing more than a bowl of noodles. The staff won't hear of it, insisting her first birthday in the family requires a proper banquet. Grandmother Liao smiles warmly, determined to give her mistress the celebration she deserves. Plans are quickly set in motion to order a grand feast from the city's top restaurant. King Ning is visibly moved, realizing these servants are the only family who remembered the date. She closes her eyes and finally accepts their heartfelt offer to celebrate. The pavilion erupts in excitement as the maids cheer for the upcoming festivities. Grandmother Liao leaves with a plan to secure a token of affection from the young master himself. A messenger soon arrives, relaying the Duchess's urgent request for help with the household accounts. King Ning enters the main hall and offers a formal greeting to her mother-in-law. The Duchess points to the massive stacks of ledgers, claiming she is far too unwell to handle them. King Ning maintains a polite facade, agreeing to take on the heavy workload without complaint. She settles into the chair and begins the arduous task of auditing the family finances. Her focus never wavers as she meticulously browses through the complicated records. The Duchess watches smugly over her tea, certain she has trapped King Ning in a mountain of busywork. The peace is shattered when King Ning questions a specific entry regarding returned betrothal gifts. Caught off guard, the Duchess chokes on her tea, her composure momentarily slipping. She tries to explain that the items were part of a previous arrangement with the Shen family. King Ning points out the glaring truth. The gifts meant for her were never actually delivered. She stands up with authority, demanding the betrothal gifts be transferred to her immediately. The Duchess cedes in silence, regretting the moment she allowed the girl to see the books. She tries to redirect the treasure to King Ning's maternal family, hoping to keep it out of her hands. King Ning agrees that since she isn't the Marquis's daughter, they have no claim to the gifts. The Duchess smiles, believing she has successfully navigated the trap to keep the valuables. Her face falls when King Ning declares she will store the gifts in her own pavilion that very day. The Duchess frantically argues that King Ning's storeroom is already full to discourage the move. King Ning stares her down with unwavering confidence, assuring her there is plenty of space. As she departs, the Duchess is left fuming at how easily she was outplayed. Her eyes flash with a deadly promise of revenge as she records this new grudge. A servant announces the arrival of the second young master, who approaches the study with a confident stride. Hangji enters the room and greets his sister-in-law, claiming he has come specifically to see her on this special day. He attempts to mend fences by explaining that Roying's past behavior was a simple misunderstanding he wishes to rectify with a peace offering. King Ning accepts the ornate gift box containing a golden tassel, offering a polite word of thanks despite her inner reservations about the gaudy item. The Duchess seizes the opportunity to play the role of a doting elder, suggesting King Ning take a break from the ledgers to enjoy a birthday feast. Maintaining her composure, King Ning agrees to set aside the accounts for one evening to avoid any further friction with her mother-in-law. She offers a respectful bow before excusing herself to return to her own quarters for the night. As King Ning departs, the Duchess watches her leave with a cold, calculating gaze that betrays her true feelings. Alone with her son, the Duchess's face contorts with irritation as she realizes how difficult the girl has become to manipulate. Hangji stands in silence, his expression unreadable as he reflects on the brief and tense exchange. The Duchess immediately questions whether the birthday gift was truly his own idea or a calculated move by someone else. Hangji admits his own lack of knowledge regarding feminine tastes, confirming he had help choosing the item for her. Gripping his hands, the Duchess sternly warns him that any perceived closeness with King Ning could destroy his future career and reputation. Hangji lowers his gaze and offers a submissive acknowledgement of his mother's command to keep his distance. She clarifies that while she doesn't mind him taking concubines later, King Ning is strictly off-limits for his affections. Internally, Hangji insists he isn't driven by lust but by a sincere pity for his widowed sister-in-law's isolated plight. Back at her pavilion, King hands over the critical documents to Aunt Chen to begin reclaiming her stolen dowry from the manor stores. Aunt Chen is horrified to learn that the missing items have been hidden in the Duke's storeroom this entire time right under their noses. King realizes the Duchess had been secretly hoarding the gifts while pretending they were sent back to her family. Fuming with indignation, Aunt Chen vows to retrieve every single piece of property that rightfully belongs to the young madam. Examining the flashy hairpin, King notes that its gaudy style proves the Liu family doesn't understand her personal tastes at all. Her staff gathers around the table, curious about the source of such an ostentatious and unfitting birthday present. The nanny expresses concern that the second master's constant interference will only lead to more trouble with the Duchess. Seeing no value in the flashy eyesore, King instructs her nanny to pawn the hairpin for silver to fund her own needs. With the dowry reclamation finally underway, King allows herself a moment of genuine excitement for the evening's banquet. The servants of Songtao Pavilion prepare a lavish spread of food to celebrate their mistress' birthday in a rare moment of peace. King raises a cup to her loyal staff, announcing that everyone will receive a generous reward for their unwavering service. The room fills with warmth and laughter as the servants toast to King's health and a brighter future. Gazing into the distance, King finds herself wishing her departed family could witness her current strength and resilience. She finishes her drink with steel resolve, silently promising to bring her family's killers to justice once and for all. Amidst the celebration, Aunt Chen spots a familiar figure lurking in the shadows outside the pavilion. Using her acting skills, Aunt Chen fakes a dizzy spell to excuse herself from the lively table. She waves off the concerned maids, insisting she only needs a moment of fresh air to clear her head outside. Stepping out into the cool night air, she makes her way toward the hidden visitor, waiting in the courtyard. She approaches Xiaoju, questioning why the young lord is observing from the shadows instead of entering the study. Xiaoju turns to her with a serious gaze, asking for an honest assessment of what kind of person King really is. He admits that he initially viewed her as nothing more than a fragile and pitiable widow in need of protection. Aunt Chen smiles warmly, describing her mistress as a remarkable woman who can handle any adversary with grace. She explains how King uses subtle, soft knives against the Duchess and firm discipline against those who dare to insult her. Aunt Chen recounts the chaos of the recent scandals, highlighting how King stood her ground alone against the entire manor. Xiaoju watches the lit windows of the pavilion, realizing the immense pressure and isolation King has endured. He pulls out a small box and tasks Aunt Chen with delivering a birthday gift to the young madam in secret. Aunt Chen's eyes widen as she recognizes the heirloom jade bracelets, meant only for the family's official daughter-in-law. Xiaoju orders her to maintain a close watch on the pavilion, while he departs to settle urgent external affairs. The next morning finds King preparing for the day within the quiet safety of her private chambers. Aunt Chen carefully presents a decorative box containing a pair of exquisite, gold-inlaid jade bracelets. King gazes at the fortune-worthy jewelry in bewilderment, questioning the source of such a lavish gift. Aunt Chen spins a tale about a dream message from the young lord, claiming he sent the heirloom as a birthday reward for her dedication to the household. King immediately sees through fabrication, realizing Aunt Chen is testing her resolve to truly lead the family. She accepts the gift with a polite nod, choosing to play along with the seasoned servant schemes for now. The atmosphere shifts as Banksia reports a scandalous development. The second master's maid is officially pregnant. Banksia expresses her confusion over Madame Feng's unnerving smile and her sudden, fake display of generosity toward the news. King understands her cousin's hidden motives, knowing the woman is simply securing her position through forced magnanimity. With the household distracted by the drama, she sets her sights back on the investigation into her family's past. She commands Banksia to inform Steward Liu of her intent to visit the study for some light reading. Upon arrival, she finds the steward hovering nearby, his presence far more stifling than usual. The old man insists on personally attending to her, citing the Duke's strict orders to remain vigilant at all times. King senses his guard is up, wondering if the recent break-in has the entire estate on high alert. A sudden rhythmic thumping from the floor above catches her attention, sparking a daring plan in her mind. She immediately alerts the steward, feigning concern over the sound of pests damaging the library's collection. Banksia quickly catches on to the ruse, nodding vigorously to confirm the imaginary scratching of mice. The maid emphasizes the danger to the Duke's priceless archives, effectively baiting the trap for the suspicious steward. Driven by fear of the Duke's wrath, Steward Liu rushes up the stairs to investigate the disturbance. A heavy thud echoes through the building, prompting King and Banksia to follow close behind to investigate. They reach the upper landing just in time to witness the aftermath of the encounter. Standing over the unconscious steward is the mysterious man in black, exuding an aura of calm authority. Banksia gasps in terror, shielding her mistress from the masked intruder. King remains composed, gently dismissing her maid to go downstairs and serve as a lookout. Banksia hesitates, but eventually obeys, leaving her mistress alone with the dangerous stranger. The sound of the maid's retreating footsteps fades as she heads back to the ground floor. King firmly closes the door, ensuring their conversation remains strictly confidential. The masked man effortlessly shifts a heavy cabinet, revealing the fallen steward hidden beneath. He questions why she intentionally lured the old man into his path, suspecting her ulterior motives. When he asks why she doesn't tremble in his presence, she simply closes her eyes and asks if he truly intends to harm her. Since he poses no threat to her safety, she sees absolutely no reason to show fear. The intruder is visibly impressed, noting that this young madam possesses both remarkable courage and sharp wits. He produces a set of master keys taken from the steward, offering them to her as a professional courtesy for her help. King Ning reaches out, taking the cold metal keys that hold the secrets of the estate. Without another word, the man turns toward the window to make his silent exit. He leaps into the night air, vanishing as quickly as a shadow against the moonlit sky. King Ning wastes no time, heading straight for the innermost cabinet to locate the 10-year-old Lin family files. She feverishly sorts through the stacks of paper, searching for the evidence that will finally bring her justice. Her heart sinks as she realizes the critical records she seeks are nowhere to be found. King Ning walks through the silent corridors, realizing the crucial Lin family files were never in the Duke's possession to begin with. She stops, her eyes narrowing as she processes the sheer number of unanswered questions surrounding her family's tragic downfall. Clenching her resolve, she vows that no matter how difficult the path, she will never abandon her search for the truth. Meanwhile, in a private study, Xiaoju's subordinate eagerly asks if his master's secret mission went as planned. Xiaoju hands over 3 heavy scrolls, ordering them to be copied immediately before they are returned to avoid suspicion. The subordinate is puzzled, noting that all 3 cases involve incidents from 10 long years ago. With a sharp gaze, Xiaoju reveals that the man who nearly killed him at the border was tied to the Vice Minister of War, Wei Kang. He suspects a much larger shadow is pulling the strings and commands his man to begin the investigation at once. Taking a calm sip of tea, Xiaoju shifts his focus to the upcoming Mid-Autumn Festival banquet at the palace. He instructs his subordinate to send 2 elite guards to protect the young madam in secret during her first royal outing. 3 days later, on the eve of the banquet, Shen Ruoying intercepts King Ning outside the palace gates with a mocking sneer. She taunts King Ning for marrying a memorial tablet, claiming the other noble ladies will laugh her out of the room. Shen Ruoying's face twists into a smug grin, clearly enjoying her perceived social superiority. King Ning remains unfazed, coolly reminding her sister-in-law that a scandalous, rushed pregnancy is a far bigger target for ridicule. Leaving the fuming woman behind, King Ning walks toward the palace entrance with her head held high. Aunt Chen offers her reassurance, promising to shield her from any bullies within the palace walls. King Ning admits she doesn't need protection, as she plans to turn their pity into a marketing tool for her medical clinic. Inside, the palace is a sea of glowing lanterns and opulence, setting the stage for a night of high-stakes social warfare. The Lu family women make their grand entrance, walking through the crowded banquet hall under the watchful eyes of the court. The local noblewomen immediately begin whispering, shocked that Shen Ruoying would show her face while clearly pregnant. Shen Ruoying bites her lip, her internal rage simmering as she tries to ignore the biting gossip. Suddenly, Princess Jiamin stands up, her voice cutting through the air as she confronts the Lu family group. She lambasts Shen Ruoying for her shameless behavior, playing 2 brothers against each other for her own gain. Pointing an accusing finger, the princess demands to know if she was pregnant long before the marriage was even finalized. Shen Ruoying panics, desperately claiming the household physician can prove the timing of her conception. Princess Jiamin scoffs, noting that her failure to deny the affair with the younger brother is an admission of guilt in itself. The room erupts in quiet murmurs as Shen Ruoying stands humiliated in the center of the banquet. Jiamin then turns her sharp tongue on King Ning, calling her a fool for accepting such a raw deal in the marriage swap. Calmly, King Ning asks the princess if she truly believes the treacherous Lu Hangzi is better than the legendary young lord. She offers a gentle, knowing smile, suggesting that she was actually the one who came out on top in this arrangement. Declaring it an honor to be the young lord's widow, King Ning leaves the princess momentarily speechless. Impressed by her backbone, Princess Jiamin hands King Ning a personal token, inviting her to visit her residence anytime. Seizing the moment, King Ning mentions her clinic's special skin-whitening ointments, instantly capturing the princess's interest. Shen Ruoying watches from the sidelines, her blood boiling as she sees her rival gain an incredibly powerful ally. Her eyes turn cold and predatory, plotting a way to wipe that smug look off King Ning's face once and for all. She gives a subtle nod to her maid, Tao Yi, signaling that it's time to put their hidden plan into motion. King Ning's sharp eyes catch the maid slipping away, her instincts warning her that trouble is brewing. Knowing Tao Yi is a master of blending toxic fragrances, King Ning realizes she must be extremely cautious. Shen Ruoying approaches with a fake smile, raising a cup to toast her sister-in-law. With a calculated stumble, she tips her cup, drenching King Ning's sleeve in wine. She feigns deep regret, making a scene about her clumsiness while the wine soaks into King Ning's clothes. Shen Ruoying quickly suggests a nearby side room where King Ning can go to change into fresh attire. Sensing a trap, King Ning refuses the suggested room, her gaze lingering on the suspicious maid in the background. Aunt Chen suggests an alternative, the private quarters reserved for the young lord, whenever he stayed at the palace. Outside, the palace grounds are shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the flicker of red lanterns. King Ning settles into the quiet room, sitting by a warm brazier to let her damp clothes dry. She remains on high alert, trying to deduce exactly what Shen Ruoying hoped to achieve with the wine spill. The coals in the brazier glow intensely, radiating a heat that begins to fill the small space. A sweet, heavy aroma suddenly fills the air, catching King Ning off guard as she takes a breath. Terror strikes as she realizes a sedative was hidden in the wine, only releasing its fumes once exposed to the heat of the fire. Her vision blurs and her knees buckle as the potent drug takes immediate control of her nervous system. She begins to collapse, the world spinning around her as she loses the strength to stand. Just before she hits the floor, a strong hand reaches out and catches her around the waist. She is pulled into a firm embrace, and as her eyes flutter open, she finds herself staring into the face of a man in black. King Ning gasps in disbelief, her heart racing as she recognizes the unmistakable gaze of the young lord. King Ning leans into Xiaoju's hands, her eyes wide as she feels his warmth and questions if the young duke is truly alive. Xiaoju gazes down with a complicated expression, realizing she has been poisoned and wondering who would dare target her within the palace. King Ning struggles to stay conscious, her face flushed as the effects of the toxin cloud her judgment. Desperate to maintain her composure, she reaches for his waist, searching for the weapon he usually carries. Xiaoju immediately catches her hand, stopping her from doing anything reckless. He demands to know what she thinks she's doing as she clings to him for support. King Ning explains with a shaky breath that she needs to use a blade to jolt her senses and fight off the poison. She reaches up toward her hair, her movements becoming increasingly frantic. Pulling a sharp hairpin from her locks, she prepares to use it on herself to stay awake. Xiaoju firmly grips her wrists, preventing her from causing herself any physical harm. She collapses forward with a pain sigh, admitting that the sensation is becoming unbearable. Xiaoju looks at her with a mix of concern and resolve, his eyes narrowing as he decides on a course of action. He tells her to trust him, offering a specific internal energy technique to neutralize the poison. King Ning can barely mutter a response as her vision begins to blur and her strength fades. She falls completely unconscious into his arms, her head resting against his chest. Lifting her up with ease, Xiaoju prepares to use a detox method to force the toxins out of her system. He carries her over to a nearby bed, gently setting her down to begin the treatment. Positioning himself behind her, he focuses his internal energy on the technical task of detoxification. Aunt Chen enters the room with a tray of tea, unaware of the high-stakes situation unfolding inside. She freezes in shock upon seeing the young lord performing a medical procedure on the young madam. After the treatment is complete, Xiaoju carefully lays the now stabilized King Ning back down on the pillows. He pulls a blanket over her, ensuring she is comfortable while she recovers from the ordeal. Explaining the technical details to the stunned maid, he notes that King Ning will be fine after some rest. He gives a final instruction to Aunt Chen to look after her before slipping away into the shadows. Sometime later, King Ning slowly opens her eyes, her gaze still somewhat hazy as she wakes up. Aunt Chen leans over her, checking her condition and confirming that the danger has passed. King Ning quickly sits up, her first thought being the mysterious presence of the young duke. A servant rushes toward the room to deliver urgent news about a gathering of people outside. Realizing a plot is in motion, King Ning prepares herself to face whatever scandal has been manufactured. Outside, the family patriarch and others defend King Ning's reputation against the growing rumors of a scandal. A group of noblewomen whispers maliciously, eager to see the widow caught in a compromising position. Princess Jinan arrives on the scene, her presence adding weight to the public accusations. With a sneer, the princess demands the door be opened to expose the alleged shameless behavior. An observer watches the unfolding drama with a cold, calculating gaze. Suddenly, King Ning appears behind the crowd, looking perfectly composed and untouched by scandal. The accusers spin around in pure shock, unable to believe that the woman they were targeting is standing right there. The duke approaches her, confused about why everyone was so certain she was the one inside the room. King Ning points out that the rumors were spread by a specific maid, immediately turning the tables on her enemies. The gathered nobles begin to gossip, realizing that someone was clearly trying to frame the innocent young madam. Shen Ruoying panics, realizing her scheme has backfired and trying to distance herself from her own servant. Ruoying lashes out, slapping her maid Tao Yi in a desperate attempt to save her own skin. Tao Yi drops to her knees, trembling as she realizes she's being made the scapegoat for the failed plot. King Ning watches the performance with a piercing stare, fully aware of the malice behind the misunderstanding. Now curious about who is actually inside, the duke orders his men to break down the door. A guard slams his shoulder against the wood, forcing the entrance open for all to see. Princess Jinan screams in fury as she discovers her own consort is the one caught in the act. The princess's rage boils over as she stares at her unfaithful husband, the scandal now firmly on her doorstep. Shen Ruoying grits her teeth in anger, seeing her elaborate trap result in a total disaster for her allies. The duke realizes the gravity of the situation, knowing they have deeply offended the princess by exposing this truth. King Ning suggests a cold, logical solution. Hand over the deceitful maid to the princess to appease her. The duke immediately agrees, ordering his men to seize the terrified Tao Yi. Tao Yi is dragged away, desperately pleading for Ruoying to save her, But her mistress remains silent. Back in the safety of her room, Qingning whispers to Aunt Chen, tasking her with a secret investigation into the incense used. Aunt Chen reports back later, confirming that a double-layered trap of sedative and incense was used to target her. Qingning decides to hold on to this evidence, planning to use the poisoning charge against Shen Ruoying when the time is right. She adjusts her bracelet, her eyes filled with a cold determination to prioritize the most important mystery first. Turning to her trusted maid, she asks the question that matters most: the truth behind the young duke's return from the dead. Qingning stands her ground, demanding to know the truth behind the mysterious circumstances of her recovery. She examines the jade bracelet on her wrist, realizing that only the true master of the household could have provided such a treasure. Her gaze sharpens as she concludes that the supposedly deceased young duke is the one watching over her. Aunt Chen nervously wipes her brow, desperately trying to dismiss the accusation as mere speculation. Qingning refuses to back down, revealing that her knowledge of medicine allowed her to stay conscious during the poisoning. She vividly recalls the silhouette of Xiaoju appearing before her, proving beyond a doubt that he is still alive. With unwavering focus, she demands that the servant explain exactly what is happening within the estate. Overwhelmed by the weight of the secret, Aunt Chen drops to her knees and admits the matter is too grave to speak of openly. Qingning offers a reassuring hand, promising to keep the young duke's survival a total secret from the outside world. Shifting her focus, she questions how the princess's consort could have been lured into such a scandalous position. A dark memory surfaces of the consort being overcome by arousing incense and dragging a helpless maid into his bed. As she brushes her hair, Qingning realizes that a powerful player within the palace must have been behind the entire setup. Staring into the mirror, she steels her resolve to finally dismantle Shen Ruoying's web of lies. The following morning, Qingning begins her day with a quiet meal while Aunt Chen struggles to stay awake. Noticing the servant's exhaustion, Qingning asks if the stress of the secret kept her up all night. Aunt Chen admits she spent the entire night agonizing over how much the young madam truly knows. Suddenly, a frantic maid bursts into the room with urgent news regarding a medical emergency in the Duchess' quarters. Qingning immediately rises, prepared to face whatever new crisis has befallen the household. She arrives to find a grim scene where a physician tends to Biu following a tragic miscarriage. The Duchess is consumed by rage, pointing an accusing finger at the weeping woman for the loss of her grandchild. Turning the responsibility over, the Duchess commands Qingning to handle the messy aftermath of the situation. As she approaches the bedside, a familiar, pungent scent from the incense burner catches Qingning's attention. Biu sobs uncontrollably, insisting that her private meeting with the second master was supposed to be innocent. A flashback reveals Lu Hangji losing all self-control, aggressively forcing himself upon the terrified woman. Biu covers her face in shame, explaining that she was physically incapable of stopping his sudden outburst. Qingning analyzes the situation, knowing Biu would never intentionally jeopardize her only source of security. She leans in to comfort the grieving woman, suggesting that a hidden culprit may be responsible for the tragedy. Qingning points out that the second master's uncharacteristic behavior suggests his mind was being manipulated. Her suspicion is confirmed as she links the symptoms to the same toxic incense used against her at the palace. Biu sits up with a look of desperate hope, pleading for someone to help her uncover the truth. She collapses at Qingning's feet, vowing her eternal loyalty in exchange for a chance at vengeance. Qingning takes her hands firmly, giving her word that she will investigate the source of the poison. Before leaving, she quietly instructs her maid to secure a sample of the ash from the burner for analysis. Back in private, Qingning carefully examines the gray residue to confirm its chemical properties. That night, the sudden appearance of a man's boots near the doorway signals a high-stakes visitor. Xiaoju stands before her, confirming he received the urgent message sent by Aunt Chen. He warns her that his presence must remain a secret as he prepares to leave the city on a mission. The young duke acknowledges the chaos caused by the switched marriages and the unexpected complications that followed. Qingning explains the pressure she faced from those trying to force her into a lesser social standing. Xiaoju offers her a way out, promising to grant her a formal divorce and her freedom once his work is done. The thought of leaving the estate triggers a flash of internal panic within Qingning. She reaches out and grabs his hands, desperate to make him understand why she cannot simply walk away. A sudden, heavy thud from outside the door interrupts their tense conversation. Xiaoju looks down, noting the surprising contrast of the physical contact as they remain frozen. Outside, Aunt Chen desperately tries to block the entrance against an uninvited guest. A flushed and erratic Lu Hangji bellows his demands, determined to force his way into the room. Lu Hangji stumbles through the courtyard, searching desperately for his target. He stops in front of the door, certain that Qingning is hiding just behind it. Inside the room, Xiaoju and Qingning stand in tense silence as the intruder pounds on the woodwork. Qingning urgently gestures for her secret guest to find cover before she confronts the drunkard. Xiaoju's pride takes a hit as he realizes he's being forced to skulk in the shadows of his own home. He slips behind the partition just as Qingning prepares to face the unwanted visitor. Outside, a flushed and erratic Lu Hangji demands entry with a loud shout. Qingning throws the door open with a sharp look of annoyance, halting him in his tracks. Hangji's face lights up with a dazed grin, relieved that she finally decided to see him. She blocks his path, making it clear that any discussion will happen right here in the open. He brings up Bayu's recent tragedy, his tone laced with suspicion. King Ning realizes that Bayu wasted no time in spreading rumors, confirming her decision to keep the woman at arm's length. She retorts that her earlier comments were merely a prediction of his predictable behavior. Misinterpreting her coldness, Hangji leans in close, convinced she understands him better than anyone. King Ning reminds him of his place, ordering him to address her correctly and leave at once. Driven by delusion, he grabs her hands and begs her to become his equal wife. Watching from the darkness, Xiaoju's eyes narrow with a dangerous, protective intensity. King Ning slaps his hand away, her expression one of pure disgust at his audacity. Hangji corners her against the frame, claiming that the entire household will soon be his. A shadow falls over the intruder as a much more formidable presence enters the light. Xiaoju launches a devastating kick that sends the drunkard reeling backward. The impact is absolute, leaving Hangji crumpled and unconscious on the floor. Xiaoju steps over the fallen man to ensure King Ning is unharmed. She winces while rubbing her wrist, the mark of Hangji's rough grip still stinging. Xiaoju's face is a mask of fury as he realizes this isn't the first time she's been harassed. Sensing an opportunity, King Ning begins to formulate a plan to use this chaos to her advantage. She explains that if he leaves her now, she'll be left defenseless against such relentless pursuits. She challenges him, asking if his previous offer of freedom was just a polite way to cast her aside. She wonders aloud if there's another lady waiting in the wings for him to marry. King Ning takes his hand and makes a formal pact to remain his wife until he finds a true match. Xiaoju is caught off guard by her sincerity, his stoic facade momentarily crumbling. They remain linked in a firm, professional handshake that seals their new alliance. She notices his sudden hesitation and calls out to him, wondering why he's frozen. He pulls his hand away, struggling to reconcile his duty with his growing attachment. He clears his throat and agrees to the arrangement, provided she maintains her dignity throughout. Xiaoju beats a hasty retreat into the night, leaving a puzzled King Ning behind. Aunt Chen rushes to the scene, shocked to find the second young master out cold on the ground. King Ning decides to report the incident as a drunken accident, knowing the embarrassment will keep him quiet. The following morning, Shen Ruoying attempts to corner King Ning with a fake smile. King Ning doesn't even spare her a glance, focusing solely on the path ahead. She walks past her rival with total indifference, leaving Ruoying fuming in her wake. Ruoying's mask slips, her eyes burning with a mixture of fear and hatred at this new defiance. King Ning enters the main hall and performs her formal duties before the matriarch. Ruoying tries to manipulate the situation, acting hurt by King Ning's cold behavior. The dowager immediately takes Ruoying's side, scolding King Ning for her lack of consideration. Instead of fighting back, King Ning covers her face and begins to sob uncontrollably. Ruoying is left speechless, realizing that the game of manipulation has just reached a whole new level. King Ning hides her face behind her hands, sobbing uncontrollably as the matriarch looks on with visible concern. She dabs at her eyes with a handkerchief, spinning a tale of how Lu Hangzi drunkenly tried to claim her as a concubine. Shen Ruoying tries to interject with a panicked defense, but King Ning's performance is too convincing to ignore. Ruoying grits her teeth, her eyes wide with the realization that her husband's reckless actions have handed King Ning a perfect weapon. The matriarch gently takes King Ning's hands, urging her not to take the drunkard's nonsense to heart. Internally, the matriarch recoils at the thought of a scandal between brothers-in-law destroying the duke's reputation. Seizing the moment, King Ning begs for Lu Hangji to be banned from her pavilion to preserve the household's honor. The matriarch agrees to handle the matter personally, promising King Ning administrative power to ensure her silence. King Ning bows low, claiming she needs to retire to her room to recover from the emotional exhaustion of the night. As she steps away, her gait is steady and purposeful, showing no signs of the distress she just displayed. Once out of sight, she casually wipes away the remnants of her fake tears with a cold, calculating look. Her maid is in awe, noting that this is the first time she has ever seen the young mistress employ such a tactic. King Ning smiles, satisfied that she has successfully removed Lu Hangji's presence while gaining more influence in the residence. Meanwhile, Ruoying bursts into the room where Lu Hangji is trying to drink away his headache. She screams at him in a fury, demanding to know what business he had visiting King Ning's courtyard. Hangji glares back with irritation, questioning why she is so obsessed with his movements. Ruoying confronts him directly, her anger boiling over as she accuses him of seeking out another woman in the dead of night. Hangji reveals that he was following a lead on the poison that caused his previous loss of control. Ruoying's face drains of color as she realizes he is hunting for the source of the toxic incense. Hangji leans in close, his gaze sharpening as he wonders aloud if Ruoying herself was the one who poisoned him. She desperately denies the accusation, arguing that her position as his lawful wife makes such a scheme unnecessary. Hangji stares her down, vowing that he will never let the person who committed such a crime escape justice. Ruoying retreats to her seat, her mind racing with the danger of being exposed. She bites her nail in anxiety, wondering how on earth King Ning could have discovered a clue that she thought was buried. Back at the main pavilion, the atmosphere remains tense as the power dynamics shift. King Ning relaxes with a book, her maid praising her for outmaneuvering their rivals so effortlessly. A cold light glints in King Ning's eyes as she waits for the next move in this deadly game of chess. A messenger arrives with news that the Duchess is planning a ritual to cleanse the residence of vengeful spirits. Aunt Chen is outraged, Seeing through the Duchess's attempt to blame a ghost for the recent tragedies, King Ning realizes the Duchess is trying to link the miscarriage to Xiaoju's spirit to hide her own guilt. She maintains her composure, sending her maid away to prepare for a response to this new scheme. King Ning steps through the doors of her study, her mind already formulating a counterstrike. She sits down and quickly pens a letter to her husband, informing him of the Duchess's plan to use his name. In his secret quarters, Xiaoju is deep in his own work when Aunt Chen arrives with the urgent message. Aunt Chen hands him the letter, explaining that the mistress needs him to decide how to handle the situation. Xiaoju carefully breaks the seal and pulls out the parchment, his eyes scanning the contents. His expression darkens as he reads about the Duchess's attempt to frame his ghost for the household's misfortunes. He knows the poison mentioned is a rare substance from the western regions, proving a deeper conspiracy is at play. A grim smile touches his lips as he decides to give the Duchess exactly what she's asking for an encounter with a ghost. He instructs Aunt Chen to tell King Ning not to worry, as he will personally take care of the ritual. He sets the letter aside, his hand steady as he prepares for the upcoming confrontation. Xiaoju resolves to shut the Duchess up once and for all for her continuous bullying of his wife. The night of the ritual arrives, with the pavilion illuminated by a haunting glow over the water. Master Huishan chants his prayers while the Duchess puts on a show of mourning for the family. The Duchess smirks behind her prayers, confident that this religious theater will silence all rumors of foul play. Suddenly, the monk's chanting falters as he spots something terrifying in the distance. A dark figure moves across the bridge, appearing like a specter emerging from the night. The monk falls back in terror, pointing a trembling finger at the supposed ghost of the young master. The Duchess turns around, her face twisting in pure horror as her own lies seemingly manifest before her. Xiaoju stands tall in his full battle armor, looking every bit like a vengeful warrior returned from the grave. He stares down at the Duchess, asking with chilling calm if she wished for his death just to favor her second son. The Duchess recoils in absolute terror, hitting the floor as the weight of her sins catches up to her. Standing over her like a vengeful deity, Xiaoju demands an accounting for the way she has relentlessly bullied his wife. Panic erupts throughout the courtyard as the monks and servants flee in every direction, certain that a ghost has come to claim them. Scrambling backward, the Duchess tries to plead her case, desperately claiming that everything was just a simple misunderstanding. Xiaoju reaches out with a pale, haunting hand, inviting his mother to join him in the shadows of the afterlife. The sheer intensity of his presence is too much for her to bear, and she lets out a final, panicked cry. Her eyes roll back in her head as the shock of the encounter completely overwhelms her senses. She collapses into a heap on the ground, having fainted from pure, unadulterated fright. Xiaoju looks down at her with a scoff, unimpressed that his target was so easily broken by a few ghostly threats. The nanny approaches, wiping away her own nervous sweat, while admitting that even she would have been terrified if she hadn't known he was actually alive. She gently suggests that it is time for the young master to return to the Songtao Pavilion now that his point has been made. Xiaoju lets out an awkward cough, his stoic demeanor cracking slightly as he mentions needing to give specific instructions to Lady Gu. Sensing his hidden eagerness to see his wife, the nanny smiles knowingly and promises to clear out the other servants so they won't be disturbed. Night falls over the estate, casting a quiet, somber light over the heavy gates of the Songtao Pavilion. A disheveled Lu Hangji stumbles toward the entrance, his balance betrayed by his own intoxication. From the darkness, Xiaoju watches his brother's pathetic approach with an expression of cold, simmering irritation. Oblivious to the predator behind him, Hangji begins loudly reciting a dramatic love poem at the locked doors. Xiaoju's knuckles crack with a menacing sound as his patience for his brother's shameless behavior finally snaps. He moves in like a shadow, looming over the unsuspecting poet who is far too busy with his own voice to notice the danger. With a sudden, explosive movement, Xiaoju delivers a heavy kick that sends Hangji sprawling into the dirt. Grunting in pain, Hangji demands to know who would dare to lay a hand on a young master of this house. He looks up and his heart nearly stops when he sees the armored face of the brother he thought was dead. Hangji trembles violently, stammering out a plea as he wonders if he's being haunted by a vengeful spirit. Xiaoju decides that words aren't enough and proceeds to give his brother a physical reminder of why he should stay away from his wife. Hearing the commotion, the nanny cautiously opens the pavilion doors to investigate the source of the noise. Xiaoju stands calmly over the battered Hangji, ordering the nanny to have some servants haul the unconscious man away. She nods, informing him that the madam is already waiting for him in the study to discuss more pressing matters. His heavy boots click against the stone floor as he makes his way toward their meeting place. Inside, he finds King Ning focused on her studies, the soft lantern light highlighting her composed expression. She turns her head as he enters, looking every bit the poised mistress of the household. Her eyes widen slightly in surprise, not expecting him to arrive in his full set of battle-worn armor. As he approaches her, his massive frame creates a stark contrast against her delicate silhouette in the quiet room. Seeing him like this triggers a memory for King Ning, reminding her of the very first time she saw the legendary general. She recalls him as the most dazzling figure in the capital, a god of war returning home on a spirited white steed. Xiaoju breaks the silence, asking in a low voice if the pathetic howling from Hangji outside had caused her any alarm. She assures him that she is fine, but her gaze quickly drifts down to his hand. Without hesitation, she reaches out and takes his hand, pulling it closer to inspect it under the light. She points out that he has managed to cut himself, noting the injury with a look of genuine concern. Realizing the wound needs immediate care, she looks him in the eye and insists on treating it properly. She moves toward the corner of the room, quickly locating the medical supplies kept within the study. Sitting beside him, she maintains a strictly professional focus as she carefully applies the healing ointment to his skin. She leans in, blowing gently on the minor injury to ensure the medicine sets and dries quickly. Xiaoju watches her intently, a flicker of warmth entering his eyes at her meticulous and gentle care. He asks her quietly why she bothers to show him such kindness and attention over a simple scratch. Qingning offers him a soft, sincere smile, stating simply that it is only natural because he is her husband. Xiaoju abruptly pulls his hand away, ending the intimate moment of care. He awkwardly advises her to rest early, his face flushed with a rare hint of embarrassment. Qingning bids him a safe journey as he beats a hasty retreat from the room. Left alone, she stares blankly into the distance, feeling as though he is intentionally avoiding her presence. She looks downcast, wondering if her background makes him look down on her. Later, Aunt Chen informs her that the Duchess has fallen ill following the night's terrors. Qingning smirks, realizing that her ghostly husband has successfully kept her enemy at bay. Her amusement fades the moment she begins reviewing the household account books. She spots a massive discrepancy, noting that a locust plague has sent cotton prices skyrocketing. She quickly deduces that the Duchess intentionally handed over authority with a budget designed to fail. Qingning sets the book aside, refusing to simply return the power or pay the difference out of her own pocket. She stands with renewed resolve, deciding to outsmart the Duchess's vicious trap. Leaning in close, she whispers a set of secret instructions to her loyal confidante. 10 days later, she arrives at the garden pavilion to pay her respects. She gracefully greets the recovered Duchess and the gathered family members. The Duchess asks about the winter clothes, certain that the budget was impossible to maintain. Internally, the Duchess gloats, believing Qingning was forced to deplete her personal dowry to finish the task. Qingning remains perfectly composed, ignoring the silent judgment of those around her. Shen Ruoying feigns concern, loudly questioning if Qingning sacrificed her own fortune for the family. The Duke suddenly arrives, demanding to know what business involves a daughter-in-law's dowry. The family rises to greet the head of the household as the tension in the room peaks. He shakes his head in disapproval, worried that such rumors would destroy the duchy's reputation. The Duchess watches with a predatory gaze, waiting for the Duke to strip Qingning of her power. He suggests that if management is too burdensome, the Duchess should resume her old duties. A triumphant smirk spreads across the Duchess's face as she prepares to reclaim control. However, Qingning calmly intervenes, assuring her father-in-law that her dowry remains untouched. The Duchess snaps, shouting that it is impossible to have finished the work without extra silver. Qingning explains that the fabric shop owner provided a massive discount to repay a favor to Xiaoju. A flashback reveals Aunt Chen visiting the shop to negotiate the deal. The shop owner is eager to assist the family of the man who once saved his life. He insists on the lower price, viewing the discount as a small token of his immense gratitude. Qingning even provides him with a valuable tip regarding future cotton price drops to ensure he doesn't lose out. Overwhelmed by her foresight, the merchant bows deeply in appreciation. Qingning concludes the meeting, trusting the winter preparations to his capable hands. Back in the present, she adds that her dowry silver was actually donated to help disaster victims. The Duke is thoroughly impressed by her capability, leaving the Duchess speechless with shock. He immediately decrees that Qingning will now handle the prestigious New Year banquet. The Duchess desperately tries to object, claiming the young widow is too inexperienced for such social stakes. She forces a pained smile, terrified of losing half the household authority to her rival. Ignoring the protests, the Duke asks for Qingning's commitment, and she accepts with a polite nod. The decision is finalized, marking a massive shift in the internal power dynamics of the manor. Shen Ruoying fumes in silence, resentful that a widow is being given so much influence. Qingning feigns worry for the Duchess' health, suggesting she needs a physician for her pale complexion. The Duchess glares with pure malice, vowing to make the upcoming new year a nightmare for her. Qingning bows her head, maintaining her facade of a dutiful and obedient daughter-in-law. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Xiaoju receives a high-priority secret letter from the Emperor. He scans the contents carefully, his expression turning grim as he absorbs the news. He informs his subordinate that the borders are restless, and he must officially return to life. He holds the sensitive document over a flickering candle flame to destroy the evidence. The secret correspondence curls into ash, vanishing into the darkness. With a determined look, he announces his plan to return to the capital in 1 month's time. Gu Qingning dives headfirst into the chaotic preparations for the massive year-end banquet. She carefully selects the finest paper for the festive lanterns to ensure every detail is perfect. Maintaining a professional standard, she hands off a strict menu to the staff, demanding only the freshest ingredients. In the heat of the kitchen, she personally samples every dish to ensure the flavors meet her exacting requirements. As New Year's Eve arrives, the grand hall is filled with guests who can't help but praise King Ning's impeccable management. The Duchess seethes in the corner, unable to stomach the humiliation of being sidelined in her own home. She shoots a sharp look at Madame Chen, wordlessly commanding her to launch a verbal assault. Madame Chen sneers, mockingly pitying King Ning for being a lonely widow with no future. The insults continue as the ladies point out that King Ning will only grow more miserable while others bear children. The atmosphere turns ice cold as the guests realize they've pushed the young woman too far. With unflinching poise, King Ning reminds them that she is a third-rank court lady with a title granted by the emperor himself. She turns the tables, asking if they are daring to suggest the emperor's favor is something to be mocked. Terrified of the political implications, the noblewomen instantly collapse to their knees in a desperate plea for mercy. Madame Chen scrambles to her feet, her face pale as she tries to backtrack from her dangerous mistake. The realization that they've offended a titled lady leaves them trembling in fear of losing their heads. The Duchess watches with disgust, frustrated that her pawns were so easily silenced by a few sharp words. Suddenly, a servant bursts into the room, his voice shaking with a message that stops everyone's heart. The Duchess snaps at him, annoyed by the unrefined interruption during the formal dinner. The servant gasps out the impossible news. The young Duke has officially returned to the mansion. The doors swing open as the Duke strides in, accompanied by a man everyone believed was in a grave. A collective gasp ripples through the room as the guests stare at the ghost standing before them. Xiaoju stands tall, his presence commanding as he dryly confirms he is indeed very much alive. King Ning steps forward with professional grace, welcoming her husband back from the brink of death. Xiaoju catches her eye, noting her beauty and promising she'll never have to wear the somber colors of a widow again. The Duke steps in to smooth over the shock, explaining that his son had merely been recovering from a grave injury. The family takes their seats, though the air remains thick with unspoken tension and hidden agendas. Xiaoju breaks the silence, demanding to know why a stranger is sitting in his wife's rightful place. King Ning watches him closely, realizing he's playing a part to protect the secret of his early return. Shen Ruoying is struck by a wave of instant regret, realizing she traded away the powerful young Duke for his brother. The Duchess breaks into a cold sweat, terrified that a public scandal will destroy the family's reputation. The Duke tries to de-escalate, urging his son to eat now and save the difficult questions for later. Xiaoju takes his place beside King Ning, maintaining a distance that perfectly fits his role as the wronged brother. King Ning can't help but be impressed by how flawlessly he portrays a man whose life was stolen while he was away. The Duke raises a cup, attempting to mask the family drama with a festive toast to the new year. The family clinks their glasses together, though the celebration feels like a facade for the coming storm. Once the guests depart, the heavy silence of the manor returns as the core family faces the truth. Xiaoju drops the act, his voice turning lethal as he demands an explanation for the marriage exchange. Shen Ruoying immediately bursts into tears, using her grief as a shield to deflect his anger. She begs for forgiveness, claiming she was a victim of circumstance and pleading for him not to blame the others. The Duchess quickly intervenes, reminding Xiaoju that Ruoying is currently carrying the family's next heir. Xiaoju remains unmoved, questioning why they felt the need to swap the brides instead of seeking a simpler solution. Ruoying shifts the blame, claiming King Ning's refusal to share a husband forced their hand. King Ning's gaze narrows as she listens to them twist the narrative to suit their own selfish needs. She stands her ground, declaring she would rather remain a widow than ever accept the status of a concubine. Lu Hangji loses his temper, pointing an accusing finger at King Ning and insulting her humble origins. The Duke slams his hand onto the table, his roar putting an immediate end to the petty bickering. He looks at Xiaoju, suggesting that since the damage is done, they should simply leave the marriages as they are. Xiaoju's expression darkens, his eyes burning with a silent, dangerous intensity. The Duchess watches him like a hawk, wondering if he'll discard King Ning due to her lack of noble status. Ruoying wears a triumphant smirk, certain that a merchant's daughter could never hold the title of young duchess. Lu Hangji watches with a predatory grin, hoping to claim King Ning for himself once she's cast aside. Xiaoju slowly opens his mouth, ready to deliver a verdict that will change everything. He stuns the room by declaring that he has already accepted King Ning as his one and only lawful wife. King Ning looks up at him, her breath hitching as she realizes the young Duke has truly chosen her. Xiaoju offers a reassuring gaze, promising King Ning that he will shield her from the family's schemes from this day forward. The Duke finally breaks the silence, acknowledging their union and urging them to build a life together in peace. King Ning lowers her gaze, offering a respectful acknowledgement of her father-in-law's sudden change in tone. With the official business concluded, the Duke dismisses the family, allowing the tension in the room to finally dissipate. Xiaoju doesn't waste a second, leading his wife away from the prying eyes of their relatives. From the shadows, the Duchess watches them leave, her mind racing as she realizes her son has lost his chance at the inheritance. Her eyes narrow with malice, already plotting to replace King Ning with one of her own nieces should the girl fail to maintain her position. The couple arrives at Songtao Pavilion, where the loyal staff lines up to welcome their master home with deep bows. Xiaoju commends their hard work during his absence, promising them generous rewards for their dedication to the household. The servants filter out with bright smiles, leaving the newly reunited couple in the quiet of the night. Xiaoju reflects on the weight of their situation, knowing that while they are legally wed, the emotional bridge has yet to be fully crossed. He looks at King Ning with a mix of longing and hesitation, unsure if she has truly accepted him in her heart. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, King Ning makes a polite excuse to retreat to the inner courtyard for the night. Xiaoju watches her go, silently resolving that he will never force a commitment she isn't ready to give. Inside her room, King Ning sits at her vanity as her maid brings up the delicate subject of the evening's expectations. She knows that to truly secure her future and the honor of her family, she must embrace her role as the young lord's wife. Steeling her resolve, she instructs her staff to prepare hot water for a bath, signaling her intent to fulfill her duties. Her maid gently unpins her hair, sighing over the heavy burdens her mistress has been forced to carry alone. King Ning stares into the mirror, reminding herself that this path is a far kinder fate than anything Lu Hangji would have offered. The maid looks on with concern, still worried about the sudden weight of these traditional expectations. A soft blush creeps onto King Ning's face as she admits that Xiaoju's constant protection has already won over her heart. She takes her maid's hand, offering a reassuring smile that she is ready to move past her widow status for good. Taking a deep breath, she asks the elder woman to explain the traditional rites required of a bride on her true wedding night. Dressed in her night robes, King Ning waits by the mirror until the sound of approaching footsteps signals Xiaoju's arrival. He stands in the doorway, the soft light of the room illuminating his steady, protective presence. King Ning rises to greet him, her formal posture masking the fluttering of her heart. Seeing that she has already prepared for the evening, a faint, relieved smile touches Xiaoju's lips. He steps closer, his voice low and sincere as he acknowledges the suffering she endured while he was away. His hand clenches at his side, the weight of the moment making even the legendary general feel a hint of nerves. He asks her directly if she is truly prepared to become his wife in every sense of the word. King Ning meets his gaze with unwavering loyalty, declaring that she has belonged to him since the moment she entered the duchy. Xiaoju takes her hands in his, promising that he has never once looked down on her background, only ever seeing her as his partner. Overwhelmed by his genuine affection, King Ning realizes she is finally safe and cherished. Xiaoju gently cups her face, his touch conveying a depth of emotion that words cannot reach. He gazes into her eyes, searching for any sign of hesitation and finding only trust. He leans down to press a solemn, traditional kiss to her forehead, sealing their vow to one another. With a soft request for permission, he lifts her into his arms as she nods her silent consent. He carries her toward the ceremonial bed, the final step in solidifying their union within the duchy. He sets her down with the utmost care, treating her like the precious treasure she is. Reaching out, he draws the heavy silk curtains closed, shutting out the rest of the world and its troubles. In the quiet of the night, he promises to be her shield forever, a vow King Ning accepts with total confidence. Suddenly, King Ning winces in pain, clutching her abdomen as a sharp cramp hits her. She gently pushes back, her face pale as she tries to manage the unexpected physical discomfort. Xiaoju pauses, his sharp eyes picking up on her immediate physical resistance. He immediately sits up, assuring her that he won't pressure her until she is fully comfortable with the situation. King Ning explains that the exhaustion from the New Year banquet has caused her cycle to arrive early. Realizing it's a matter of health rather than emotional rejection, Xiaoju's intense expression softens. He places a steadying hand on her head, deciding he won't be leaving her side tonight. He heads off to change his attire, noting that leaving now would only spark cruel rumors about his wife's status. King Ning asks if he'll take the inner side of the bed, curious if he'll follow the strict noble protocols. Xiaoju insists she take the inner spot so she can rest undisturbed for as long as possible tomorrow. The two settle into bed, the room falling into a quiet, respectful silence as they lie down. However, a soft groan escapes King Ning's lips as the pain persists through the night. Xiaoju leans in close, his voice a low whisper as he asks if the pain is still bothering her. He gently places his hand over her stomach, providing a soothing warmth to alleviate the cramps. King Ning looks up at him, surprised by the sudden relief his presence provides. She feels the tension leave her body as the warmth from his palm begins to dull the ache. Her eyelids grow heavy, finally finding the peace she needs to drift off into a deep sleep. The next morning, Xiaoju steps out of the room, cautioning the staff to keep the noise down. He instructs the maid to let his wife sleep and informs her that he is heading to see the Duke. The maid watches him leave, beaming with joy that her mistress is finally being treated with such care. Xiaoju arrives at the Duke's study, offering a formal greeting to his father. When asked about his night, Xiaoju calmly confirms that everything went perfectly well. The Duke, influenced by Madame Feng's schemes, considers if King Ning is truly the right match for his son's status. He suggests that a woman from a more prominent family might be better suited to bolster Xiaoju's career. Xiaoju firmly rejects the idea, revealing that a traitor in the army has already tried to end his life once. The Duke is visibly shaken, horrified that someone in the imperial court is actively targeting his son. Xiaoju urges his father to remain discreet so they don't alert the hidden enemy. He takes a slow sip of tea, adding that there is likely an informant lurking right within their own residence. The Duke's mind immediately goes to Madame Feng, wondering if she is the snake in their grass. Satisfied with the warning, Xiaoju stands to take his leave from the study. Outside, the household staff keeps a close watch on his movements, reporting back to their respective masters. Shen Ruoying spots him approaching and prepares to put her manipulative plan into motion. She offers a respectful greeting, maintaining a polite facade as she blocks his path. She feigns concern, asking if he was too hard on King Ning during their first night together. Internally, she gloats, convinced that Xu must be frustrated with his current marriage. She envisions a future where King Ning is discarded and divorced, leaving the position open once more. Xiaoju counters her sharply, reminding her that she was the one who conspired to swap the brides. The bluntness of his retort catches her completely off guard, shattering her composure. She quickly shifts tactics, pulling out a handkerchief and pretending to weep over past forced choices. Xiaoju remains entirely unmoved, staring her down with a cold and piercing gaze. She realizes with a start that her usual charms and tears are having zero effect on him. Desperate, she fakes a sudden bout of illness, clutching her stomach and swaying on her feet. She reaches out to grab his sleeve, hoping to force a moment of physical contact and sympathy. Xiaoju violently shakes her off, telling her if she's sick, she needs a doctor, not him. Ruoying nearly falls over as her maid rushes forward to catch her stumbling form. He coldly commands the maid to take her mistress back to her quarters and summon the resident's physician immediately. Left alone, Ruoying seethes with rage, realizing she has no power over the man she once thought she could manipulate. An urgent summons from the Duchess echoes through the manor, demanding the presence of the young lord and lady. Xiaoju and King Ning make their way through the corridors, ready to face whatever scheme has been cooked up this time. Inside the chambers, Lu Hangji is in a blind rage, accusing his brother of causing Ruoying's sudden collapse. Xiaoju's expression hardens into a mask of pure coldness as he listens to the baseless accusations. Losing his patience, Xiaoju seizes the younger man by his robes, offering to give him a real reason to complain. Fearing a violent escalation, King Ning quickly steps forward and grips Xiaoju's arm to pull him back. She turns her focus to Hangji, firmly telling him to wait for the doctor's report before pointing fingers. The stern rebuke leaves Hangji momentarily speechless, his bravado crumbling under her steady gaze. The physician concludes his examination, revealing that Ruoying's fainting spell was simply the result of overthinking. Hangji immediately softens, rushing to the bedside to reassure his wife that her pregnancy is safe. Seizing the opportunity, King Ning suggests that Ruoying's distress stems from a very specific source. Hangji looks up in confusion, stunned by the implication that he might be the cause of her suffering. With a calculated air of concern, King Ning explains that Ruoying felt abandoned after he took a new concubine. Ruoying bolts upright in bed, her face pale as she desperately tries to deny the claim. King Ning doesn't let up, asking why she would wait at the study door if she wasn't feeling neglected. Xiaoju watches his wife with silent admiration, realizing she is far more strategically minded than anyone gave her credit for. The seed of doubt is planted as Hangji demands to know if his wife was indeed chasing after his brother. Ruoying can only stammer in panic, her attempt to play the victim backfiring spectacularly. Satisfied with the chaos they've left behind, Xiaoju leads King Ning out of the room. Back in the safety of their own quarters, a maid carefully prepares a fresh pot of tea for the couple. They sit in a rare moment of quiet, the tension of the earlier confrontation slowly fading away. Xiaoju looks down at the table, reflecting on the constant internal battles King Ning is forced to fight. He reaches out, gently placing his hand over hers in a rare gesture of silent support. King Ning gazes up at him, her eyes wide with surprise at this unexpected display of warmth. He promises her that from now on, he will be the one to stand up and ensure she is never wronged again. For the first time since her family's downfall, King Ning feels the weight of her burdens start to lift. Xiaoju stands to return to his duties, though his mind remains fixed on her well-being. Before leaving, he announces his intention to personally escort her to her family home the following day. As he walks away, his presence leaves a lingering sense of security in the room. Her maid beams with joy, noting how much more respect she will receive with the young lord by her side. King Ning recalls the bitterness of her previous visit, where she was met with nothing but cold indifference at the gates. She realizes that Xiaoju's gesture is a calculated move to restore her honor in the eyes of her relatives. The next morning, the courtyard is a hive of activity as servants load the carriages with gifts and supplies. Nearby, Ruoying seethes with jealousy, still frustrated by the fallout of her failed scheme. King Ning arrives at the marquisate, walking with a calm grace that irritates her sister even further. Ruoying immediately begins her verbal assault, mocking King Ning for supposedly returning without her husband. She smugly suggests that a man as important as Xiaoju would never waste time on such a trivial visit. King Ning remains perfectly composed, refusing to give her sister the satisfaction of a reaction. Ruoying's smile widens, convinced that she has finally managed to humiliate her rival. Her triumph is short-lived as Xiaoju suddenly appears, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. He walks directly to King Ning's side, making it clear to everyone present exactly where his loyalty lies. Ruoying's face contorts in shock, her brain struggling to process the sight of the young lord in person. Xiao Ju turns his attention to the carriage, noting the height and offering his assistance. He places a firm, supportive hand on her waist to guide her movement. With effortless strength, he lifts her up to help her into the high-stepping vehicle. He ensures she is safely settled before preparing to join her for the journey. Ruoying watches from the sidelines, desperately trying to convince herself that this is all just a show. The carriage wheels begin to turn, marking the start of a very different kind of homecoming. Inside the quiet carriage, the couple sits side by side as the scenery rolls past. Xiaoju notices her silence and asks if his public display of protection made her feel awkward. Qingning shakes her head, admitting that while it was unusual, she appreciated his support. She confesses that she was merely reflecting on how lonely her previous visit had been. Xiaoju's eyes soften with a protective intensity as he listens to her history of mistreatment. He takes her hand again, vowing that the days of her being neglected by this family are officially over. Upon their arrival, the procession stops before the grand entrance of the Shen residence. The Marquis welcomes them warmly, though the tension among the family members is palpable. Hidden in the background, Shen Yanran watches with narrowed eyes, plotting a way to avenge her sister. As Qingning walks through the garden, the younger sister moves to intercept her path. Yanran sneers at her, calling her a lowly orphan who has grown far too arrogant. Qingning stops and looks down at the girl, questioning if the Marquis forgot to teach her proper etiquette. Infuriated by the calm response, Yanran points an accusing finger and continues her screeching insults. The air crackles as Qingning delivers a swift, stinging slap that sends the girl reeling. Standing tall as a third-rank titled lady, Qingning declares that she will personally handle the education her sister lacks. Yanran fumes with rage, vowing to expose Qingning's supposed tyranny to the family matriarch. Her mother and Ruoying quickly follow, eager to witness the fallout of the slap. Ruoying wears a smug expression, certain that grandmother's authority will finally break Qingning's spirit. Yanran collapses into grandmother's arms, putting on a tearful performance to gain sympathy. The old madam gently touches Yanran's swollen cheek, her eyes widening in disbelief at the injury. Qingning enters the room with a calm, regal poise that contrasts sharply with the chaos around her. The family members offer their formal greetings while Yanran continues her dramatic sobbing. The old madam erupts in fury, demanding to know if Qingning considers the elders to be completely powerless. Qingning stares back unflinchingly, reminding them that her imperial title makes any offense against her a crime against the throne. Grandmother scoffs at the threat, revealing that Yanran is poised to become the third prince's consort. Yanran stands up with renewed confidence, ordering Qingning to kneel and beg for forgiveness while she still can. Ruoying plays the part of the concerned sister, warning that Qingning's stubbornness will bring ruin to their entire house. She leans in close, urging Qingning to just admit fault and save the family's reputation. With a sharp movement, Qingning throws Ruoying's hand off her arm in total defiance. She stands tall, declaring that since she did nothing wrong, she has absolutely nothing to admit. Ruoying's mask of kindness slips, replaced by a cold and menacing gaze. Qingning shuts down the demands, making it clear that kneeling to someone of lower rank is out of the question. Yanran clutches grandmother's arm again, whispering more poison about Qingning's hidden motives. Grandmother's hand strikes the table with a resounding crack as her patience finally snaps. She points a trembling finger at Qingning, swearing to personally teach her the meaning of gratitude. A group of stern guards enters the hall, bowing as they prepare to carry out the old madam's orders. Grandmother barks out the command for the guards to seize Qingning and force her onto the floor. Banksia bravely throws herself in front of her mistress, determined to protect her from the assault. The guards ruthlessly grab the young maid, twisting her arms behind her back to clear the path. Qingning's eyes widen in shock as she watches her loyal servant being treated so violently. Ruoying watches the escalating violence with a chilling smile, anticipating Qingning's total downfall. Amidst the struggle, Qingning reveals that the Marquisate has never spent a single coin on her upkeep over the years. She confronts them with the truth of her childhood, where even the servants were allowed to bully her. The old madam's expression falters for a moment as the weight of the truth hits home. Yanran ignores the revelation, screaming for the guards to fulfill their duty and press Qingning down. A guard's heavy hands clamp onto Qingning's shoulders, beginning to force her toward the ground. Ruoying and her mother shout with frantic energy, desperate to see Qingning humbled. Qingning resists with every ounce of strength she possesses, refusing to let her spirit be broken. Images of her past life flash before her eyes, reminding her of the years she spent suffering in silence. She remembers the lonely, weeping girl she used to be and realizes she can never go back to that. Gritting her teeth against the pain, she vows that she will never kneel to these people again. The guard doubles his efforts, leaning his full weight onto her shoulders to crush her resistance. Suddenly, the sound of rapid, heavy footsteps rings out across the courtyard. Xiaoju arrives like a whirlwind, delivering a devastating kick that sends the guard flying backward. Grandmother gasps in horror as she watches her enforcer being neutralized in an instant. She stares in a cold sweat, realizing she completely underestimated Xiaoju's protective nature. Xiaoju gently supports Qingning, his voice softening as he asks if she is all right. He pulls her close to his chest, his eyes filled with regret for not arriving to save her sooner. Without another word to the family, he begins to lead Qingning out of the toxic manor. He casts one last piercing look over his shoulder, a silent promise that this insult will not go unpunished. Inside the carriage, Xiaoju sits firmly beside Qingning, assuring her that a husband's duty is to protect his wife from those who would dare to bully her. Qingning looks at him with eyes full of genuine emotion, realizing that while her own family turned a blind eye to her suffering, this man is determined to help her reclaim her dignity. As Xiaoju gently takes her hand, he explains that the Marquis is desperately trying to win favor at court, meaning an apology from the Shen family is likely coming soon. He looks directly at her, asking for her input on how she wishes to handle the inevitable arrival of their so-called relatives. Qingning's gaze hardens as she recalls how the Marquisate shielded the malicious Shen Ruoying, even when she used a maid named Toei to manufacture deadly incense. Xiaoju's expression shifts to one of cold fury upon learning that such a dangerous individual was being harbored within the duchy. A dark memory flashes by of Toei pleading for mercy, a mere scapegoat sacrificed by Ruoying to cover up her own failed poisoning attempt. Qingning explains that the family's recent hostility was nothing more than redirected rage because Ruoying failed to secure her place as Xiaoju's wife. She leans in, eyes burning with a strategic fire as she declares her intent to expose Ruoying's crimes and strike fear into the heart of the entire marquisate. Xiaoju offers a sharp, confident smirk, fully prepared to provide whatever resources are necessary to set her plan in motion. Qingning smiles back with a calculated glint in her eye, asking him to help her find the perfect actors for the performance of a lifetime. The following day arrives with a peaceful exterior at the residence, though the air inside is thick with tension. The Marchioness and the second young madam arrive at the door, carrying a gift box as a peace offering for the woman they once despised. Qingning doesn't even look up from her book, maintaining a cold and detached professional distance as she questions why they've bothered to visit. The memory of the Marquis's rage looms over them, recalling the moment he brutally slapped Shen Yanran for jeopardizing his political standing with Xiaoju. Yanran had been left in tears, stunned that her own father would strike her over his concerns for his status at court. Even as the Marchioness tried to shield her daughter, the Marquis remained unmoved by their pleas for mercy. He had turned his violence toward his wife as well, demanding they both apologize to Qingning or face total exile from the family. Back in the present, the Marchioness and Ruoying stand before Qingning, offering a box of gifts in a desperate attempt to smooth over the previous day's conflict. The Marchioness forces a polite smile, though her hands are tightly clenched in a display of suppressed frustration. Internally, she seethes with resentment, only performing this charade because the Marquis insisted on finding a way to appease Lu Jingyu. Ruoying stands by her side, both women putting on a fragile front of sisterly concern that barely masks their true feelings. Qingning looks away with a sigh, noting that the true instigators, the old madam and Yanran, are far too cowardly to show their faces. She looks Ruoying dead in the eye and delivers a crushing ultimatum. If they want her forgiveness, they must kneel and apologize on behalf of the others. The Marchioness snaps, pointing a finger at Qingning and accusing her of being arrogant, just because she has Xiaoju's backing. Ruoying tries to regain control of the situation, pleading for family unity and warning that the Duke wouldn't want their reputation ruined by such a public scandal. Despite her words, Ruoying's inner panic begins to rise as she realizes that kneeling to an orphan is a humiliation she cannot endure. Qingning suddenly changes the subject, asking Ruoying if the scent of the incense currently burning in the room feels familiar to her. Ruoying's eyes go wide with shock, her pulse racing as she recognizes the trap being set. Qingning stands up slowly, approaching the ornate incense burner, while explaining that she had this specific scent recreated after smelling it in the palace. She wafts the smoke toward herself, casually mentioning that this was the very same scent present when a certain maid suffered a tragic miscarriage. Ruoying's mind screams in terror, knowing that only her missing maid Toei knew the secret formula for this specific poison. Sweat beads on Ruoying's lip as she tries to maintain her composure, stammering out a weak agreement that the coincidence is indeed strange. Qingning steps into Ruoying's personal space, warning her that the longer she stays, the more the scent will cling to her clothes before she sees Lu Hangji. She whispers a chilling reminder of how Hangji reacted to this scent before, leading to the violent loss of a child. Overwhelmed by the psychological pressure and the fear of losing her own standing, Ruoying turns to flee the room in a panic. Qingning's hand shoots out, gripping Ruoying's arm with an iron hold that prevents any escape. She raises her voice, demanding that Ruoying admit she was the one who used this incense to attempt a poisoning at the palace. The Marchioness rushes forward, frantically trying to pull Qingning's hand away from her daughter. She manages to grab Qingning's wrist, desperate to stop the physical confrontation and the brewing scandal. Ruoying tries to pivot back to her usual lies, claiming Qingning is only acting out of jealousy because Hangji supposedly loves her alone. Qingning scoffs at the delusion, revealing that Hangji had actually offered to take her as a secondary wife because he regretted the marriage swap. She smiles victoriously, pointing out that all the family's previous attempts to vent their anger on her were completely in vain. Ruoying's facade finally shatters, and she screams at Qingning that she will never kneel to someone she considers beneath her. In a fit of unhinged rage, Ruoying confesses to everything, admitting she gave arsenic to those who stood in her way and insulting everyone she deems lowborn. Kingning's expression turns to one of cold satisfaction as she notes that Roying has finally said the truth out loud. Suddenly, the doors swing open as Lu Hangji and a group of witnesses enter, having heard the entire horrific confession. Hangji looks at Roying with a face full of heartbreak and horror, asking if she truly had the heart to harm his unborn child. Roying immediately collapses into a performance of victimhood, grabbing Hangji's robes and claiming Kingning coerced her into saying those things. She looks up at him with tear-filled eyes, pleading for him to believe her lies one last time. Deep down, she remains calculating, convinced that without Toei as a physical witness, no one can actually prove her crimes. She hides a smirk behind her hand, certain that she can still manipulate her way out of this, as long as she keeps denying everything. But the shadow of Xiaoju falls over the room as he steps forward, declaring that Roying won't stop lying until she's faced with the ultimate proof. Roying's heart skips a beat when she realizes the girl being carried in on the stretcher is still breathing. In a flashback to their carriage ride, Kingning explains that rescuing Tao Yi is the only way to secure a witness against Roying. Xiaoju gives a firm nod, vowing to find a way to extract the girl from the princess's residence, dead or alive. Deep in the night, he returns to confirm the success of the mission, having swapped Tao Yi with a decoy corpse to fool her captors. He immediately barks orders to his men to bring the battered and bruised witness inside to face her former mistress. Kingning leans over the wounded girl, offering her full protection in exchange for the absolute truth. Tao Ye, barely clinging to life, sheds tears of gratitude as she agrees to testify against the woman who discarded her. The girl points a trembling finger at Roying, accusing her of ordering the use of aphrodisiac incense against the eldest madam. Roying recoils in sheer horror, lashing out with desperate denials and calling the witness a wretched liar. She clings to Lu Hangji's arm, begging him to believe she is being framed by a servant who was clearly tortured into lying. Hangji tries to intercede on her behalf, but the room remains cold to her frantic pleas. Internally, Roying sneers, convinced that without physical evidence, the word of a servant won't be enough to convict her. Xiaoju shatters her confidence by revealing he has already located the secret chamber, where she hides her poisons. A guard presents a wooden box, popping the lid to reveal the incriminating incense hidden inside. The color drains from Roying's face as her final line of defense is stripped away. Xiaoju flashes a cold, predatory smirk, asking if she's curious how he managed to bypass her secret locks. He explains with clinical detachment that his military subordinates are experts at navigating complex mechanisms and hidden traps. A memory shows his men effortlessly unlocking the chamber, rendering Roying's unbreakable security useless. Looming over the trembling woman, Xiaoju demands she explain herself now that both witness and evidence are present. Roying stammers, her eyes darting around the room as her web of lies completely collapses around her. The young lord delivers a chilling reminder that poisoning within the palace is a capital offense punishable by public beheading. Overwhelmed by the sudden terror of death, Roying falls to the floor with a piercing, desperate scream. A dark, ominous bloodstain begins to spread rapidly across the front of her expensive silk dress. Lu Hangji's eyes widen in terror as he notices the blood, his anger momentarily replaced by panic for his unborn child. He scoops her up and rushes out of the room, shouting for someone to fetch a physician immediately. Later, the family gathers as the doctor warns that while the child is safe for now, the pregnancy is extremely fragile. Xiaoju turns to the Duke, his voice steady as he asks how Roying should be punished for her crimes. The Duke's voice booms with authority as he orders Roying to be confined to the side courtyard and stripped of all household power. Roying attempts to protest from her bed, using her weakened state and the child as a shield to avoid exile. Internally, she seethes with resentment, refusing to let her rival, Biu, step over her and take her place. She reaches out to Lu Hangji, begging him to consider their innocent child and spare her from the cold courtyard. He roughly shakes her hand off, reminding her that Biu's lost child was also innocent of any wrongdoing. With a look of pure disgust, he tells her to accept her punishment and turns his back on her entirely. Roying hides her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably as she realizes her influence has evaporated. Kingning watches her sister's downfall with a stoic expression, noting that this outcome is a direct result of her own malice. Xiaoju reaches out and takes Kingning's hand, providing a silent but powerful anchor of support. He addresses the Duke, explaining that Kingning suffered Roying's schemes in silence only to protect the family's honor. He makes it clear that he was the one who forced the investigation to ensure his wife finally received justice. Kingning looks up at him, realizing he purposefully took the public initiative so the family wouldn't blame her for the scandal. A soft, genuine blush colors her cheeks as she feels the depth of his protection for the first time. The Duke softens his tone, praising Kingning for her sensible nature and promising she won't suffer in vain. Outside in the moonlight, Kingning offers her heartfelt thanks to Xiaoju for upholding justice on her behalf. Xiaoju watches her with a tender gaze, silently vowing to personally repay every single grievance she ever suffered. In another part of the estate, a maid serves tea while catching her madam up on the explosive drama at the Marquis' house. The madam finds the story of the sisters' mutual destruction to be a spectacular and welcome development. She smiles into her teacup, believing that with both sisters out of the way, no one can challenge her household authority. The sound of heavy, rhythmic footsteps echoes through the corridor, signaling the arrival of the master. The Duke enters the room, his presence immediately commanding the attention of the two women. He sits down and delivers a crushing decree, ordering the madam to train Kingning to manage the family's estates and shops. The madam's face contorts in pure, unadulterated shock as she realizes her power is being handed to the woman she hates most. The Marchioness erupts in a fit of rage, demanding to know why her years of hard work are being cast aside in favor of Gu Kingning. The Duke remains unmoved by her outburst, firmly stating that the household must be stabilized after the recent turmoil. His gaze turns ice-cold as he questions if she is truly against her own children, eventually taking the reins of the estate. In a sudden flash of fury, he splashes his tea directly at her, accusing her of wishing for Jinyu's demise. Trembling with fear, the Marchioness recoils, her previous arrogance completely shattered by his intensity. The Duke delivers a final ultimatum, ordering her to begin teaching Kingning the inner workings of the family businesses tomorrow. He storms out of the room, leaving the Marchioness to desperately plead for his forgiveness through her tears. Once alone, she collapses into her seat, cursing Kingning for the humiliation she has just endured. Night falls over the quiet and dignified Songtao Pavilion as the household settles into silence. Inside, a maid reminds Kingning of the tradition to sleep apart during her monthly cycle to preserve the household's luck. Kingning listens quietly, a hint of loneliness crossing her face as she prepares for a solitary night. The door suddenly opens to reveal Xiaoju, who has unexpectedly returned from the front courtyard. The maid can't help but smile at the young lord's devotion as he approaches his wife. Xiaoju looks at Kingning with a soft, gentle expression, his usual stoicism completely melted away. He reaches out to take her hands, explaining that he came back specifically to keep her company after such a stressful day. Seeing her hesitation, he earnestly explains that there is nothing improper about a husband wanting to be by his wife's side. Kingning's cheeks flush a deep crimson as she realizes she completely misread his pure intentions. With the misunderstanding cleared, Xiaoju leads her toward the bed so they can finally get some rest. They settle in together, the atmosphere thick with a sense of mutual protection and peace. Xiaoju holds her hand firmly, admitting that the light punishment for Ruoying feels like a grave injustice to her. Realizing he returned solely to comfort her, Kingning feels a wave of warmth and gratitude for his support. Xiaoju watches her closely, worrying that her silence means she is on the verge of breaking into tears. He stares at her with intense focus, racking his brain for the best way to provide emotional support. He recalls a humorous memory of his soldiers giving him questionable advice on how to cheer up a lady. Stealing his resolve, he leans in close, determined to use whatever tactics necessary to make her feel better. He gives her a gentle, reassuring kiss, catching Kingning completely off guard by his sudden boldness. He pulls back slightly, searching her eyes to see if his attempt at comfort was actually effective. Kingning immediately dives under the covers to hide her embarrassment, her heart racing from the unexpected gesture. A satisfied smile plays on Xiaoju's lips as he concludes that his deputy's advice actually worked. He pulls her close for a protective embrace, and the two finally drift off into a deep, peaceful sleep. The next morning, the sun shines brightly through the lattice windows of their private quarters. Kingning dutifully assists her husband with his belt as he prepares to head out for an important meeting. Their morning routine is interrupted by a maid announcing that the Duchess has requested Kingning's immediate presence. Xiaoju gives her a final look of encouragement, reminding her that she doesn't have to endure any mistreatment. Walking with purpose, Kingning makes her way to the meeting, ready to face whatever scheme the Marchioness has planned. She enters the hall and offers a formal, respectful greeting to her mother-in-law and the attending servants. The Marchioness dismissively tosses a stack of account books onto the table, claiming she is far too busy to provide personal instruction. A clever servant suggests that Kingning should prove her worth by overseeing the complicated renovation of the Duke's study. The Marchioness feigns a sudden bout of poor health, tasking Kingning with the project to keep her occupied. A sinister glint appears in the Marchioness's eyes, hoping the difficult task will lead to Kingning's eventual failure and disgrace. Kingning accepts the challenge with a polite bow, hiding her true thoughts behind a mask of obedience. She realizes this is the perfect opportunity to search the study for the secret documents she has been hunting for. Upon arriving at the study, she takes command of the workers and begins a thorough inspection of the first floor. She mentions a broken shelf on the second floor to her maid, using it as a pretext to investigate the restricted area. They climb the wooden stairs together, moving toward the upper level of the massive library. Reaching the top, Kingning instructs her maid to stand guard at the door to ensure they aren't interrupted. She steps into the room alone, her eyes scanning every corner for anything hidden or out of place. Her search leads her to a specific set of shelves, where she begins meticulously checking the various ornaments. Her fingers find a hidden compartment, and she carefully withdraws a dusty, rolled-up scroll. A look of triumph washes over her face as she realizes she has finally found the evidence she needs. Kingning's mind drifts back to a time of warmth and laughter, remembering the family dinners she can never have again. The weight of her loss finally breaks through, and she can't stop the tears from falling for the parents she misses so dearly. She quickly brushes away the moisture from her eyes, refusing to let grief paralyze her mission. Standing tall, she clutches the recovered scroll, swearing an oath to restore her family's name, and finally let them rest in peace. She returns to the desk to analyze the evidence, her silhouette framed by the flickering candlelight of the Duke's study. With steady hands, she dips her brush into the ink, ready to document every discrepancy in the official report. Her eyes remain sharp as she transcribes the details of a massacre that was far too conveniently solved. In her mind's eye, she visualizes the original trial where a lone bandit leader offered a suspiciously perfect confession. She notes the testimonies of the two key witnesses, a night watchman and a neighbor who both claim to see the break-in. A dark stain on the records marks the moment the case was abruptly terminated with a lethal sentence. The executioner's blade fell, silencing the only suspect and ensuring no further questions could be asked. Kingning narrows her eyes, realizing her modest family had nothing worth such a violent and calculated robbery. She circles a critical name on the parchment, focusing her investigation on the two witnesses who survived the aftermath. Knowing she is confined to the duchy, she realizes she must lean on her allies at the clinic to hunt for the truth. Meanwhile, at a nearby tea house, Xiaoju meets with a contact to discuss the very same conspiracy. He points out that the massacre of an imperial physician points to a high-level cover-up within the palace itself. Xiaoju sets his cup down with a firm click, acknowledging that the mastermind is currently beyond their reach. His contact confirms that the neighbor, Wang Weishan, fled to Jiangnan shortly after the trial concluded. Xiaoju takes a final sip of tea before issuing a cold command to track the man down at any cost. The conversation is cut short when the doctor spots a familiar carriage arriving at the clinic below. Xiaoju's entire demeanor shifts instantly, his eyes widening as he realizes his wife has arrived. He looks out from the balcony, watching Kingning step through the gates with a protective gaze. A rare, genuine smile softens his face as he observes her from a distance. He quickly excuses himself, claiming urgent business as he rushes to meet her. His contact watches him go with a smirk, knowing exactly who the young master's true priority is. But the peaceful reunion is shattered as Princess Jinan arrives with a squad of armed guards, pointing toward the clinic with malice. Xiaoju freezes, his expression turning to ice as he recognizes the royal troublemaker. He immediately barks an order for his men to gather and prepare for a confrontation. He charges down the wooden stairs, his boots thudding against the steps in a desperate race to reach Kingning. Inside, Kingning is still focused on the mission, entrusting the search for the witnesses to her trusted associates. Her focus is broken by the sound of a high-pitched, arrogant screech echoing from the storefront. A panicked worker bursts into the room, reporting that a noblewoman is demanding pills that are out of stock. Kingning and her companion exchange a look of concern and head out to handle the situation. Outside, Princess Jinan stands in the center of the chaos, ordering her guards to begin demolishing the shop. Kingning's voice rings out like a whip, commanding the destruction to stop immediately. She steps forward with poise, demanding to know why a princess is attacking a peaceful clinic without cause. Jinan turns with a snarl, her face contorted with the rage of a woman seeking a scapegoat. She remembers her own public humiliation, throwing a tantrum in the palace over her husband's scandalous behavior. In a flashback, she is seen being consoled by a senior noble who tells her to calm her nerves. Jinan rages that she was the one left humiliated while Kingning walked away unscathed. The elder woman held her close, whispering that if she needed an outlet for her anger, a new target would be provided. The chilling look in the elder's eyes reveals that this entire confrontation was a calculated trap. Back in the present, Jinan screams that Kingning is disrespecting the royal family by refusing her demands. With a violent gesture, she tells her guards to resume their work and smash everything in sight. The guards lung forward, causing Kingning's friend to recoil in genuine terror. Kingning lunges to save a valuable ceramic vessel, catching it just before it hits the floor. She stands her ground with fierce authority, reminding the guards that she is a third-rank noble appointed by the emperor himself. Xiaoju arrives like a storm, pulling Kingning into his protective embrace while glaring down the intruders. The lead henchman stumbles back, his bravado instantly evaporating into pure terror. Without a moment's hesitation, Xiaoju delivers a punishing kick that sends the man flying. The attacker crashes into the floor, clutching his chest right at the feet of his royal mistress. Princess Jinan erupts in fury, pointing an accusing finger at the man who dared to strike her servant. Xiaoju stands his ground, his voice cold as he declares that while he respects her title, he will not tolerate the humiliation of his wife. He commands his personal guards to seize the trespassers and haul them before the magistrate for their crimes. Jinan steps forward to shield her men, claiming she will be a laughingstock if she cannot protect her own subordinates. Xiaoju counters with a chilling warning, stating that placing her personal pride above the law of the land is nothing short of treason. His eyes narrow into sharp blades, daring the princess to continue her defiance. The weight of the accusation leaves Jinan speechless and visibly shaken. She tries to dismiss the chaos as a minor dispute, but Xiaoju's authority remains absolute as he orders the men removed. With a sharp gesture of finality, he signals for the law to take its course. Soon after, the group stands within the halls of justice as the official proceedings begin. Kingning steps forward with poise, detailing the unprovoked assault and the destruction of her property. The magistrate Jing Xiaoyan looks down from his bench to verify the gravity of the accusations. Bound in thick ropes, the terrified henchmen can only tremble and confess to their misdeeds. The magistrate's gavel thunders against the wood as he sentences the offenders to 30 strokes of the cane and immediate imprisonment. The guards drag the men away despite their desperate, pathetic pleas for mercy. A guard prepares to administer the first strike, raising the heavy wooden cane high. Watching from the sidelines, Jinan seethes with a quiet, venomous rage, swearing that this insult will not go unpunished. Once the sentence is fully carried out, the lead guard reports the completion of the punishment to the court. With one final, decisive strike of the gavel, the magistrate declares the case closed and dismisses the assembly. As they walk through the quiet palace grounds, King Ning admits her fear that this clash will draw the emperor's ire toward Xiaoju. A subtle, teasing smile touches Xiaoju's lips as he asks if she is truly concerned for his safety. King Ning meets his gaze honestly, reminding him that as her husband, his well-being is naturally her priority. Xiaoju's expression softens with a hint of melancholy, wondering if her care stems from love or merely a sense of duty. King Ning quickly shifts focus to the strategic next steps, suggesting they preemptively report the consort scandal. Noticing his sudden lapse into silence, she looks up at him with a puzzled expression. She waves her hand to catch his attention, wondering if the weight of the situation has finally gotten to him. Xiaoju gently catches her hands in his, a firm gesture of unwavering support and protection. He assures her that he acts of his own free will, and that she should never feel like a burden. Looking at her with profound intensity, he silently resolves to wait as long as it takes for her to truly let him into her heart. He offers a comforting pat on her head, signaling that for now it is time to return home and rest. Night falls over the Feng residence, where a summons from the Duchess disrupts the brief moment of peace. King Ning enters the formal hall, offering a respectful greeting to her mother-in-law. The Duchess sips her tea with practiced grace, feigning concern over the political fallout of the clinic incident. Taking her seat, King Ning maintains her composure, trusting in the Emperor's sense of justice. The Duchess' gaze turns icy as she reminds King Ning that she is a mere orphan without the status to survive a royal grudge. She slams her teacup down in a sudden outburst, warning that King Ning's presence will only bring ruin to the entire family. Pointing a sharp finger, the Duchess demands that King Ning divorce Xiaoju immediately to save the duchy. A predatory grin creeps across her face as she imagines replacing King Ning with a niece she can easily manipulate. A heavy footstep echoes at the entrance, signaling an unwelcome observer to the Duchess's scheme. Xiaoju strides into the room, his expression darkened by the betrayal he has just overheard. Xiaoju returns to the manor, receiving a formal welcome from the staff. He stands firm, declaring that no one possesses the authority to dissolve his marriage to King Ning. The Duchess tries to manipulate him, claiming that King Ning's actions have endangered the family's standing with the throne. Xiaoju remains unfazed, questioning his mother's assumption that his wife has caused any offense. He reveals a past report, proving he had already documented the princess's scandal for the royal court. With cold precision, he explains that his memorial to the Emperor detailed the entire incident. The Emperor's fury is palpable as he slams the documents, outraged by the disgrace brought upon his house. Pointing an accusatory finger, the Emperor orders the princess to be confined to the palace for her misconduct. The disgraced princess collapses to the floor, desperately pleading for her father's forgiveness. Xiaoju reveals that the Emperor actually rewarded King Ning's integrity with a collection of rare treasures. He confronts his mother, demanding to know her true intentions for attempting to exile his wife. For the sake of their bond, he offers a final warning to stay out of his personal affairs. Without another word, he takes King Ning's hand and leads her away from the confrontation. The Duchess is left standing in the empty hall, her schemes beginning to crumble. She sinks into her chair, frustrated by her inability to remove King Ning from the household. The weight of her failure shows on her face as she realizes her son has become a major obstacle. Her attendant approaches with a new strategy centered around the upcoming renovation of the Duke's study. Accepting a cup of tea, the Duchess prepares to refine her next move. A dark look crosses her face as she vows that this next plan will be flawless. The foreman Cheng San is summoned to carry out the technical details of the sabotage. Later that evening, King Ning meticulously oversees the cataloging of the imperial gifts. The servants follow her instructions, carefully moving the valuable chests into the residence. An attendant reports that Xiaoju has been unusually quiet during his evening routine. The maid expresses her concern, noting that the young lord hasn't emerged from his quarters. Fearing he might fall ill from the cold water, King Ning decides to check on his well-being. She moves toward the bathing area to ensure everything is in order. The older maid watches them go, hoping for a peaceful resolution between the couple. King Ning cautiously pushes the heavy door open, entering the private chamber. She calls out for the young lord surveying the quiet room. Her eyes widen as she catches sight of Xiaoju preparing to dress. Xiaoju turns, questioning her presence while he finishes his personal care. Flustered, King Ning explains that she was simply worried about him catching a chill. He reaches for his robes, assuring her that he is perfectly fine. King Ning's attention is drawn to something she hadn't noticed before on his skin. She looks closer, her gaze filled with a sudden realization. She points out the numerous physical scars marking his back and shoulders. Xiaoju pulls his garment together, explaining that these are the harsh remnants of his time on the battlefield. She views the injuries not as flaws, but as undeniable proof of his courage and endurance. Xiaoju looks down at her, moved by her unexpected empathy for his past trauma. He admits that while others see an invincible general, he still carries the memory of pain. Qingning offers to procure medicinal ointments to help soothe the old wounds. He gently takes her hand, acknowledging her care for his health. Xiaoju leans in, closing the distance between them in a moment of shared trust. Qingning's eyes widen in sheer surprise as the distance between her and the young lord suddenly vanishes. Xiaoju pulls her close, confirming their mutual affection with a sincere and heartfelt embrace. He searches her gaze, wondering if she has finally begun to feel the same depth of connection that he does. The two share a quiet moment of absolute unity, leaving the chaos of the imperial court far behind them. He leans in close, his voice a soft murmur as he speaks of their shared future. Xiaoju gently cradles her face, asking for her trust as they move toward a true, lasting partnership. Trusting his strength completely, she allows him to carry her toward their shared quarters. He carefully sets her down, treating her with the utmost respect and professional care. A flash of uncertainty crosses her face as the weight of the moment finally settles in. Sensing her sudden nervousness, he reaches out to steady her with a comforting touch. He interlaces his fingers with hers, a silent promise to protect and honor her above all others. Xiaoju leans over her, his focus entirely on the woman who has fundamentally changed his life. The peaceful atmosphere is suddenly shattered by a sharp, urgent knock at the chamber door. Xiaoju's expression hardens into a mask of duty as his subordinates call him away at the most inopportune time. Qingning remains remarkably composed, urging him to prioritize the pressing matters of the state over their personal time. Accepting the necessity of his role, he sits up and prepares to meet his men in the courtyard. He offers her one last look of pure devotion, promising to return once the crisis is managed. Before departing, he ensures she is tucked in and comfortable, showing the true depth of his consideration. In the front courtyard, Steward Su delivers the grim news that their key lead, Wei Kang, has been found dead. Xiaoju recalls the face of the vice minister, who nearly ended his life during the brutal border wars. The timing of this sudden death is far too convenient, fueling Xiaoju's suspicion of a high-level cover-up. Su explains that a domestic dispute supposedly led to the man's sudden and violent demise. A vision of the chaotic struggle shows a wife driven to desperation, confronting her husband over his betrayal. In the heat of the moment, a simple hairpin became a lethal weapon that silenced a vital witness forever. Xiaoju realizes the true mastermind is cleaning house to keep their identity hidden from the investigation. The focus of the investigation now shifts to the only survivor left, a night watchman named Wang Weishan. His finger taps rhythmically against the records, narrowing down the path to the hidden truth. He issues a direct command to track down the witness and bring him to the capital before the enemy can strike again. The following morning, a team of specialized laborers gathers to begin the renovation of the Duke's study. Cheng San steps forward, confidently reporting to the young madam that the team is ready to start the project immediately. As Qingning observes the site, she detects an unusual chemical fragrance drifting through the air. The foreman subtly tries to usher her away, claiming the construction dust will be far too messy for her to handle. She maintains a polite exterior, entrusting the work to his hands while her mind begins to race with suspicion. Qingning turns to depart the area, but her instincts are now fully picked by the man's overly cautious behavior. Believing he is finally unobserved, Cheng San reaches in his robe for a small, hidden vial. He carefully uncorks the potent liquid, prepared to carry out the Duchess's plan of structural sabotage. Hidden behind a nearby pillar, Qingning watches in silence as he applies the corrosive solution directly to the wood. She realizes the trap. The solution will rot the structure from within, ensuring the blame for the collapse falls solely on her. Qingning presents the completed study renovations to the Duke with a confident smile. The Duchess, hiding her malice behind a polite mask, suggests they all head inside to inspect the quality. Qingning graciously invites them to enter, knowing exactly what trap has been set. The group's footsteps echo as they step onto the freshly polished floors. The Duke scans the room, noting the impeccable arrangement of the shelves and calligraphy. Clearly impressed, the Duke offers a satisfied nod for the meticulous effort. Qingning bows slightly, maintaining a humble demeanor as she accepts the praise. The Duchess watches the shadows, growing anxious that her planned disaster hasn't struck yet. Suddenly, the sound of splintering wood shatters the silence of the room. A sinister grin flashes across the Duchess's face as her plan finally bears fruit. The massive structures buckle and collapse, sending the Duke's collection crashing to the floor. Feigning horror, the Duchess cries out about the supposedly ruined historical records. She immediately points a finger at Qingning, accusing her of gross negligence in overseeing the work. Qingning narrows her eyes, fully recognizing the depths of this calculated betrayal. She puts on an act of confusion, questioning how the materials could have failed so spectacularly. The foreman drops to his knees, lying through his teeth as he blames Qingning for choosing inferior wood. Qingning turns to the Duke, seeing the storm of anger brewing in his eyes. The Duchess escalates her attack, accusing the girl of embezzling funds for personal gain. She continues her verbal assault, questioning if someone so corrupt is fit to remain in the family. The Duke roars in agreement, feeling completely betrayed by his daughter-in-law's perceived greed. King dabs at her eyes, hiding a sharp look of calculation behind her feigned distress. She calmly asks the Duchess why she moved away from the shelves just moments before they fell. Caught off guard, the Duchess stammers a frantic denial of any prior knowledge. She shifts the focus back to the destroyed books, her face twisted with a cruel victory. King reaches down and retrieves one of the fallen volumes with perfect composure. She flips it open to reveal that the pages are completely blank, exposing the deception. A flashback reveals that King had already moved the real collection to safety long ago. The Duke and Duchess stare in stunned silence at the evidence of the girl's foresight. Xiaoju arrives on the scene, his presence cold and commanding. He leads in a group of witnesses, ready to dismantle the Duchess's lies once and for all. Bayan collapses to the floor, prepared to testify about the corruption she witnessed. She weeps while explaining how the Duchess tried to silence her by selling her off. Outraged by the treachery, the Duke delivers a powerful strike that sends the Duchess reeling. The Duchess desperately claims that the maid is lying to avoid her own punishment. Xiaoju demands to know the origin of the massive bribe paid to the foreman. He reveals a chest overflowing with treasures that match the Duke's private records. Xiaoju warns the foreman that theft of this magnitude carries a death sentence. Terrified for his life, the foreman confesses that the Duchess ordered the sabotage. Xiaoju stands over his mother, his gaze piercing as he asks for her final defense. The Duke lashes out again, unable to contain his disgust for his wife's schemes. He bellows that she is stripped of all power and that King will now lead the household. The Duchess sits on the floor, her face bruised and her reputation utterly shattered. She reaches out and grabs the Duke's robes, begging for a shred of mercy. With a look of pure loathing, the Duke rips his clothing from her desperate hands. He turns his back on her, effectively ending her reign of influence in the manor. Xiaoju reaches out and takes King's hand, offering a rare sign of public solidarity. He declares that from this day forward, no one will ever dare to disrespect her again. Gu Qingning and Xiaoju walk side by side, radiating a new sense of authority as they approach the pavilion. They step into a grand hall where the entire staff has gathered to honor their new leader. Qingning glances at Xiaoju, realizing he meticulously planned this celebration long before the victory was even certain. With a polite gesture, he invites her to lead the way to the head of the table. The couple sits among their most loyal supporters, marking the beginning of a new era for the duchy. Qingning raises her cup, addressing the room with a voice full of gratitude and strength. She downs the drink in a single, confident motion, earning the respect of everyone present. As her first act of leadership, she announces a massive bonus for the hardworking staff to be paid the very next day. Xiaoju watches her with a look of pure admiration, finally seeing her truly happy. Outside, the moon rises over the peaceful pavilion, signaling the end of the public festivities. Xiaoju leads Qingning to a private setting, ready to share a more personal celebration of their success. He lifts a small cup, proposing a toast to a lifetime of shared goals and a lasting partnership. They stand together to perform the formal wedding ritual they were cheated of during their initial ceremony. Their arms lock as they drink, officially cementing their bond as a united husband and wife. Qingning reflects on the incredible journey from a lonely bride to a powerful leader of the household. They place their empty cups back on the table, the weight of their new commitment sinking in. He gently takes her hands, acknowledging her intelligence and the kindness she brings to his life. Xiaoju swears a solemn oath to stand by her side and never fail her in the years to come. Qingning gazes back at him, her eyes shining with the realization that she has finally found a true home. Their mutual respect culminates in a tender moment of connection under the soft glow of the lamps. They hold each other close, finding peace in the middle of their chaotic political world. He looks into her eyes with a soft request, ensuring she is comfortable with their deepening bond. The two finally find rest together, their alliance stronger than any enemy they might face. Sunlight streams into the room the next morning as the maid prepares the vanity for the day's duties. Qingning wakes with a start, surprised to find herself feeling so refreshed and energized for the work ahead. The maid can't contain her excitement, thrilled that the household's future is finally secure and stable. A flush of modesty crosses Qingning's face as she considers her official new role as the lady of the house. Xiaoju enters the chambers to greet his partner, his presence commanding yet gentle. Sensing the couple needs a moment alone, the maid quickly and quietly excuses herself from the room. He takes a seat on the edge of the bed, detailing his plans to prioritize their time together today. Xiaoju insists that they move past formal titles, that they are working together as equals. Qingning hesitates for a moment, the transition from political allies to a personal partnership still feeling new. He leans in with a playful persistence, encouraging her to speak more freely when they are alone. His eyes lock onto hers, waiting with bated breath for her to acknowledge their newfound closeness. Before they head out for their official duties, he pulls her back for one more private moment of affection. They share a final, quiet embrace, ready to face the world as a united front. As the sun hangs high over the bustling capital, A small purple spirit keeps watch over the entrance of the prestigious Huixiang Pavilion. The owner of the establishment bows low, greeting the high-status guests with the utmost respect. He gestures toward the upper floor, informing the young duke and his madam that their exclusive private room is ready for them. With a polite request to follow him, the owner leads the couple through the lively downstairs dining area. Xiaoju leans in close to his wife, recommending the house's signature fish dish for her to try. The nearby diners can't help but whisper, noting how exceptionally well the young duke treats his partner. However, the mood shifts at a nearby table where the second young master, Hangji, is seen caressing shamelessly with a courtesan. The commoners continue to gossip about the strange twist of fate that led Kingning to manage the entire household after her unusual marriage. Overhearing the praise for his brother's happy marriage, a drunken Hangji reacts with pure, indignant disbelief. He grits his teeth in a jealous rage, convinced that Kingning's heart still belongs only to him. When his drinking companion points out that the couple is currently upstairs, Hangji's face flushes with anger. He shoves the woman away and stumbles toward the stairs, determined to confront the woman he lost. Driven by a cocktail of alcohol and resentment, he charges up the wooden steps. He reaches the private suite and pauses just outside the sliding doors. Leaning in, he attempts to eavesdrop on the intimate conversation happening within. Inside the quiet room, Xiaoju tenderly offers a spoonful of rich broth to Kingning, ensuring she enjoys the meal. He reaches out with a gentle hand to wipe a stray drop of soup from her lips. Suddenly, the doors fly open as Hangji bursts in, demanding to know if Kingning ever truly loved him. Xiaoju's expression instantly turns to ice as he commands his brother to get out at once. Hangji refuses to move, accusing Kingning of using his brother just to get back at him for his past choices. Kingning looks at him with cold, detached eyes, stating that her only concern now is her life with Jinyu. In a desperate move, Hangji pulls out an old embroidered pouch, claiming it as proof of her lingering feelings. He points a finger at his brother's empty waist, mocking him for never receiving such a personal gift from her. Hangji then grabs Xiaoju's collar, admitting he regrets the marriage swap and wants things to change. He goes even further, shamelessly suggesting that Xiaoju should hand Kingning over to him as a secondary wife. Xiaoju's hand trembles with suppressed fury as he grips the edge of the table. Kingning quickly places her hand over his, sensing that her husband is on the verge of a violent outburst. Xiaoju realizes that attacking him over this would paint Kingning as a source of brotherly conflict, damaging her reputation. He forces himself to remain calm, though his eyes burn with a lethal intensity. Just then, the courtesan from downstairs appears at the door, calling out for her missing patron. She clings to Hangji's arm, complaining that they were supposed to be drinking together in their own room. Xiaoju seizes the moment, looking down at his brother with pure disgust for consorting with such company in public. He realizes that by disciplining Hangji for public indecency, he can protect Kingning's honor while punishing the fool. Seeing the change in his brother's eyes, Hangji finally feels a surge of fear and tries to retreat. Xiaoju doesn't give him the chance, delivering a powerful kick that sends the drunkard flying. Hangji crashes hard against the floor, gasping for air as his world spins. Xiaoju hauls him up by his robes, refusing to let him escape the consequences of his actions. He continues the harsh physical discipline, ensuring his brother learns the price of disrespecting his household. The crowd downstairs watches in stunned silence as the second young master is publicly shamed for his unruly behavior. Xiaoju turns away with a look of cold authority, ordering the guards to haul the disgrace back to the residence. Later, the couple travels back in their carriage, the wooden wheels clattering against the stone street. A heavy silence fills the small space as they sit across from one another. Xiaoju stares out at the passing scenery, his mind fixated on the fact that he has never received a gift like the one his brother held. Kingning watches him carefully, worried that his anger is directed at her or her history with Hangji. Sensing her anxiety, Xiaoju reaches across the carriage and gently takes her hand, asking her to embroider a pouch just for him. Kingning reflects on the earlier confrontation, where Lu Hangji shamelessly brandished the pouch she had once crafted. Determined to clear the air, she turns to Xiaoju to address the lingering shadows of her past. She looks him in the eye, firmly stating that her previous engagement was a mere family arrangement devoid of any true affection. Xiaoju's expression softens into a knowing smile as he realizes her heart was never with his rival. He gently takes her hands in his, leaning forward to bridge the distance between them. With an intense gaze, he asks the one question that has been weighing on his mind. How does she feel about him? The sudden question leaves Kingning wide-eyed and momentarily speechless. She hesitates, her mind racing back to a time when her only focus was restoring her family's honor. Blushing deeply, she admits that while she struggles to define love, she is profoundly grateful for his constant protection. Xiaoju's eyes flicker with a hint of disappointment at the mention of mere gratitude. Kingning lowers her head, her flustered posture revealing more than her words ever could. Noticing her shy demeanor, Xiaoju's surprise turns into a quiet realization. He looks away, a confident smile playing on his lips as he interprets her bashfulness as a sign of hidden feelings. He places a reassuring hand over hers, content to wait for the day her gratitude blossoms into something deeper. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the ancestral hall is thick with rage as Hangji's father prepares to deliver a brutal lesson. A sharp crack echoes through the hall as the whip strikes, sending Hangji reeling in agony. Prostrate on the floor, Hangji desperately pleads for mercy through his tears. His mother rushes forward to shield him, begging her husband to stop the assault. She frantically shifts the blame, claiming Hangji's erratic behavior is a reaction to Shen Ruing's failures. Unswayed by the excuses, the father maintains a stern glare, holding his son fully accountable for his own choices. He casts the whip aside with a final look of utter contempt for the fallen heir. He barks a final order, confining the disgraced son to his courtyard under the threat of even harsher punishment. Hangji remains huddled on the ground, the weight of his humiliation finally sinking in. His mother quickly helps him to his feet, her resentment toward his wife boiling over. She declares that Shen Ruing is a curse upon their household, blaming her for every misfortune. With cold calculation, she warns that a divorce is inevitable if Ruing fails to provide an heir. Back in the side courtyard, Shen Ruing reels from the news of Hangji's scandalous night out. Her maid fearfully delivers the Duchess's ultimatum, revealing that her position in the family is hanging by a thread. Suddenly, a sharp, stabbing pain causes Ruing to double over in distress. Panic erupts as she collapses onto the bed, her face pale with agony. Realizing she is losing the child, she looks down in despair, knowing this tragedy marks the end of her leverage. Her expression suddenly twists into a mask of pure malice as a dark plan begins to take shape. The maid is immediately dispatched from the quiet pavilion to summon an unsuspecting guest. In her own quarters, Qingning listens to the urgent request for her presence at the side courtyard. Qingning takes her seat with a cold, analytical gaze, sensing a hidden trap in the tense atmosphere. Across the table, Ruing maintains a facade of politeness while her attendants stand ready for the coming act. Clutching her belly, Ruing puts on a masterclass in manipulation, pleading for a fresh start for the sake of their shared past. However, Qingning's sharp senses pick up a subtle, medicinal scent that shouldn't be present at a dinner table. A maid leans in to whisper the news that the Duchess has finally arrived to witness the planned confrontation. A predatory glint flashes in Ruing's eyes as she realizes her target is exactly where she wants her. Rising with a cup in hand, Ruing prepares to execute her calculated accident under the guise of a friendly toast. She envisions a perfect fall, ensuring the Duchess witnesses what will look like a violent shove from Qingning. In her mind, she sees Qingning's reputation shattered, and her connection to the Duke severed by this scandal. This victory would allow Ruing to escape her confinement and reclaim her lost status as the ultimate victim. She extends the cup with a poisoned sweetness, inviting her cousin to join her in a false gesture of reconciliation. Qingning barely moves, giving a silent and decisive nod to her loyal attendant. Before Ruing can move, the maid suddenly seizes her arm, physically halting the performance in its tracks. Ruing's shock is immediate as she struggles against the unexpected and firm grip of the servant. With forced concern, the maid pushes Ruing back into her seat, claiming the lady looks far too unwell to stand. Panic sets in for Ruing as a genuine, sharp pain begins to radiate through her abdomen at the worst possible moment. Qingning watches the breakdown with a chillingly calm expression, her voice smooth and dangerously steady. She stands up gracefully, deciding to meet the incoming Duchess alone while Ruing is physically incapacitated. Stepping out into the courtyard, Qingning greets Madame Feng with perfect, unshakable etiquette. The Duchess stops in her tracks, her suspicion peaking at the sight of Qingning waiting for her arrival. Madame Feng's mind races as she tries to decipher the true objective of Ruing's sudden invitation. Entering the room, the Duchess demands to know why Ruing has summoned the family so urgently. The room falls silent as Ruing collapses, her robe soaked in blood as the medical emergency takes hold. Horror strikes the maid's face as she realizes the situation has turned into a devastating reality. Madame Feng immediately takes charge, shouting for the household physician to be brought to the courtyard at once. Qingning closes her eyes for a moment, lamenting the innocent life lost to Ruing's reckless ambition. News of the tragic medical event ripples through the estate like a shockwave. Hangji rushes to his wife's side, devastated by the loss of yet another unborn child. His father stands nearby, his expression a grim mask of disbelief and rising frustration. Ruing seizes the moment of grief, weakly begging her father-in-law for justice against her cousin. Realizing her original plan of a fake fall failed, she quickly pivots to a new lie to frame Qingning. Hangji looks up in desperation, demanding to know if there was a specific cause for this sudden tragedy. With a trembling finger, Ruing points at Qingning, falsely accusing her of making death threats against the baby. She pours on the tears, painting a picture of herself as a helpless victim of psychological torment. Hangji pulls her close, his protective instincts completely blinded by her deceptive performance. The patriarch turns his stern gaze toward Qingning, demanding an explanation for these heavy accusations. Qingning remains composed, daring to place the burden of proof on the Duchess' testimony. Madame Feng is visibly shaken, realizing her words will determine the fate of everyone in the room. Qingning knows that if the Duchess lies, she will be implicating herself in a massive web of deceit. Calculating her own survival, the Duchess decides to use the scandal to purge both rivals from the household. Pointing a finger of her own, Madame Feng backs the lie, condemning Qingning for her supposed verbal cruelty. Hangxi's face contorts with rage as he lashes out at Qingning for her perceived heartlessness. Ruoying hides a triumphant smirk against his chest, believing she has finally secured her enemy's downfall. But Qingning leans in with a whisper, asking if the bitter taste of the safflower decoction was worth the sacrifice. Ruoying's heart stops as she realizes her secret self-sabotage has been exposed by the very person she tried to destroy. Hangxi's grip tightens as he demands to know the truth behind the mention of a hidden decoction. Ruoying tries to steady her breathing, desperately convincing herself that Qingning is merely bluffing to scare her. She looks into Hangxi's eyes with a tearful plea, denying that she would ever touch such a dangerous concoction. Ruoying breaks into a sob, accusing Qingning of being a monster for trying to shift the blame onto her. Suddenly, the doors swing open as Xiaoju strides into the room with a professional medical escort in tow. A cold, knowing smirk plays on Xiaoju's lips as he watches the drama unfold. Qingning looks back at her ally, relieved that his arrival was perfectly timed to end this farce. An hour earlier, Qingning had already identified the suspicious bleeding that signaled a calculated risk was being taken. She met with Xiaoju in private, explaining that Ruoying was intentionally avoiding medical exams to hide her condition. Qingning predicted the trap, knowing Ruoying intended to use the inevitable loss to frame her for the tragedy. Xiaoju frowned, worried that his partner was putting herself in far too much danger for this scheme. Qingning reassured him with a calm hand, insisting that Ruoying must be removed from the duchy to ensure their long-term safety. Xiaoju finally sighed in resignation, promising to assign secret guards to protect her during the confrontation. Qingning requested one final favor: a physician with expert knowledge of gynecology to expose the truth once and for all. Back in the present, Xiaoju formally introduces the highly esteemed imperial physician Wang to the room. With a commanding gesture, he requests the physician to immediately examine the woman on the bed to provide an objective report. The room falls silent as the imperial expert begins a thorough pulse reading under the watchful eyes of the family. The physician delivers a damning verdict, confirming that small, repeated doses of safflower were the true cause of the miscarriage. Hangxi recoils in horror, realizing Ruoying sacrificed their child just to settle a petty grudge against Qingning. Ruoying screams in protest, claiming the physician's words are biased lies bought and paid for by her rival. Qingning's gaze turns sharp as she asks if the physical evidence hidden in the room is also a lie. Ruoying's heart skips a beat, certain that she had already disposed of every trace of the herbs. Qingning walks toward the incense burner, explaining that the scent of burned safflower dregs was impossible to fully mask. Physician Wang leans in to inspect the burner, confirming the presence of the forbidden herbs within the ash. Qingning holds out the charred remains, daring anyone to challenge the physical proof of Ruoying's betrayal. Ruoying stares at the evidence in stunned silence, her entire world crumbling around her in an instant. The Duke explodes in rage, turning his fury toward the woman who enabled this chaos within his walls. Qingning seizes the moment to call out Madame Feng for her blatant perjury regarding the earlier events. Caught in a web of her own lies, Madame Feng can only stammer in shock as her credibility vanishes. The Duke charges forward, unable to tolerate the poison spreading through his household any longer. Madame Feng recoils in disgrace as she is ordered to remain strictly confined to her quarters. He then turns to Hangxi, commanding him to write a divorce letter and cast the treacherous woman out immediately. Ruoying clings to Hangxi's sleeve, begging him to remember the promises of their past and show mercy. Hangxi violently shakes her off, refusing to be swayed by a woman who could be so cold-blooded toward her own flesh and blood. He turns his back on her for good, leaving her alone on the cold floor to face the consequences. Ruoying collapses, realizing that her desperate quest for power has left her with absolutely nothing. Tears of rage stream down her face as she refuses to accept such a humiliating and total defeat. Watching from the shadows, Qingning knows this battle is won, but she must remain vigilant for the next move. News travels fast as a messenger reports that Shen Ruoying's maid has already scurried back to the marquisate with a secret letter. Inside the manor, Qingning and Xiaoju realize their enemy is cornered and will likely beg her birth family for reinforcements. Xiaoju reveals the Shen family's true endgame. They plan to replace the dying third prince consort with their own younger daughter to secure royal support. Qingning lets out a weary sigh, knowing that Ruoying's talent for scheming makes her a difficult weed to pull from the duchy. Xiaoju watches her closely, his eyes narrowing as he reflects on the immense suffering Qingning has endured in silence. He realizes that mere defense isn't enough. He must find a permanent way to purge Ruoying from their lives forever. Under the shroud of night, the architectural eaves of the estate stand silent against a darkening sky. Xiaoju suddenly presents Qingning with a set of dark traveling clothes, instructing her to change for an urgent mission. When she asks where they are headed, he offers a mysterious look and promises all will be revealed upon arrival. They soon arrive at the formidable gates of the third prince's mansion, a place filled with political peril. Clad in stealthy attire, Xiaoju explains that he needs her medical expertise to save the life of the current consort, Chen Ya. He emphasizes that keeping the consort alive is vital for the stability of the northern borders and the morale of the army. Maintaining a steadying hand, Xiaoju guides Qingning through the shadows toward their target. He explains the strategy, If Chen Ya survives, the Shen family loses their chance to install a new consort and their leverage over his father. King Ning nods with firm resolve, promising to give her absolute best to save the dying woman. Xiaoju tells her to hold on tight as he prepares to bypass the mansion's security with a burst of speed. They move like shadows through the air, leaping across the rooftops toward the inner chambers. They land silently outside the sick room, where Xiaoju confirms that Chen Ye is resting just inside. He pulls out a letter, instructing King Ning to present it so the consort will trust her enough for a pulse reading. King Ning reaches out to take the document, mentally preparing for the high-stakes encounter ahead. Their hands meet briefly as the letter is exchanged, signaling the start of the clandestine operation. Xiaoju leans in to offer a final word of encouragement, telling her to stay calm and simply do what she can. He provides a close, supportive whisper of reassurance to ensure she remains focused on the medical task at hand. With a final nod of approval, he tells her it's time to head inside and face the consort. As she turns away, King Ning can't help but notice how much more protective and attentive the young duke has become lately. She reaches out and cautiously pushes the ornate door open, stepping into the unknown. The moment she enters, the heavy, suffocating scent of medicinal herbs hits her like a physical wall. From behind the privacy screen, a weak, cuffing voice demands to know who has dared to enter. King Ning steps into the light, introducing herself formally as the wife of the young duke. There lies Chen Ya, the third prince's consort, looking pale and dangerously frail upon her bed. King Ning immediately presents the letter, explaining that the young duke's words will clarify everything. Chen Ya's trembling hands unfold the paper, her eyes scanning the hidden truths written within. Tears stream down the consort's face as she realizes that the man her father feared is actually the one trying to save her. King Ning explains that the young duke's motives are purely for her well-being and the safety of the empire. Touched by the sincerity, Chen Ya relents and offers her wrist so King Ning can examine her condition. Outside, the moon hangs high over the silent mansion as the secret diagnosis begins. King Ning's expression turns grim as she reveals the shocking truth. The consort has been slowly poisoned for over 6 months. King Ning quickly calculates the timeline, realizing the poisoning must have started the moment she entered the marriage. Chen Ye admits with a heavy heart that she already suspected her own husband was the one behind the slow-acting toxin. King Ning refuses to let her give up hope, mentioning a powerful medical ally from the divine doctor of Medicine Valley. The consort's eyes fill with new light as she realizes she might actually have a chance to survive this nightmare. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps echoing in the hallway outside snaps them back to reality. The third prince, Qin Zuani, arrives unexpectedly, annoyed by the strange absence of his servants. King Ning's heart races as the sound of the approaching prince gets closer and closer to the bedroom door. Panic sets in as she realizes the third prince has returned much sooner than they anticipated. King Ning's heart hammers against her ribs as she realizes the perimeter guards haven't sent a single signal. She turns to Chen Ya in a panic, deducing that the third prince must have used a hidden passage to bypass their security. With no time to run, Chen Ya urgently points toward a heavy wooden cabinet to hide her. King Ning slips inside the cramped space, the shadows swallowing her whole just as footsteps approach. The latch clicks shut, sealing her in a tense, airless silence. Back in the bed, Chen Ye forces a ragged cough to mask the sound of her racing heart. Qin Zuani steps from behind the screen, his presence like a suffocating shroud over the room. He stares at his wife with cold, calculating eyes, frustrated that the poison hasn't finished its work. A vein pulses in his forehead as he sees over how her slow death is stalling his political marriage. He dons a mask of false concern, questioning why she's exerting herself by sitting up. Revolted by his lies, Chen Ye hurls her medicine bowl at him in a final act of defiance. The porcelain shatters violently against the floor, a sharp echo of their broken bond. The prince leans in close, his voice a low hiss as he justifies his betrayal as a necessity for the throne. Suddenly, a loose ornament is knocked from a shelf, crashing loudly right near King Ning's hiding spot. The prince's eyes narrow instantly, his predatory instincts flaring at the unexpected noise. He stands tall, his gaze fixed on the cabinet as he suspects an intruder is listening. Each step he takes toward the wooden doors feels like a countdown to King Ning's execution. Trapped in the dark, King Ning holds her breath, knowing she's just heard enough secrets to get her killed. Her fingers tighten around a hidden needle, prepared to strike if her cover is blown. Chen Ye watches in frozen terror, desperate to draw his attention away from the cabinet. She looks down at the mess on the floor, her mind racing for a way to save her guests. A flicker of desperate resolve crosses the consort's face as she prepares to intervene. The prince's hand reaches for the cabinet handle, his fingers inches away from exposing her. Just then, a frantic guard bursts into the room, shouting that a massive fire has broken out in the West Wing. Panicked for his favored concubine's safety, the prince abandons the cabinet and sprints out of the room. King Ning pushes the cabinet doors open, gasping for air as the immediate threat vanishes. She looks at Chen Ye with wide eyes, realizing the fire was a miracle they desperately needed. Despite her frailty, Chen Ye remains upright, her eyes burning with a fierce, protective fire. King Ning realizes the consort was ready to risk everything just to keep her presence a secret. A sharp tapping against the window frame signals that it's finally time for King Ning to make her move. She presses a small vial of life-saving broth into Chen Ye's hand, pleading with her to hold on a little longer. With a final, lingering look at the brave woman, King Ning vanishes into the night. She navigates the chaotic courtyard and finally locates Xiaoju waiting in the shadows. He catches her firmly, his eyes searching hers to ensure she isn't wounded during the escape. King Ning looks back at the rising smoke, realizing the fire was far too convenient to be an accident. Xiaoju admits he ignited the west wing specifically to lure the prince away from her. He leads her quickly through the garden, knowing they must vanish before the chaos subsides. Across the estate, the favored concubine wails in the prince's arms, putting on a dramatic show of fear. The prince holds her close, but his expression is devoid of any real affection. His gaze turns icy as he realizes the fire missed the one room he actually wanted gone. He beckons a subordinate over, his mind already spinning a new, deadlier plot. He whispers a dark command into the servant's ear, ordering him to use the confusion to finish Chen Ya. A sadistic smirk twists his face as he decides to wipe out the last obstacle to his power tonight. From their vantage point, Xiaoju and King Ning spot the servant moving toward the consort's quarters with lethal intent. King Ning's blood runs cold as she realizes the rescue mission has just turned into a race against an assassin. A stream of flammable oil splashes across the wooden floorboards, setting the stage for a lethal trap. The assassin mutters a final prayer, hoping the consort's spirit blames the third prince instead of him for this deed. Before he can strike a match, a silent shadow lunges forward and chokes the life out of his consciousness. Xiaoju stands over the fallen traitor, coldly commanding his subordinate to bind the man and hide him away. With the immediate threat neutralized, King Ning decides to head inside the pavilion alone to retrieve the target. She pushes the heavy doors open, her eyes scanning the room for any signs of the poisoned consort. Chen Ye looks up from her bed in confusion, wondering why the girl has suddenly returned to the danger zone. King Ning urgently explains that the third prince intended to turn this entire courtyard into a funeral pyre. The realization of such a cold-blooded betrayal leaves Chen Ye's face pale with heartbreak and shock. King Ning reaches out, offering a firm hand and a chance to escape this death trap forever. Placing her trust in her rescuer, Chen Ye tightly grips King Ning's hand, ready to fight for her life. Supporting the weakened woman, King Ning carefully guides her toward the exit and away from the impending smoke. Outside, Xiaoju confirms the servant has been hidden away and prepares to finalize their counter move. A torch is tossed onto the oil-soaked wood, igniting the very fire the prince had planned for his own gain. The group watches from a safe distance as the building is consumed by a roaring, cleansing inferno. Xiaoju's gaze turns icy, vowing to burn down the prince's path to the throne along with the pavilion. By dawn, nothing remains of the structure but a skeletal frame of charred timber and drifting ash. The emperor stands amidst the wreckage, demanding to know how such a disaster could occur under his nose. Putting on a masterclass in deception, the third prince falls to his knees, weeping for his lost love. Beneath his fake tears, a sinister smirk forms as he celebrates the death he believes secures his political future. The tense atmosphere is broken when a guard announces the sudden arrival of the young duke and his wife. Xiaoju and King Ning step into the light, bowing with a level of calm that unnerves the conspirators. The emperor questions their presence at such a late hour, unaware of the evidence they are about to present. Xiaoju doesn't mince words, stating he has identified the mastermind who lit the match. He points a finger of iron at the third prince, accusing him of orchestrating the entire tragedy. The prince's heart skips a beat as he wonders if his secret spy network has been compromised from within. He tries to steady his breathing, banking on the fact that he silenced the only witness to his crime. The emperor's expression hardens into a mask of suspicion as he looks down at his trembling son. Springing to his feet, the prince feigns outrage, claiming his love for Chen Ya was beyond reproach. He shifts the blame, accusing Xiaoju of playing political games to benefit a rival brother. King Ning remains silent, her composed demeanor hiding the ultimate ace she has up her sleeve. She produces a folded piece of paper, revealing it to be a desperate plea written in the consort's own blood. The emperor reads the harrowing account of the slow poisoning that led to this final act of arson. King Ning watches the prince's world begin to crumble, her gaze sharp and unforgiving. Desperate, the prince screams that a dead woman's letter is nothing more than a fabricated lie. He attempts to paint the accusation as a treasonous plot to manipulate the imperial succession. King Ning nods slowly, acknowledging his desperate logic before preparing to deliver the final blow. Her eyes flash with a cold triumph as she asks who exactly told him that the consort was dead. The prince turns pale as a ghost when Chen Ye herself walks out of the shadows, alive and ready to testify. Chen Ye kneels before the emperor, her voice trembling as she accuses the third prince of poisoning her every meal. She begs for justice, revealing the horrifying truth that he even attempted to burn her alive to cover his tracks. Overcome with grief and physical weakness, she collapses forward in a desperate plea for help. The emperor reaches out to support her, questioning if every word of her harrowing testimony is the absolute truth. King Ning steps forward with professional authority, confirming that her medical examination proves the third prince's wife was indeed suffering from severe poisoning. The emperor's gaze turns icy as he declares that justice will be served for the daughter of such a loyal military family. He rounds on the third prince, demanding to know if he still has the audacity to deny these grave charges. Cornered and desperate, the prince frantically claims he is being framed by a jealous woman and her allies. Xiaoju watches with a look of pure disgust, noting how easily the prince tries to twist the truth with his silver tongue. With a calm but firm gesture, Xiaoju signals for his men to bring forward a witness who will shatter the prince's lies. The prince's face pales as he recognizes the man he thought had already been silenced by his own assassins. A flashback reveals the high stakes of the previous hour, showing a masked assassin infiltrating the grounds with a drawn blade. Xiaoju intercepts the killer with a swift and decisive strike, preventing the execution before it can even begin. The assassin is neutralized and pinned to the ground as the witness is successfully secured. Xiaoju informs the witness that he would have been a dead man if he had simply gone back to sleep after setting the fire. He offers the man a single chance at survival if he provides a full and honest confession of his orders. Terrified for his life, the bound witness falls to his knees and agrees to tell the group everything. The man confesses that the third prince personally ordered the arson to ensure no one would suspect the poisoning. The emperor erupts in fury, appalled that a prince would treat his lawful wife with such ruthless cruelty. Guards immediately seize the third prince as he is dragged away, still pathetically screaming about his supposed innocence. Qingning remains composed, knowing that a thorough investigation of the prince's confidence will reveal the full extent of his crimes. Later, at the medical hall, the team gathers to discuss the long and difficult recovery process ahead for the victim. Qingning holds Chen Ye's hand, warning her that the treatment to purge the toxins will be an agonizing ordeal. Chen Ye meets her gaze with newfound resolve, stating that her family's bloodline does not fear pain or hardship. The emperor visits the bedside, assuring Chen Ye that he will issue an official decree for her legal separation tomorrow. He turns to Qingning, expressing his deep gratitude for her skill and for keeping the witness safe throughout the night. The emperor remarks on Xiaoju's good fortune, reminding him to properly cherish such a virtuous and capable wife. Xiaoju and Qingning stand together at the door, respectfully seeing the emperor off as he returns to the palace. Qingning looks toward her husband, explaining that she must stay at the medical hall tonight to monitor Chen Ye's condition. Xiaoju offers her a supportive smile, deciding that he will remain by her side to assist throughout the evening. Inside the quiet room, Xiaoju settles onto the narrow bed to catch up on his tactical reading. Qingning enters the small sleeping quarters, realizing that the logistics of the cramped space are quite challenging. She notes that he has taken the outer side of the bed, leaving her to figure out how to reach her spot without a disturbance. She carefully navigates the tight area, trying her best to maintain a professional distance in the small room. Suddenly, her foot catches on the edge of the heavy bedding, causing her to lose her footing completely. Xiaoju drops his book and catches her with lightning-fast reflexes, preventing a dangerous fall. He looks directly into her eyes, focused entirely on ensuring she hasn't sustained any injuries from the stumble. Qingning looks away, flustered by the accidental proximity and the intensity of the long, exhausting day. Xiaoju maintains his steady grip, his expression remaining calm and observant as he checks on her well-being. The two remain in a moment of silent stillness, the weight of the day's successful investigation hanging in the air. Qingning's eyes widen as she realizes how close they are, the professional tension finally giving way to the fatigue of their mission. Xiaoju hovers over Qingning in the quiet room, his gaze intense as he softly calls out her name. Qingning blushes deeply, warning him that the walls are thin and someone might overhear their private conversation. Xiaoju leans in closer, promising to make up for his restraint once they return to the estate tomorrow. Her heart races as she realizes just how persistent her companion can be during these rare moments of peace. He eventually settles beside her, the tension of the day finally beginning to fade into a quiet stillness. With a swift flick of his fingers, he sends a precise burst of energy toward the bedside candle. The flame is extinguished instantly, plunging the room into a calm, restorative darkness. He pulls her close under the covers, softly whispering for her to finally get some much-needed sleep. The next morning, a golden imperial scroll is brought to the medical hall to deliver a life-changing message from the throne. Eunuch Shun reads the decree aloud, officially dissolving the toxic marriage between the third prince and Chen Yu due to irreconcilable differences. Now recognized as Princess Ya Ning, she accepts the scroll with a look of profound relief and newfound dignity. The eunuch politely takes his leave, advising the newly minted princess to focus entirely on her physical recovery. Qingning watches her friend, knowing this legal separation is the first real step toward a brand new chapter of her life. Chen Yao reaches out to thank Qingning, acknowledging that she wouldn't have survived this ordeal without her medical expertise and support. A peaceful smile finally touches Chen Ye's face as she looks forward to a future free from her oppressor. Qingning reflects on the political fallout, realizing the Shen family's influence is crumbling alongside the disgraced prince. Suddenly, a servant rushes in to announce that someone from the Shen family has arrived, and the Duchess requires Qingning's presence. She enters the main hall to find a chaotic scene, filled with tears and heated family arguments. Qingning maintains her professional composure as she greets her parents amidst the unfolding drama. Ruoying's mother desperately grabs Qingning's arms, begging her to convince Duke Qin to stop the impending divorce. The woman's face is etched with panic, fearing that her daughter won't survive being cast aside by the prestigious duchy. Qingning pulls away, reminding her aunt of the ruthless and manipulative way Ruoying treated her in the past. She points out that even recently, Ruoying tried to frame her for a tragedy, proving her malice hasn't changed. With a cold, steady gaze, Qingning declares that she will never plead for mercy for someone who remains so dangerous. The aunt stands frozen in shock, realizing her pleas for help are falling on deaf ears. The madam of the house slams her hand down, cursing the disaster Ruoying has brought upon their entire lineage. She turns to her son Lu Hangji, demanding he sign the divorce papers to protect the duchy's reputation from further ruin. Ruoying collapses to the floor in a heap of silk and despair as the reality of her total downfall sets in. Ignoring her desperate cries of love, Lu Hangji takes the brush and firmly signs his name to the official letter of divorce. Ruoying reaches out one last time, her voice cracking as she calls for the husband who is now legally a stranger. Her mother rushes to her side, catching her as she falls into a state of total emotional collapse. The duke remains unmoved, coldly ordering Marcus Guangping to take his disgraced daughter back to their own home immediately. Ruoying's sister looks on with a mix of fear and judgment, wondering if her sibling's bad luck is actually a curse. The Marcus lets out a heavy, defeated sigh, realizing the immense damage this scandal has done to their family name. The mother cradles her broken daughter, knowing they are effectively exiled from the prestige of the duchy for the time being. Qingning feels a massive weight lift off her shoulders, finally free from Ruoying's constant schemes and shadows. Later, a close contact approaches her with an urgent update regarding their ongoing investigation into her past. Qingning's expression turns sharp, worried for a moment that there might be a setback with Princess Chen's condition. Her contact reassures her that the princess is fine, but they have found critical information regarding the Lin family case. Qingning is stunned to hear that the crucial night watchman witness died under mysterious circumstances years ago. More shockingly, the other witness, Wang Weishen, was already intercepted by Xiaoju's personal agents. A shadow of doubt crosses Qingning's mind as she wonders why Xiaoju would keep such a vital discovery hidden from her. Qingning questions her maid about the mysterious disappearance of Wang Weishen's family during the time of the massacre. The maid reveals a suspicious detail. Shortly after the tragedy, the once penniless Wang suddenly came into a massive fortune of silver. In a cruel flashback, Wang is seen heartlessly casting aside his first wife with a divorce decree to keep the wealth for himself. He quickly moved to Jiangnan to start a lavish new life with a different family who remains oblivious to his dark past. Qingning realizes the timing of his sudden prosperity is far too perfect to be a simple coincidence. She determines that the only way to uncover the conspiracy is to confront the man and get the truth directly. Thinking fast, she plans to coordinate her next move and find a way to test the witnesses' reactions. High above the city, the heavy atmosphere of a hidden interrogation chamber looms over the captive suspect. Xiaoju sits with an aura of absolute authority as the trembling Wang Weishen is brought before him. The general demands a full, unfiltered account of every detail from the night the Lin family was slaughtered 10 years ago. Terrified by the general's presence, Wang begins to recount the events with a shaky, submissive voice. He describes a nightmare where masked bandits stormed the residence and murdered everyone in sight with unbelievable ruthlessness. Wang claims he only survived by cowering in the shadows with a servant while his neighbors perished. He paints a gruesome picture of the aftermath, insisting the entire courtyard was drenched in blood without a single survivor. The witness closes his eyes in distress, acting as if the memory of the horrifying sight still haunts him. Xiaoju cuts through the theatrics, asking exactly where a man who lived off his wife's dowry got so much silver afterward. Wang's eyes bulge in panic as he desperately tries to deny ever receiving any bribe. A flashback shows his former life of misery, where his first wife constantly berated him for his pathetic poverty. Yet, almost overnight, he transformed into a wealthy merchant surrounded by luxury and new companions. Xiaoju leans in, his gaze piercing through the witness's lies as he demands to know who paid for this lifestyle. The general slams the table as a blade is drawn to the man's throat, forcing Wang to admit an official named Wei Kang paid him for his testimony. Xiaoju scoffs at the convincing story, noting that the other witness involved didn't survive to enjoy their reward. The realization that he is likely next on the assassin's list sends Wang into a state of pure, sweating terror. With a cold ultimatum, the general offers him one last chance to save his life by telling the whole truth. Wang recalls the chilling warning he received years ago. Change the story and death would follow. Paralyzed by fear, the man collapses and begs for mercy, claiming he truly knows nothing more. Unmoved by the display, Xiaoju orders his men to take the witness away for a much harsher interrogation. Left alone, the general taps his desk, deducing that the mastermind who bribed the witnesses is the one responsible for the massacre. He questions why someone would target a humble physician whose only specialty was serving the imperial harem. A dark theory forms as he envisions the dangerous secrets and bloodied officials hidden within the palace walls. The gravity of the situation hits him as he realizes the case likely involves a forbidden imperial heir. A shadow guard interrupts his thoughts to report that Qingning is currently being escorted back to the clinic. Hearing her name, the general's stern expression softens with a flicker of genuine surprise at her visit. He immediately hands the remaining duties to his subordinate, eager to meet her as quickly as possible. Ziyuan watches him go with a knowing smile, amused by his master's inability to be apart from the madam. Meanwhile, King Ning's carriage makes its way through the crowded and busy streets of the capital. The peaceful journey is shattered when masked assassins suddenly ambush the carriage with swords drawn. Panic erupts as the guards scramble to defend the madam, while civilians flee the scene in terror. Steel clashes against steel, just inches away from where King Ning is trapped inside the wooden frame. Remaining calm under pressure, the doctor prepares her acupuncture needles to use as a last line of defense. The assassins are relentless, pushing past the outer perimeter of the carriage guards with lethal intent. One killer leaps onto the roof, preparing to strike at the target hidden within the carriage. Just as the situation turns dire, Xiaoju arrives like a storm, leaping onto the carriage to intercept the threat. Inside the dark interior, King Ning watches as the curtain is pulled back by a familiar, powerful hand. The general appears in the doorway, his eyes scanning for any sign of injury on her person. Seeing his face, the tension leaves King Ning's body as she realizes her protector has arrived. Xiaoju immediately pulls her into a firm, protective embrace to ensure she is finally safe from harm. Xiaoju stands tall as his subordinate delivers a grim report on the aftermath of the failed ambush. He pulls King Ning close, issuing a cold command to transport the surviving captives for a formal interrogation. Sensing the brutality to come, the general hesitates, worried that the sights inside the dungeon will be too much for the young doctor. King Ning meets his gaze with unwavering resolve, reminding him that a physician is no stranger to the sight of blood and suffering. Xiaoju offers a rare, gentle gesture of approval, realizing he's underestimated her mental fortitude. Inside the damp prison, the lead investigator admits that the assassins are hardened professionals who haven't uttered a single word. King Ning steps forward with a calm confidence, asking for the chance to break their silence using her own methods. She explains that her silver needles can bypass physical toughness by targeting specific nerves to compel the truth. Intrigued by her hidden edge, Xiaoju grants her full permission to proceed with the questioning. The heavy doors creak open as the group enters the cell where the masked killers are bound in heavy rope. One of the assassins sneers at King Ning, mocking her presence and doubting she has the stomach for real torture. Without a hint of hesitation, she drives a needle into a precise pressure point, instantly silencing his laughter. The man's face contorts in shock as the sudden, agonizing sensation hits him like a tidal wave. King Ning warns him that the pain will only intensify until it feels like thousands of insects are devouring him from the inside. As time passes, the sounds of the assassin's desperate struggling echo through the stone halls. Xiaoju's subordinate watches the scene in a cold sweat, terrified of ever getting on the lady's bad side. Xiaoju, however, looks on with pride, noting that her medical precision is far more effective than the clumsy tools of the Ministry of Justice. The subordinate can only shake his head, seeing that the general is completely captivated by his wife's ruthless efficiency. Finally, the lead assassin breaks, screaming for mercy and promising to reveal everything if the needles are removed. King Ning begins to withdraw her tools, her expression remaining professional and detached as she prepares to listen. The broken man confesses that a mysterious figure paid a fortune in gold to ensure the Qin family's young madam never made it home. King Ning demands more details, leaning in to catch every description of the mastermind who wants her dead. The assassin describes a man who hid behind a mask, but possessed an unusually fair and feminine appearance. A specific detail suddenly clicks in the killer's memory, causing him to gasp in realization. A flashback reveals the mastermind pointing with a dainty, raised pinky finger, a telltale sign of a high-ranking palace official. Xiaoju and King Ning share a heavy look, both concluding that their enemy is likely a powerful eunuch from the imperial court. The general leads her out of the darkness, promising to double her guard while he hunts down this palace viper. King Ning gives him a soft, trusting smile, knowing she is safe as long as he is by her side. Xiaoju remains on high alert, certain that the failure of this assassination will force the mastermind to act even more recklessly. Their discussion is interrupted when a guard arrives with a shocking update from the interrogation of Wang Weishen. The subordinate reveals a long-lost secret. The massacred Lin family actually had a second daughter who managed to escape. King Ning's breath hitches as the very secret she has spent years hiding is finally brought into the light. She stands in silence, torn between her loyalty to Xiaoju and the dangerous truth that she is the missing Lin daughter. The moon hangs high over the silent estate, masking the brewing palace intrigue. Inside her quarters, King Ning pauses her evening routine, startled by an unexpected visitor. Xiaoju updates her on the situation, revealing he's already positioned spies within the palace walls to monitor the enemy's every move. He steps closer, explaining that the mastermind's overconfidence will eventually lead to a fatal slip-up. Guiding her away from the drafty doorway, the general insists they continue their discussion in the warmth of the room. He reaches for a dry cloth, noticing she's neglected to take care of herself after her bath. With surprising tenderness, the battle-hardened duke begins to dry her damp hair for her. King Ning watches him, moved by how this powerful man pays attention to even her smallest needs. As he works, she is struck by a wave of guilt over the massive secrets she still keeps hidden from him. She wonders if her silence is a lack of trust or simply a habit born from years of survival. Her mind drifts back to their first meetings, when her only goal was using her position to solve her family's massacre. But looking at him now, she realizes her heart has shifted from cold calculation to genuine love. Xiaoju finishes his task and neatly hangs the towel back on the wooden rack. King Ning remains silent for a moment, her gaze heavy with unspoken emotions and newfound resolve. Noticing her intense stare, Xiaoju asks with a soft smile why she's looking at him that way. Without a word, she rises onto her tiptoes, closing the distance between them. In a rare moment of vulnerability, she offers him a gentle, appreciative kiss. Xiaoju's eyes widen, completely caught off guard by her sudden display of affection. He quickly recovers, pulling her into a protective and warm embrace. Sweeping her off her feet, he carries her toward the bed to rest for the night. He settles her down, promising to make her comfort and care his top priority this evening. His expression is focused and sincere as he reaffirms his total dedication to her. The heavy bed curtains are finally lowered, sealing the couple away from the rest of the world. Sunlight eventually breaks over the courtyard, signaling the start of a busy new day. King Ning makes her way to the breakfast table, joined by her ever-attentive maid. She reflects on the night before, realizing that the Duke's promises of being gentler didn't exactly match his intense energy. Her quiet morning is interrupted when Aunt Chen enters the room with a surprising guest. The older woman introduces a young boy named Moyu, a child the Duke rescued long ago. Despite his young age, Moyu is a martial arts prodigy tasked with being King Ning's personal protector from now on. King Ning freezes as she looks into Boy's eyes, seeing a hauntingly familiar gaze. A memory flashes of her eldest brother, Lin Feng, promising her treats before his life was tragically cut short. The math begins to click in her head as Moyu's age perfectly aligns with her brother's lost son. Aunt Chen notices the color drain from King Ning's face and asks if she's feeling all right. Brushing away a stray tear, King Ning lies and claims she's simply exhausted from a long night. She instructs Aunt Chen to house the boy nearby, keeping him close under the guise of daily routines. The young boy stares back with fierce loyalty, promising to use his strength to keep her safe. Aunt Chen beams, glad to see the usually stoic child taking such a quick liking to the madam. King Ning watches them leave, determined to uncover if this boy is truly her own flesh and blood. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Palace, the morning court session finally comes to an end. High-ranking officials filter out of the Grand Hall, unaware of the dark secrets moving through the corridors. A scout pulls Xiaoju aside to report that a young eunuch was found drowned in the lotus pond this morning. Xiaoju's eyes sharpen as he connects the victim to Imperial Consort Su, realizing the conspiracy against them goes deeper than he imagined. Deep within the palace walls, the residence of noble consort Su sits in deceptive tranquility. Inside, Chief Eunuch Sun Jufeng confirms that the loose end regarding their failed assassination has been permanently silenced. Consort Su sees with frustration, her son confined while her targets remain unscathed. The eunuch urges patience, insisting that a hasty move now would be a tactical error. However, the impending selection of new consorts threatens her son's path to the throne. She envisions a future where a new prince usurps the power she has fought so hard to secure. Her loyal subordinate maintains a professional focus while suggesting that any new heirs might face a very short life expectancy. A cold smile spreads across her face as she recalls the problems they have efficiently eliminated in the past. With burning ambition, she vows that no one will stand in the way of her son becoming the crown prince. At the Songtao Pavilion, King Ning manages the household affairs as the seasons begin to shift. Xiaoju arrives with a grim update regarding the recent developments inside the palace. King Ning looks up, sensing the weight of the information he carries. He reveals that the eunuch from Consort Su's palace was poisoned, confirming a deliberate cover-up. Xiaoju assures her that he has already placed the consort's residence under heavy surveillance. He shifts the focus to her well-being, gently insisting that she take a break for lunch. A hearty meal is laid out, providing a brief moment of normalcy amidst the chaos. While they eat, King Ning inquires about the origins of the exceptionally talented Moyu. Xiaoju explains that he discovered the boy years ago, in a small town north of the capital. He recounts the day his troops stumbled upon a grim scene on the roadside. Beside a man slain by precise blade wounds lay a helpless, wailing infant. Recognizing the child's potential, the general decided to take him in rather than leave him to fate. Moyu was sent to train under a master, showing an early aptitude for the martial arts. As she listens, King Ning realizes the timing and the nature of the wounds match the Lin family massacre. Her eyes widen as the pieces of the puzzle finally click into place. The shock causes her spoon to slip from her hand, clattering into her bowl. Xiaoju immediately reaches out, checking her temperature with genuine concern for her health. Overwhelmed by the revelation and his kindness, she leans into his steady presence. He offers a small, supportive smile, glad to see her finding comfort in him. The next day arrives with the fresh promise of spring as the estate undergoes its seasonal transition. King Ning assumes her role as the lady of the house, distributing tally tokens for the spring budget. Steward Lu steps forward to receive the tokens, ready to execute his professional duties. The staff bows and departs to begin the day's extensive preparations. As the steward walks through the courtyard, he passes by Moyu. He stops dead in his tracks, his face paling as he recognizes a haunting resemblance in the boy's features. His hands tremble so violently that the wooden tokens scatter across the stone floor. Moyu stops to help the shaken man, oblivious to the storm he has just triggered. King Ning observes the interaction from the doorway, Noting the steward's uncharacteristic loss of composure, she questions the boy, but Moyu is just as confused by the man's sudden reaction. A new suspicion takes root as Kingning wonders if the steward holds a secret connection to her family's past. Steward Lu flees the scene in a state of utter panic, his mind racing with a terrifying realization. He slams his hands against the wooden gates, desperate to shut out the ghosts of the past. Looking back, he realizes that seeing Mo Yu's face has unearthed memories of a massacre he thought was buried 11 years ago. In a chilling flashback, masked assassins cut down the innocent during a night of absolute carnage. The estate is bathed in moonlight as the silent slaughter continues unabated. The killers confer in the shadows, confirming that the bloody work is nearly finished. One assassin breaks out in a cold sweat, fearing for his life because a 1-year-old infant has somehow vanished from the scene. Back in the present, Lu trembles as he realizes Mo Yu is the perfect age to be the survivor of the Lin family. He takes a slow sip of tea, his mind calculating a way to confirm the boy's true identity. With a look of murderous intent, he vows to eliminate the boy the moment his suspicions are proven correct. 2 months later, the scene shifts to a grand celebration following the results of the imperial examinations. The Lu family gathers for a lavish dinner to honor the second young master's success. The matriarch raises her glass with a proud smile, celebrating the great honor brought to their house. Lu Hangji accepts the praise with a flushed face, though his eyes betray a deep-seated resentment. He drains his cup in one aggressive motion, letting the alcohol fuel his growing bitterness. Jingyu maintains a protective stance over Kingning, urging his younger brother to control his drinking. Hangji glares at them, consumed by the feeling that he will always be in his brother's shadow. His vision blurs as he loses his grip on reality, his mind drifting back to what he believes was stolen from him. The table falls into a stunned silence as Hangji begins a delusional rant about who Kingning was meant to marry. He stands up abruptly, clutching his chest as he demands that his brother return the woman he loves. His parents look on in horror, unable to believe the shameful display unfolding before their guests. Kingning watches the scene with a cold, piercing gaze, her patience for the drunkard completely exhausted. Jingyu slams his hand down in fury, demanding to know how his brother can be so utterly shameless. Rising from the table, Jingyu declares that he and Kingning will move out to escape this toxic environment. The duke's face contorts with rage at the thought of his family being torn apart by scandal. The mother desperately tries to smooth things over, dismissing the outburst as mere drunken nonsense. The father towers over Hangji, threatening to banish him to the ancestral graves if he doesn't apologize immediately. Hangji offers a hollow apology, raising another cup while his true feelings remain hidden behind a mask of wine. Kingning strikes back with a sharp correction, pointing out that he has confused her tastes with those of his former flame. The young man freezes, realizing he has just accidentally exposed his secret affair to the entire room. The duke's expression hardens as he realizes his son's deception started long before the engagement. The mother looks on in despair, knowing that this celebratory night has ended in total ruin. With a final, stern command, the father points toward the exit, ordering his son to reflect on his sins at the ancestral hall. Later that night, Jinyu provides a quiet moment of support for Kingning within the safety of their room. He gently places a hand on her head, concerned that the evening's events have taken a toll on her. Kingning looks away, her eyes filling with a sadness she can no longer hide. Jinyu stops in his tracks, shocked to see a rare tear tracing a path down her cheek. He draws her close, asking what could possibly be causing her such deep heartbreak. Wiping her eyes, Kingning admits that the family's fracturing reminds her of the loved ones she will never see again. Jinju holds her tightly, offering his unwavering promise to be the family she needs from this day forward. She leans into his chest, her heart heavy with the weight of the apology she hasn't yet voiced. Looking up at him, she feels a crushing sense of guilt for the secrets she is still forced to keep. Gu Kingning's eyes flutter open as she slowly wakes from a heavy, wine-induced slumber. She finds Jinyu resting comfortably beside her, watching her with a gentle and knowing smile. Grabbing her head in discomfort, she lets out a soft groan at the lingering effects of the previous night's festivities. Jinyu reaches out to tenderly caress her face, advising her to be more careful with her drinking in the future. He lets out a soft chuckle, teasing her about how unusually affectionate she became while she was intoxicated. A brief memory flashes through her mind of her pulling him close, her usual walls completely gone in her drunken state. Blushing deeply, she covers her mouth in total embarrassment, mortified by her own lack of restraint. Jingyu pats her head affectionately, reminding her that such intimacy is only natural between a husband and wife. However, his gaze turns sharp as he considers the danger she would be in if she let a secret slip to the wrong person. He helps her sit up, noting that the morning is already well underway, and it is time to start their day. Later, as they prepare to head out, Jinyu holds her close while planning a quiet lunch together for later. Kingning explains she'll be heading to the study first to look over the new travel journals her father recently acquired. She reaches out to carefully adjust the ties on his robes, ensuring his appearance is perfectly in order. With a modest smile, she presents him with a sachet she hand-embroidered specifically for him. Jingyu looks down at the gift with genuine appreciation, clearly touched by her unexpected thoughtfulness. As he gazes into her eyes, he silently vows to wait until she is finally ready to share the heavy secrets he knows she is hiding. Upon arriving at the pavilion, Kingning is met by Steward Lu, who offers her a formal greeting. She maintains a calm and regal composure, stating her intent to browse the library's latest editions. The steward bows politely, gesturing for her to follow him deeper into the study area. Turning to her young protector, she tells Moyu he doesn't need to follow her inside and should go play nearby. As she walks away, she catches Steward Lu casting a lingering, highly suspicious glance at the young boy. She politely dismisses the steward once inside, insisting she prefers to read in solitude without any attendance. From the shadows of the library, she watches Lu leave, her suspicions about his true nature growing by the second. Qingning narrows her eyes, determined to bait the steward into a mistake so she can finally uncover his role in her family's tragedy. Outside, Steward Lu approaches Moyu, who is quietly occupied by the garden greenery. He crouches down with a feigned friendliness, questioning the boy about his origins and his specific accent. Moyu shoots him a sharp, annoyed look, clearly having zero interest in entertaining the old man's questions. The steward is momentarily stunned by the child's cold and defiant demeanor, which is far beyond his years. From a distance, Qingning keeps a watchful eye on the interaction, noting every detail of Lu's prying behavior. She signals her maid to intervene immediately before the steward can push the boy any further. Lu continues to hover over Moyu, pressing him for details on exactly where the young lord originally found him. The maid calls out Moyu's name, breaking the tension and drawing the steward's attention away from the child. Lu stands up as the maid approaches, and she claims that the young madam needs Moyu back for lunch preparations. She apologizes for Moyu's behavior, acting as if he is merely a mischievous child to lower Lu's guard. The maid gently pats Moyu's head, emphasizing how lucky the boy is to have been rescued by the young lord. Sensing an opening, Lu asks with forced casualness where exactly this rescue took place. The maid innocently reveals that Moyu was found 50 miles from the capital, next to a man who died from fatal sword wounds. The color drains from Lu's face as he realizes this confirms Moyu is indeed the son of Lin Feng. Knowing Moyu's martial skills are formidable, Lu realizes he cannot eliminate the boy alone and will need an accomplice. That evening, a scout reports to Jingyu and Qingning that noble consort Su's head eunuch has secretly slipped out of the palace. Jingyu's expression hardens, realizing that their high-stakes game of shadows is finally moving into the next phase. He rises from his seat, telling Qingning he must go personally to investigate this suspicious late-night meeting. He reassures her with a confident look, promising to return safely before disappearing into the night. Under the cover of darkness, the eunuch Sun Jifeng cautiously checks his surroundings before entering a secluded building. High above on the rooftops, a masked Jingyu watches the target with predatory focus. With the grace of a phantom, he leaps across the tiles, tracking the eunuch's every move with silent precision. Inside the meeting spot, Sun Jifeng complains about the difficulty of evading the many eyes watching within the palace. Peering through the roof, Jingyu is shocked to see that the man the eunuch is meeting is none other than Steward Lu. Steward Lu begs his secret contact for help, desperate to eliminate Moyu before his own past catches up to him. From the shadows, Jingyu listens in disbelief as he realizes the steward is plotting a cold-blooded murder. Eunuch Sun warns that with the third prince under arrest, they cannot afford any more reckless mistakes. Terrified for his life, Lu reminds his brother that he cannot simply stand by and watch him fall. The eunuch dismisses his fears, arguing that Moyu was just an infant and couldn't possibly remember the truth. Sweating profusely, the steward suggests using the same poison on the boy that they once used to target Jinyu. Sun immediately shuts down the idea, refusing to risk their position any further. He reminds Lu that they barely managed to cover up the last poisoning and must remain low to avoid stirring more trouble. With a final warning to stay quiet at the duki, the eunuch turns to leave the trembling steward behind. The conspirator slips away into the night, unaware that their secret meeting has been compromised. High above on the roof, Jingyu is consumed by rage as he finally discovers the identity of his poisoner. Steward Lu stalks through the courtyard, cursing his brother's refusal to help him secure his future. His path is suddenly blocked by Jingyu, who steps out of the moonlight with a gaze as sharp as a blade. Jingyu reveals his utter disappointment, having never suspected a 20-year veteran of the household could be so treacherous. Panic washes over the steward's face as he realizes his decades of deception have finally crumbled. Before he can even think of escaping, Jingyu's men swarm in to subdue the traitor in a flurry of calculated strikes. With the steward firmly in custody, Jingyu orders his men to take him to the secret chamber for a rigorous interrogation. Back at the manor, Qingning is stunned to learn that the enemy was hiding in plain sight all along. Jingyu explains the deep-seated connection between the steward and the palace, confirming Moyu is the ultimate target. Despite the pressure, the steward remains stubbornly silent, refusing to divulge any more secrets to his captors. Qingning shakes her head, knowing her usual needle techniques won't work on a man with such a hardened will. Jingyu looks for any alternative, unwilling to let the truth remain buried behind the traitor's silence. Qingning suggests a powerful hypnotic pill from the divine physician valley that can break even the strongest mind. The vision of the steward bound in heavy chains illustrates the mental prison the medicine is about to create. Determined to get answers, Qingning prepares to use the rare medicine to finally crack the case. Inside the dimly lit interrogation room, Steward Lu is tied securely as the couple prepares for the procedure. They force the hypnotic pill into his mouth, leaving him no choice but to face his hidden past. The traitor swallows the drug, his resistance fading as the chemicals begin to cloud his mind. As the medicine takes full effect, the steward's expression goes blank, leaving him vulnerable to questioning. King Ning wastes no time leaning in to ask if he recognizes the boy he tried so hard to kill. She notes that even under the drug's influence, the man's inner strength makes him a difficult subject to break. Finally, the steward confesses that Moyu's face is a haunting reminder of someone he murdered years ago. A chilling silence fills the room as he prepares to name the ghost that continues to haunt his conscience. The name Lin Feng leaves his lips, instantly triggering a painful vision of King Ning's lost brother. Jingyu watches her closely, sensing the profound and sudden impact that name has on her soul. When pressed further, the steward identifies Lin Feng as the grandson of the doomed Lin family. Jingyu realizes with horror that the man before them was a key player in the massacre 11 years prior. With tears of fury in her eyes, King Ning demands to know who gave the final order to destroy her bloodline. The truth finally emerges as the steward names Consort Su as the architect of the bloody tragedy. Overwhelmed by the memory of her family, King Ning weeps as she finally holds the key to her ultimate revenge. King Ning wipes away her tears, the crushing weight of her family's tragic history finally coming to the surface. Lu Jingyu and King Ning sit across from the bound steward Lu, demanding the truth about why the Lin family was targeted. King Ning's knuckles turn white as she grips her dress, recalling how her ancestors spent generations saving lives only to be met with slaughter. Jingyu's eyes narrow with a cold, sharp fury as he realizes the imperial physician must have uncovered a secret that cost his entire lineage their lives. The traitorous steward hangs his head in shame, claiming he was merely a tool following orders he didn't fully understand. Jingyu leans in, his voice dropping to a dangerous low as he shifts the interrogation to the poisoning that nearly claimed his own life. The steward finally cracks under the pressure, naming Imperial Consort Su as the mastermind behind the slow-acting toxin. A flashback reveals the steward meeting a shadowy agent in the dead of night to receive the lethal substance. He examines the small vial, fully aware that a sudden death for Jingyu would bring immediate suspicion upon himself. The agent explains that the poison will slowly sap Jingyu's strength, ensuring he falls on the battlefield where no one would ever suspect foul play. Seizing his only opportunity, the steward waits for Jingyu to pay his respects to the Duke, before slipping the poison into a fresh cup of tea. In the memory, a young Jingyu drinks the tainted tea, completely unaware that his trusted servant has just sealed his fate. Back in the present, Jingyu ponders why the consort would be so desperate to eliminate someone who has no claim to the throne. The steward shakes his head, revealing that even his own brother warned him the truth was far too dangerous to know. Jingyu rests his hand on his chin, wondering how his mere existence could possibly threaten the third prince's path to power. The scene shifts to the quiet, moonlit rooftops of the Songtao Pavilion as the night deepens. Inside, Jingyu gently instructs King Ning to close her eyes so he can tend to her. He carefully presses a cool cloth to her face, showing a rare moment of tenderness after the intense interrogation. A maid stands by with a basin of water, witnessing the quiet bond between the two as they recover from the day's revelations. King Ning looks away, lost in thought as she worries that her intense reaction during the questioning gave her secret away. Jingyu advises her to get some rest, unaware of the internal conflict raging within his companion. King Ning remembers the terrifying night her family was destroyed and the desperate need to protect young Moyu at any cost. She suddenly grabs Jingyu's hands, her eyes searching his for a sign of understanding. Jingyu places a reassuring hand on her head, telling her that he trusts her and that she doesn't need to explain anything until she's ready. King Ning looks up at him, deeply moved by his unwavering support and patience. Internally, Jingyu admits he's already deduced her connection to the Lin family and knows she seeks vengeance. He holds her face gently, silently vowing to find the irrefutable evidence needed to bring Consort Su to justice for her. King Ning leans into his touch, realizing that he has chosen to help her fulfill her lifelong wish without forcing a confession. She finds solace in his embrace, feeling the heavy weight of her burdens lighten just a little. The next morning, Moyu approaches King Ning with a look of genuine concern, noticing her red-rimmed eyes. The young boy gazes at her with deep affection, saddened by the thought that he might have done something wrong to upset her. King Ning offers him a sweet treat, remembering how her family once cared for others just as she cares for him now. When night falls again, she calls out to Moyu to come inside so he doesn't catch a chill in the evening air. She presents him with a set of new silk clothes, wanting to ensure he stays comfortable as the weather warms. Overwhelmed with emotion, King Ning dabs at her eyes while assuring the boy he has done nothing but good. She places a gentle hand on Moyu's head, telling him that neither of them has a family anymore. With a tearful smile, she proposes that from now on, they become a family together within the pavilion. Moyu's face lights up with pure joy as he happily accepts the promise of a new home. King Ning closes her eyes and smiles, finding a moment of peace in the hope that one day, her true family name will finally be restored. A few days later, Jingyu is buried in his studies, looking particularly somber as he pores over his scrolls. King Ning enters the room and observes him from a distance, noticing his unusual and intense preoccupation with military texts. She stands silently, her expression filled with concern as she reflects on his recently withdrawn behavior. A maid pulls her aside to whisper the heavy news that the death anniversary of Jingyu's birth mother is fast approaching. Kingning is stunned by the revelation, wondering why Jingyu hadn't shared such a significant personal burden with her. A tragic flashback reveals a young, grieving Jingyu crying at his mother's bedside as she passes away following a difficult labor. The maid explains that ever since that day, Jingyu has carried the weight of self-blame, losing sleep every year as the anniversary draws near. Looking back at him, Kingning realizes the true source of his exhaustion and decides she must take action to help him find peace. She assures the maid that she will prepare a special calming incense blend to ensure the young master finally gets some much-needed rest. Later that evening, a light and pleasant fragrance begins to fill the room as the new medicinal incense is lit. Relaxing together, Jingyu immediately notices the change in the atmosphere and asks if she adjusted the scent. He reaches out to hold her hand, deeply moved by her thoughtful and dedicated care for his well-being. Jingyu then transitions to professional matters, discussing the ongoing interrogation of the imprisoned steward Lu. Kingning listens intently, her mind already working on a clever solution to keep their enemies from becoming suspicious of the steward's absence. She proposes forging a letter in the steward's own handwriting to trick the opposition into believing he has simply relocated to a country estate. Jingyu looks at her with genuine admiration, realizing her plan will allow them to gather more evidence while maintaining total secrecy. He pulls her close, declaring that having such a brilliant and strategic partner by his side is the greatest blessing of his life. As they settle in for the night, the calming medicinal incense finally takes full effect, causing Jingyu to let out a weary yawn. He drifts into a deep, peaceful slumber, his face finally showing a sense of long-awaited tranquility. Kingning watches over him with a soft, affectionate gaze as he finally achieves a restful sleep. Meanwhile, at the palace, a servant delivers an urgent message to Consort Su regarding the Duke's household movements. Consort Su reads the forged letter with a sharp, calculating eye, questioning if they are losing their vital contact within the residence. Her subordinate quickly reassures her that despite the move, they still have multiple trusted spies embedded to watch the Duke's every move. The consort's face contorts with cold rage as she vows to eliminate Jingyu before he can ever threaten her son's path to power. The servant suggests that the upcoming royal hunt provides the perfect opportunity for a fatal and untraceable accident. Su approves the deadly plan, ordering him to find a way to eliminate Jingyu without leaving a single trace of foul play. Back at the estate, the entire household is buzzing with activity as they prepare for the departure to the royal hunting grounds. Jingyu finds Kingning in the kitchen and questions why she is personally overseeing the cooking during such a hectic time. She presents him with a bowl of soup, explaining that she added specific herbs to further nourish his body and promote restful sleep. Jingyu takes a sip and is highly impressed by how she perfectly balanced the medicinal herbs without making the meal bitter. Kingning smiles brightly, encouraged by his appetite and glad to see him recovering his physical strength. He quickly finishes the rest of the bowl, feeling the revitalizing and healthy effects of her special recipe. With a tender gesture, she reaches out with a cloth to help him clean up after the nourishing meal. Jingyu looks into her eyes with deep intensity, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the support she provides. He gently takes her hand, expressing how much he values her presence and the care she puts into every detail of their life. He leans in close, maintaining a strictly professional and appreciative focus on her as they share a moment of quiet connection. Jingyu jokingly asks if the medicinal soup was meant to have such a strong energizing effect on his spirits. Kingning blushes at his playful teasing, insisting that the recipe was intended only for simple health and recovery. He then sweeps her up in a supportive hold, deciding it is time for them to head to their quarters for some well-earned rest. The moon hangs high over the peaceful estate as the night deepens into a quiet calm. After a long and restorative rest, the two remain close, with Jingyu noting that her medicinal cooking was indeed quite effective for his health. Kingning looks up with a playful pout, insisting the soup was definitely not supposed to have such a lasting effect. Jingyu holds her protectively, promising to take her somewhere special tomorrow as they continue their preparations for the journey ahead. The next day, the group arrives at the quiet outskirts cemetery to pay their respects to the departed. With a heavy heart, Jingyu carefully places incense before his mother's grave, the smoke rising into the morning air. He reaches out to touch the cold stone, reflecting on how his mother tragically passed away during his own birth. A flash of deep-seated regret and longing flickers in his eyes as he realizes he can only remember her face through a painted portrait. Watching him from the side, Kingning feels a wave of sympathy, knowing the isolation he endured growing up under a hostile stepmother. Sensing her warmth, Jingyu takes her hand firmly, finding the strength he needs in her silent support. A rare, gentle smile touches his lips, finding a moment of genuine peace in her presence. An attendant steps forward to prepare the kneeling pads, signaling that it is time for the formal rites. Together, the couple bows low to the earth, honoring the woman who gave Jinyu life. As they rise, Jinyu looks at his wife with profound gratitude, vowing in his heart to protect the woman who has become his greatest blessing. Kingning speaks softly to the headstone, promising the late mother that she will take the utmost care of Jinyu from this day forward. Witnessing their sincere bond, the old attendant is moved to tears, seeing that the young master has finally found true happiness. In a moment of spiritual serenity, a vision of the late Madame Tai seems to watch over them with a peaceful, approving gaze. The scene shifts to the night before the royal hunt, where the imperial hunting palace stands tall under the moonlight. Kingning enters her assigned quarters, her mind already racing with the logistical details of the upcoming event. She remains on high alert, knowing consort Su will likely use the chaos of the hunt to stage an accident. Taking no chances, she instructs her maid to help her perform a thorough inspection of their surroundings. The servants begin a meticulous search, overturning cushions and checking every hidden corner for signs of tampering. Kingning leans in to carefully scent the incense burner, ensuring no paralyzing drugs or poisons have been mixed into the coals. Despite their efforts, the maid reports that everything in the room appears to be perfectly standard and safe. Even so, an unshakable feeling of dread lingers in Kingning's chest as she stares into the darkness. Morning light breaks over the grand imperial stand, marking the official start of the prestigious hunt. The emperor leads the procession on horseback, flanked by his sons and the high-ranking nobility. Before departing, Jinyu catches Kingning's eye and offers a determined nod, signaling he is ready for whatever comes. Kingning watches the riders closely, surprised to see the sixth prince among the elite participants. Nearby noblewomen whisper that the sixth prince is only there as a placeholder since the third prince remains under house arrest. Kingning recalls the rumors describing him as a talentless wastrel, with no hope of ever claiming the throne. However, as Qin Zuanling gallops past, his powerful form on the horse suggests a man who has been hiding his true strength for years. With a sudden command, the hunting party spurs their mounts forward, disappearing into the dense tree line. A cloud of dust settles over the empty courtyard as the sound of thundering hooves fades into the distance. High on the balcony, a eunuch leans in to whisper a chilling confirmation to Consort Su. Everything is in place. A predatory smirk crosses the consort's face as she anticipates the news of Jinyu's grisly end. Spotting the suspicious interaction from below, Kingning's blood runs cold as she realizes the trap has been sprung. Panic begins to set in, her mind racing through the countless ways they might try to kill him in the wild. When she sees other noblewomen preparing to follow the trail, a desperate plan begins to form in her mind. She realizes she can use the lady's participation as a cover to enter the woods and warn her husband. Turning to Moyu, she commands him to prepare their horses immediately so they can give chase. The two of them ride like the wind, pushing their horses to the limit as they plunge into the thick foliage. Kingning scans the vast, shadows-filled forest, her heart hammering against her ribs as she searches for Jinyu. Suddenly, the horses shriek in terror as a massive white tiger leaps from the brush, blocking their path. The beast unhinges its jaws, letting out a deafening, bone-chilling roar that echoes through the trees. The massive white tiger prowls forward through the sun-drenched forest, its predatory gaze locked onto its prey. From the safety of the trees, Moyu draws her bow with focused precision, prepared to strike the beast down. Moyu desperately urges her lady to flee immediately, insisting that she can outrun the creature on her own. Kingning realizes that her presence only hinders her protector, and the only way for both of them to survive is for her to bring back reinforcements. As the tiger prepares to pounce, Moyu shouts one final, commanding order to go. Kingning steels her heart with a determined look, promising herself that she will return with help before it's too late. She sprints away into the dense foliage, leaving Moyu behind to face the monster's fury. Her feet pound against the forest floor as she desperately searches the greenery for any sign of the hunting party. Panic begins to set in as she realizes she's been running for a long time without encountering a single soul. The chilling realization hits her that she may have wandered far deeper into the dangerous woods than she ever intended. Wiping away sweat and tears, she knows that every wasted second puts Moyu's life in even greater peril. Suddenly, the sound of low voices nearby forces her to freeze in her tracks and listen intently. Peeking through the leaves, she spots a royal rider meeting with a mysterious, masked figure in a secluded clearing. Her heart sinks into her chest as she recognizes the man on horseback as the deceptive sixth prince. She listens in horror as the prince confirms the final details of the lethal assassination ambush intended for the next day. Trembling, she covers her mouth to muffle her breathing, knowing she'll be killed instantly if her location is discovered. The prince commands the assassin to make the final preparations before he rides off to rejoin his father. She watches from the shadows as the sound of galloping hooves finally fades into the distance. Clutching her chest, Kingning exhales a breath of pure relief that the immediate threat of the conspirators has passed. Her relief is short-lived as the blood-stained white tiger suddenly emerges from the brush, having tracked her scent all the way out there. The beast lunges with a ferocious roar, forcing Kingning to scramble back and grab a fallen branch to defend herself. She fights with every ounce of strength she has, knowing that survival is the only way to clear her family's name. In what she fears are her final moments, a vision of Jinyu appears, reminding her of the future she isn't ready to give up on. The tiger pins her to the earth with its massive weight, its jaws closing in as Qingning closes her eyes in tearful resignation. A sudden arrow whistles through the air, and Jinyu stands there like a divine protector with his bow drawn. Qingning looks up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes, barely able to believe that the man she loves arrived just in time. Jinyu quickly moves to her side and pulls her into a firm, protective embrace as she finally lets her tears of relief fall. Jinyu finds Qingning in the woods, holding her tight as he explains he brought reinforcements just in time. Qingning's eyes widen with panic as she realizes Moyu is still in grave danger. She desperately explains that Moyu stayed behind to face the white tiger alone so she could escape. Jinyu gently consoles her, revealing that he already found Moyu and sent men to bring him back safely. Relieved, Qingning allows him to support her as they prepare to leave the dangerous forest behind. Once they are safely back in their quarters, Jinyu stays by her side, urging her to avoid tomorrow's hunt. However, Qingning's mind is racing, convinced that the tiger attack was a cold-blooded trap. Jinyu listens intently, his expression sharpening as he realizes she has uncovered something sinister. She points out that while the first encounter might have been luck, the second was far too targeted. Qingning suddenly realizes that the scent must have been planted on her clothes or person. She asks Jinyu to secretly gather burnt incense ashes from the other officials' rooms for comparison. Outside, the palace grounds remain quiet, unaware of the investigation happening within. Jinyu returns quickly, laying out several samples of ash for her to inspect. Qingning carefully examines each one, her senses heightened as she looks for any discrepancy. Her eyes flash with realization as she identifies the anomaly in the samples. She confirms that while the other rooms used standard incense, theirs was uniquely tampered with. The orchid-scented incense in their room was a specific lure designed for a predator. She deduces that the white tiger was meticulously trained to hunt anyone carrying that specific aroma. Standing close to Jinyu, she delivers the chilling truth. The tiger was actually meant to kill him. The weight of the conspiracy settles in as she stares at him with grim determination. She reveals seeing Sun Jifeng whispering to Consort Su, confirming their hand in the orchestration. Jinyu pulls her in, his voice thick with emotion as he begs her never to risk herself again. Qingning looks up at him, knowing she would sacrifice everything to keep him safe. Jinyu realizes just how much he means to her, his heart swelling with a new sense of duty. He vows to be her shield, promising that he will never let her face such danger alone again. They sit together to strategize, knowing they need more than just theories to expose the truth. Jinyu notes that Consort Su couldn't have acted alone while confined to the palace. They realize the mastermind behind the Lin family massacre is likely still pulling the strings. Qingning whispers the name of the sixth prince, her suspicions finally aligning. She tells Jinyu about the secret meeting she witnessed between the prince and a mysterious man in black. Jinyu's face hardens as he realizes the target of the upcoming assassination is the emperor himself. They envision the sixth prince seizing the throne by force if his lethal plan succeeds. Later that evening, the royal court gathers for a grand banquet to celebrate the hunt. The emperor presides over the feast, encouraging his ministers to relax and enjoy the night. Jinyu and Qingning maintain a professional focus at their table, though their minds are elsewhere. Consort Su watches them from across the room, fuming that her plan failed to eliminate them. Her accomplice whispers that the tracks have been covered and no evidence remains. She takes a satisfied sip of her drink, believing she is still one step ahead. The emperor catches Jingyu's eye, acknowledging his presence during the celebration. Exhausted from the day, the emperor announces he will not be participating in tomorrow's hunt. The sixth prince freezes, realizing his entire plan to kill the emperor during the hunt has just evaporated. He grips his cup so tightly his knuckles turn white, his window of opportunity closing fast. With a look of pure malice, the prince decides that if he can't strike tomorrow, he will finish it tonight.